2026 Keon Sports Draft Show. I am your host, Vince McKee. Joining me tonight, as usual, Dom Clary, Brandon Sodar, and behind the camera, Brandon Marvell. It is going to be a fun night tonight. We are really looking forward to this opening night. And you know what? Our draft guru is with us. Don't worry, you might not see him here on camera, but you're going to see him in that little box there, the one and only Cole McDaniel. Guys, I cannot believe it. I felt like it was just last night, sitting there watching the Seahawks and the Patriots in probably one of the most boring Super Bowls I've ever seen. But hey, Seahawks were victorious. Felt like I, blinked my eyes, sent out a Valentine, went to the St. Patrick's Day parade, and the next thing I know, we are sitting here talking draft. It feels like it was just yesterday. Happy to have you here. Don, we're going to start with you as we come into this night. Your hometown, Pittsburgh. That's why we're going to start with you tonight, my man. Your hometown, Pittsburgh, on the national spotlight, the draft. What does that mean to you as a lifelong Steelers fan to know that they get this experience tonight?
I mean, it's almost like a double-edged sword, right? Because there's certain things that kind of gone on with the city being renovated where they're taking down the trees that I remember, swinging off of going to Pitt games and Steeler games, of them, tearing down certain stuff that used to be there growing up, of removing light poles and signs and moving over statues to make this more convenient. So on that side, it sucks because I've been going to Pitt games since I was maybe 3 years old, Steeler games around the same age as well. But it's also cool that everyone gets to see how beautiful the city is, how photogenic the city is, that people from all over the country, maybe for the first time in their lives, get to see why so many people not just call Pittsburgh home, but also claim it. This, people like me who are not actually from the city. I'm glad that this beautiful town gets to get spotlighted, similar to what we feel here in Cleveland, where it is a hidden gem that gets stitched on all the time. Oh, it smells, it's a bad city, it's dirty, there's nothing there, there's nothing to do. But there is, and it's being showcased. I wish we had a better showcase here in Cleveland about, 5 years ago at this point when we had the draft, but COVID kind of harpened that a little bit.
COVID kind of killed it a bit. Yep.
But I'm glad that and also it rained the entire time. I'm glad that Pittsburgh gets to have the spotlight. I've seen nothing but positive stuff from reporters, from fans. It could be possibly a better location. Everyone's kind of jam-packed there on the North Shore, but it's working out. I'm glad people are experiencing a beautiful place that I claim to be my home despite not being.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I remember that time in 2021 so fond with Cleveland because I thought kind of to myself really the same thing. Like, hey, people from not around here now have a reason to travel here for something, and they got to see a little bit of the downtown area and so on. And it's pretty cool. Pittsburgh, been there quite a few times in my adult life. I actually like it a lot. I'm a big Pittsburgh Pirates fan, just to kind of take everybody behind the, curtain here for a second. It is a great city, blue collar, kind of how I grew up, blue collar. So very, very cool. We were texting a little bit this morning with Cole McDaniel about some of his favorite traditions coming into the draft season, and we're going to talk to him in a second about that. But Brandon, as we prepare for tonight, is there anything you did besides just studying film, and we know you study a lot of it, but do you have any kind of fun traditions coming into tonight?
Coming into tonight, I don't know because I'm always working, right?
Yeah. I know the feeling.
I even had it again, this is year 5, 6 at least we've been doing this. And every year I still get, hey, what are you guys doing for the draft? Are we going to get together? Are we going to drink? No, man, we got this going on.
Thanks for paying attention, guys. It means a lot. Right,
so it's not like a particular tradition, but the lead up, it really does kind of feel like Christmas when you get there, right? You do all this prep, and then all of a sudden the last day, you really got to start digging in, seeing those last-second mock drafts, those last-second podcasts, everything, because then that's when the leaks start to happen. That's when the cracks start to kind of show a little bit, and all of a sudden, players that you weren't even necessarily thinking about in certain spots or even certain rounds are starting to make the jumps, and things start to kind of fall in place a little bit more, especially a year like this where the quarterbacks are not prominent. We're realistically going to have 1, 2 at the absolute most in round 1.
I'd agree.
And the draft legitimately starts at 2, that when that information starts coming out, that's when it gets exciting. And I really feel at this point that we're still flying blind into this thing. I mean, 6 different teams with 2 round picks, or 2 first-round picks.
Right.
We still don't know what the Jets necessarily are even going to do. At that second spot, we probably know the position, but not the player at this point. So, again, not a specific tradition, man, but when we get to draft day and that months and months and months of preparation and studying up on these draft classes, like everything kind of culminates, and then weekend ends and it's like, all right, what's 2027 look like?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how that works. I kind of do the same thing with high school football sometimes, where I get back that first Monday or Tuesday and I start thinking, like, I wonder what schools are going to be dominant next year. Who could repeat? So I totally get it. Cole, we're going to kind of bounce this to you here for a second, and it's interesting to me because we have a lot of time before we get to the first pick. So, I want everybody to kind of take their time before we get to the pre-show question here, or the pre-draft question. But, Cole, this is something you and I started together in 2020, right? And this was before we even knew there was going to be a season, because this was COVID. I want to say it was like 3 weeks old, 3 or 4 weeks old, and we didn't know anything, right? So we're like, hey, but they're still going to have a draft. I mean, Roger Goodell did it from his house. And Cole and I were like, hey, let's do this. He was in Columbus at the time, ironically close to Columbus where he lives now. And I'm here, and we were doing it through Podbean, and it was just, hey, that was a blast. It was a great distraction for one night. But that was 2020, right? So April of 2020. So to answer your question, Brandon, we've actually been doing this, Cole and I at least, this would be our 7th year.
I was there that COVID year. Yeah, I believe Michael Rogers as well.
Yeah.
Correct, right? There's a 4-man show.
7 years, we've been doing this as a group and really been having a blast with it. Cole, coming into tonight, what would you say your, not just of our show, but in general, like, what are some of your favorite draft memories?
Well, I think, by the way, great to be joining you guys here, even though it's virtually. Vince, you did a good job of throwing it back when it first started, and it was on Podbean, and we were doing it remotely, right, and getting to call in. So then we've had the expansion of these draft shows, and then it went to YouTube, and it's been a blast this whole time. And shout out to SP for being able to really get everything established for me to still be able to call in, still be able to be a part of this. The draft shows just continued to grow. It's really been a blast every step of the way. So I will say this: you were talking about traditions with SP just a minute ago. The thing is, I always, after all the prep, start to get a little antsy the night before. It does feel a little bit like Christmas Eve. That's why I have to watch the movie Draft Day. Is it the greatest movie ever? It is absolutely not. There's plenty of flaws with that movie. However, once a year, it's still good to turn it on, get a little bit of that, draft craving the night before, satisfy that itch as we're a night before the draft. Like I said, and then here we are, and we get a couple days of just picks, keep going through it, and we have a lot of fun rattling off what the picks are and what we think is going to happen for the team. So ultimately, I can't think of necessarily any specific draft memories where we've had so many. There are always some funny things that we can look back at, right? The skating rink thing, is this a roller skating party? And
Tony Khan with the guy had a neck brace from a wrestling event the day before, and you got mad at me and Vince for
what a trooper.
Yeah, oh, we were hollering.
Well, and then we gave Dom the recliner that one year. He's just lounging back, and I'm wedged to this tiny space off to the side with all the papers and everything set up, and then you have Dom in the recliner all sprawled back
with my iPad in front of me, and you couldn't even see my face because I was sunken so far down.
We've had so many fun moments and memories over the years, so it all continues to culminate together because we get to keep coming back, we get to keep doing this, and it's been a blast every step of the way, and I'm looking forward to this year. It's going to be another fun one.
Oh, absolutely. And again, guys, interesting because since the first time we've been doing this, the Browns have 2 first-round picks, so it's going to be a very interesting night again for the hometown team here, the Cleveland Browns. And with that being said, though, I got a lot of work to do as a writer. So, probably 2 different articles at least I'm going to have to dip out. But when I dip out, we're going to bring in a familiar face tonight. Brandon Marvel was a phenomenal addition to our high school football team this year. And he will be coming in when I leave from time to time. So if I dip out, Brandon will take my seat. He will take over. So that's a little bit of, inside baseball of what we have going on tonight. So, again, tomorrow night, Brandon Marvel will be hosting as well. I will not be here at all. I have a play to go to for my daughter. So kind of had a few questions tonight because people who know this show and have watched over the years, both nights are great, but I love night 2. Night 2 is a lot more laid back, a lot of fun. and a lot of that cool stuff happens. But I do have a few questions I'm going to bounce off you guys now because we have plenty of time here. Question number one, and we'll do our usual order of Cole, Dom, SP. And that is this. Now, there are 6 teams with 2 first-round picks. And what I find to be very interesting about this, all 6 teams, none of them made the playoffs, which probably shouldn't even be a shock. But the Jets, the Giants, the Browns, the Dolphins, the Cowboys, and Kansas City, when I look over there, almost all of them, with the exception of the Cowboys, have a pick in the top 10 as well. So really interesting what those 6 teams could do tonight. The question for you, gentlemen, we'll start with, and we have 3 total questions. Here's the first one, though. Out of those 6 teams, which one do you think trades out of the first round, not completely, but gets rid of at least one of their picks tonight for a player or future draft stock? Colio, we'll start with you.
Well, here's the interesting thing about this. I actually think there's a strong chance that there's a less likely chance of those teams that you listed overall, in general, of reducing and giving away one of their picks. I actually had multiple of them ending up with 3 picks in the first round. I think the Cleveland Browns have a strong potential of that. I'm kind of in the position this year, especially in a weaker offensive class, that I think at 6 for the Cleveland Browns, to me, it's Carnell Tate or trade back. So Tate or back is the only way that I view it that it actually makes sense, because I think a lot of the tackles that are going to go early are more natural right tackles. I don't think they're as good of fits. I think you can get better prospects later for the value. So for me, it's either Tate or trade back. And I think there's a strong potential that then if they go back with the Cowboys, a team that might want to get a Sonny Styles or one of those top defensive talents, there you could pick up 2 picks, right? So then you could have 3 in the first round. I also had the Jets, making their selection at 2. And then in the middle of the first round, I had them trading back because I think they really like Omar Cooper Jr. I think, but there's probably not many teams that are going to be in the mix for him in the mid-teens. You could trade back, get some other assets, and do that in the 20s, right? Same thing as I actually had the Chiefs ending up with 3 picks by, taking a cornerback at 9 and then making their selection and taking Casey Concepcion, the wide receiver from Texas A&M. That's not really a position of need, but he's a speedy receiver, which the Kansas City Chiefs love that. And then the very same pick after, then the Miami Dolphins would be there how I had in my mock draft. And I felt like if they took Concepcion, the Dolphins would be like, listen, that was going to be our guy. Let's trade back. Let's get some more assets. And then the Chiefs could maybe come right back up from the beginning of the second round and get an edge rusher, which they might have passed on. So I actually think, Vince, long story short, I think it's the opposite of what you're thinking with your question. I think it's more likely for teams to have 2 picks to, instead of having the 2, go down to 1. I actually think this might be a year where it turns into multiple teams having 3 in the first round.
Well, we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second with Dom, but I will say this. If Kansas City finds a way to pull it off with 3 first-round picks, one of them being an edge rusher, another one of them being a receiver, somehow the Chiefs do that with the addition of Kenneth Walker, my God, they're once again a Super Bowl threat that quickly. That Kenneth Walker pickup, I love that guy. Do not sleep on that signing, guys. That is gigantic. Dom, same question for you, obviously, and it's funny because we started talking about it the exact second ESPN asked their people the same question. But again, those teams with 2 picks, do you see any of them trading that away, or as Cole said, maybe going for a third? But again, I'll give them to you one more time. Jets, Giants, Browns, Dolphins, Cowboys, Chiefs, who either trades one away or doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the Dolphins moving up for Bain. Maybe someone trades out of that first round. But I kind of agree with Cole where, I can see the Browns trading back but not out. I can see the Jets trading back but not out. I'm actually, with that second pick, I don't think they'll trade back at all, maybe later on. But again, there's a few teams that I see that could possibly trade back if their guy's not there, and just so they don't jump ahead on a guy where the value is maybe not that high up in the draft. But again, I think Cole kind of nailed it there, where I really don't see anyone trading out of this first round with either of their picks unless all their guys get taken, and the potential of that is pretty low.
We shall see, only a matter of time. Brandon, I saw you shaking your head a lot as Cole was talking.
Yeah, so the Browns, I think, are a very strong trade back candidate for a team that already has multiple picks. There's two spots where I can really see teams dumping one of those picks to move up. Dallas, which I feel like we've talked about quite a bit, potentially coming up for a Sonny Styles or a defensive player or even a wide receiver now that they're having these issues with George Pickens. And the fact that the Giants currently picked twice before them, the division rival with a new coach in Harbaugh, I think they might be hungry to move up. Another one that got a little bit of run, but I feel like has maybe tapered off the last few days, is the Kansas City Chiefs early, right? I think there is a very strong possibility that if David Bailey is the second pick, that the Chiefs trade up with the Cardinals, who desperately want out of that
I was
spot.
texting with you yesterday about.
And take Arvell Reese.
And oh my God.
The fact that Arvell Reese is
that
not
happens.
the consensus number 2 and Bailey's in this conversation is already kind of flooring to me. And I think a lot of other teams are going to see it that same way. If Reese becomes available, Chiefs, I am fairly confident, are going to move up and grab him.
And if that happens, let me tell you this too. With Arvell Reese going to the Chiefs, if that was to happen, he'd be the second Northeast Ohio kid to play with the Chiefs over the last 4 years. They actually picked up Dustin Crum from Midview, then Kent State. About 4 years ago? It didn't work out. Obviously, he wasn't going to beat Mahomes for the job. He's been tearing it up in the Canadian League. So
he's been doing great.
Pretty interesting stuff. They actually met him a few months ago up at Westlake High School. Super nice kid. So very cool. And that kind of, that will bring us to another question about Northeast Ohio here in a little bit. I'm glad you mentioned Arvell Reese. But, all right, guys, that's been settled. So let's talk about this then. Of the 6 teams, and this is actually the one that floored me when I looked at this one because I thought it'd be at least 3-3, if not 5-1. I was stunned that only 2 of these teams even made the playoffs last year. This is nuts to me. These 6 teams do not have a pick tonight in the first round. Cincy, Indy, Green Bay, Baltimore, Denver, Atlanta. And you think to yourself, well, they're probably playoff teams. Only 2 of them.
Yep.
2 of them made the playoffs. Nuts to think, right? So out of those 6 teams, this time, SP, we're going to start with you. Out of those 6 teams, who trades into the first round tonight?
Oh, boy. That's tough because I feel like a lot of these teams don't have a ton of assets to move. Like the Falcons specifically, it's going to be tough for them to come up. And to be fully honest, this isn't the draft to do that, right? Unless you are a quarterback-needy team. And list those teams off for me one more time, if you don't mind.
Certainly. First, the non-playoff teams. Cincy, Indy, Baltimore, Atlanta.
Sure.
Team you know well. Playoff teams. Denver, a field goal away from going to the Super Bowl. Green Bay, a fluke loss away from going to the next round.
By the way, Baltimore should have pick 14, I believe.
Oh, yeah, Baltimore does pick in round 1.
Yeah, indeed they do. So I'm going to cross that one off.
That's okay.
Not sure how I meant that.
They're even on the helmet.
So the point is Baltimore's not in this discussion.
There should be an even amount of teams, but go ahead. It's fine.
Baltimore's not even in the discussion anyway.
God, I screwed that up.
If you're maybe moving up to get a quarterback, I could maybe consider it, but otherwise I don't see any of these teams really making a move. Indianapolis, sure, maybe they go up and get somebody like jump for Ty Simpson if he slips a little bit. Falcons, I don't know what the hell they're doing at quarterback, but I hope they don't spend more capital on one. So I think the easy answer is like these teams kind of made their bed and they're going to have to lie in it, but not the worst draft necessarily to do that with.
Jaguars,
and you don't want to give up capital in next season's draft if you're one of those teams to move up, unless there's an insane slide in there somewhere, which I don't necessarily anticipate that late in the first round.
And my mistake was actually impactful because it was actually Jacksonville, so it was.
It still would not come up for a quarterback.
My bad.
Still would not come up for a quarterback, though.
Yeah, interesting enough. But I mean, Dom, how do you see it? Again, Cincy, Indy, Green Bay, Jacksonville, Denver, Atlanta. Do any of those teams get desperate enough? I'm going to say my very own Broncos. I'm not sure what they have to work with, but I could see them, saying, "Hey, we were so close to a Super Bowl last year." But how do you see this working out?
Yeah, I just I don't think this is the draft that you want to give up assets or players for to get into it, unless there's a guy you really, really like. But I don't really see any of these teams doing that. As Terry Bradshaw, or what my Nona calls him, Terry Brajol, is on the screen there with Mel Blount.
And the Raiders are officially on the clock, by the way.
Yes,
we have kicked things off.
Yay.
Yes. Mel Blount also is as tall as you think he is, by the way. Tall man, especially with that cowboy hat. But I really don't see anyone trading into the first round. I think teams are more than fine waiting for the second and third round to get their picks going. And I think this is the draft to kind of be patient for that as well.
Okay, Cole, I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion who the Raiders are going to take with the first pick, but you tell us why they're going to take him.
Yeah, and to answer that question really quick, by the way,
Take
I'm
your
going to
time. We
say
got plenty
this.
of time.
The Bengals are the most likely of those teams to go back up in. They lost their first round pick because of picking up Dexter Lawrence. But if you look at it, they're the one that's closest in the second round to the first round. They're at pick 41. They're not that far away to slide into the back of the first round if they wanted to flip a late first round pick with 41 with another team, maybe give up another asset. I don't think they'll do it. I'm on the same page as the others, but I would say the Bengals would be the most likely team to watch to maybe sneak up there at the end of the first round because of having the earliest asset in the second round sitting at 41. Now, we're going to talk about Fernando Mendoza, who is my number one quarterback prospect. But overall, I have him down at number 14 overall. Good player. I see a lot of good things from him. Fernando Mendoza led that Indiana team to a national championship. He had a great Heisman Trophy winning season. I think when I look at Fernando Mendoza, I think he has the personality to very few players have the maturity to probably go into Las Vegas and not be distracted as a rookie. I don't necessarily have the personality concerns with him. And I think that them bringing in Kirk Cousins, the Raiders, it's a good learning opportunity because I think even though body size and play style, they're different. Mentality-wise, I think Fernando Mendoza is quite similar to Kirk Cousins. So I think it's an opportunity for Mendoza to learn from Kirk Cousins. I think it's going to help him get into a rhythm. I see good things for his future. But again, I don't look at Fernando Mendoza as somebody who I think is going to be a top 10 quarterback long term. I think he's going to be a middle of the pack type of starter in the league, but potentially good enough if the Raiders can piece things together. They need a lot of work. They have a lot of needs this year. But if they can chip away at that and then maybe over the next 2 years, really address a lot of the needs, maybe they could be then a potentially contending team to try to be in the playoff hunt. I think Mendoza will be a good player long term, but I just don't see him being a top 10 type of guy, but good enough to be there for the Raiders. Maybe even Derek Carr type, where Carr was kind of middle of the pack and a good quarterback for a long time. But that's where the Raiders are going to go. That should be a 4-down conclusion.
Well, Dahmer, this is a situation where the Raiders have not been good for a very long time, right? Is he the kind of talent that could turn around a team within 2 or 3 years, or is it just a stepping stone for them?
Yeah, so it's a stepping stone. I don't think he's the type of guy, and I think that's very rare these days, the way that these offenses run and how good these defense and defensive coordinators have gotten, where there's not too many guys that I've seen over the past few years where I'm like, oh, put him in now, the team will be good, right? Caleb Williams was the one guy I'm like, if you have another good draft class after this, you're set to go, and that was the case. That was a guy I was really confident on. I know not a lot of people weren't, but with Mendoza, the talent, necessarily no. I don't think it's, you put him in right away and you're going to be a contender. I think he's the person, though, if that makes sense. I think he's the character.
Does.
I think he has the heart. I think he is studious being a quarterback, and I think that's important for a place like Vegas where you can get distracted easily, but also a place with the Raiders where quarterbacks really don't seem to do well over time, whether it's Oakland, whether it's L.A., whether it's
Cleveland.
Vegas. Huh?
Cleveland.
Well, I'm talking about
Yeah,
the
no,
Raiders because they
for
played
sure.
at 17 different
I
places.
get it. But
And they're comparing him to Drew
when
Bledsoe.
you talk about a young quarterback not doing well, for whatever reason, Cleveland's first thing that pops in my mind. Even when
Can't
we're talking
imagine
about
why.
a completely different franchise. Brandon, Soder, Penner, we are going to get to you in a split second. Guys, one of the fun things about tonight, though, honestly, is having Brandon Marvel with us. Now, I know I was joking around calling him Brandon Marvell, but yes, Brandon Marvel. Having him with us, it's kind of like having an on-site producer. So we, like I said, Cole and I and Brandon have been doing this for such a long time, and Dom, my God, you as well. I mean, I think you started with us year 2. So one of the biggest things we do here is the helmets, all right? So we need you to be in charge. If there is any craziness, all right, to calmly walk over there and not knock anything over and move those helmets around, because that is, I live and die for those helmets. Cole could swear to this. Every week I switch them up. Whatever the matchup is going to be, it's a big deal to me. So as our on-site producer, are you going to be able to handle such an important role?
So we can't hear you, but a thumbs up or thumbs
He's
down.
looking quizzical,
All right,
folks.
all right,
We got a thumbs up. Okay.
All right.
And then number 2.
Don't like that hesitation, though.
Yeah,
Chocolate
number-
or vanilla, Marvel?
Number
Which one?
2, as we're going to get to the pick, and then we're going to have Brandon Soda actually break down the pick here in a second. But if there is a team that does trade in and to get a third first-round pick like they think, all the extra helmets are in the closet over there. You just open them up, big old box of helmets. Don't tell anybody. That's our secret. Okay, Brandon?
I'm gonna
right.
I'm gonna get a camera on the helmets.
So-
Already told the government.
The first pick of the night, I'm actually going to let our main man here, the guy who runs the show when it comes to anything audio, Brandon Soder, walk us through it as they make it.
And with the first pick of the 2026 NFL Draft, of course, Roger Goodell is going to give his soliloquy. Surprise, surprise, Fernando Mendoza, quarterback for Indiana.
Walk us through it.
I'll be brief on it. You guys are right. I see him as more of a middle-of-the-road starter. He doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, but he has adequate arm talent for the NFL level. He has the prototypical size that you want in a quarterback. He is tough as hell. He has limited mobility, but he's got a big enough frame, and he's a willing enough runner and a smart enough runner that I think he'll still be able to use that to his advantage at points in the NFL. I don't think he's necessarily going to be a statue. But, again, he's a little bit limited from a traits standpoint, but all the other intangibles, again, the attitude, the work ethic, the football IQ, you've got all of that there for Fernando. And I got to give the Raiders some credit. Again, bringing in Kirk Cousins, they're actually giving him a little bit of like wiggle room to be able to succeed and not start him right away and not get him in there and blown up. So again, obvious pick here for the Raiders. Not my favorite quarterback prospect of all time, but definitely the best in this draft.
I'll make this quick because I know we got to go to Dom next here. But one of the teams without a first-round pick tonight is Atlanta. And we just talked about quarterbacks. And we can make this very, very quick. Atlanta's been blessed with a lot of quarterback talent the last couple of years. We have felled at least with free agent signings and then in the draft. Do you think they're finally going to get it right this season with who they have?
No.
Okay. So, Dom, break down the – I mean, you kind of already did. What do you feel, again, with the Jets up next? This is a team, the Jets, with multiple first-round picks. Where do you think they go here? Offense, defense, secondary? What do you see them doing? Because this is a team that, tried Justin Fields. That didn't work out. They got a lot of craziness going on in New York.
I mean, this is a team that kind of gave away a lot of the guys that they needed. I don't know if there's any offensive tackles this early. I know that's weird for me saying. Usually I'm like, every pick should be an offensive tackle. But I don't know if there's any offensive tackles for these next, these first.
None that blow you away in the top 5.
None in the top 5. There are a few guys that I like. I know people, it's been back and forth with Proctor, but boy, it's hard not to love that size and the way he can move, man. Oh, he's fun to watch. But you have to think maybe they go wide receiver because you need a quarterback, but what quarterback are you picking? Similar to that Kenny Pickett draft where they all needed quarterbacks and the Steelers were the only one that picked one. Who do you pick? And right now I think that if you're the Jets, it's the small moves that make the biggest moves. So I think that you have to go with either an offensive tackle or a wide receiver. I think you go with the right wide receiver to start here.
Sword to Penner. Jets, what are they going to do here?
It's going to be edge rusher. It's just a matter of if it's going to be Bailey or Reese at this point. And when you're someone like Aaron Glenn that's already on the hot seat after 1 year, you kind of got to lean into your identity, and that's going to be on the defensive side of the ball. He's in a tough situation. I mean, Geno Smith is brought back as the quarterback. I don't even think bringing in a receiver this early is necessarily going to be what puts them over the edge. What scares me, though, too, is that they're talking about taking Bailey because he's, quote-unquote, the most ready edge rusher in this draft, which I don't necessarily agree with to begin with. But if that's the mentality you are going into in a draft that you have this many assets in the second year of your head coaching spot, I feel like you're setting yourselves up for failure. But my gut's telling me it's going to be David Bailey. It should be Reese, though. Either way, it's going to be an edge rusher.
Cole McDaniel, Arvell Reese, a guy you and I both saw playing multiple state championship games in high school, somebody you and I are both very familiar with. What do you think? Is he the pick at 2? And if not, who?
Well, and when he went to Ohio State, then Reese showed his versatility, and he has so much ability. He's an athletic freak. Arvell Reese is my number 2 overall prospect. I actually, instead of edge rusher, I have him listed at linebacker because I view him more. I like him better as an off-ball linebacker rather than as an edge rusher. However, he's going to get used as that in the NFL. I think Arvell Reese would actually be the best one for them because David Bailey isn't even my top edge rusher. I have Ruben Bain as my top edge rusher.
Same here.
I think Arvell Reese would be the best edge rusher talent for them. But don't forget, the Jets also need an off-ball linebacker. So you could cover two things with Arvell Reese. You can have him as a primary edge rusher, and if you ever get thin off ball, I do think he's athletic enough. He did it at Ohio State. He could play off ball. It should be Reese. I'm a little iffy on I could see them going David Bailey, but I think Reese would be the better player here.
So, guys, want to remind you, too, you could contact us on YouTube in the chat box there. We'll read your comments as they come in. Looks like we already got one. We'll get to that in a bit. But we will try to do our best to read your comments, answer your questions, and also our on-site producer, Brandon Marvel, will keep us up to date when there is a trade to get us full information. As we go to the board here, I have to wonder what the over-under is tonight of how many names I mispronounce. I'm going to go with about 4.5.
There's some tough ones in this one. Yeah.
Well, it's still not a skill I've
stuck
mastered
on
by any
boards.
stretch. But the Jets have made the pick. Goodell is on the stand. And we will all find out very, very shortly here. New York Jets, a disaster last year, did not have a single interception that I know of. And it is Bailey. So they're going to go with David Bailey, edge rusher out of Texas Tech. Somebody, Cole, who you just said you didn't see them going with. There it is. Talk us through it.
Well, I felt like there was a strong potential they were going to go that direction. I like the Arvell Reese fit better. It seems like that the Jets maybe had concerns about Arvell Reese was never a natural edge rusher in college. It would be new for him stepping into the position. David Bailey is more of your natural edge rusher. I think he fits the scheme well. He's not going to have to necessarily probably go through as much of the growing pains in the transition process. However, I don't view his ceiling as high. He's a good player. He was my 8th overall prospect, like I said, my second edge rusher behind Ruben Bain. I expected him to be a top 10 pick, and I expected him to go in the top 5. It was just a matter of where he was going to land. So ultimately, he is going to offer a lot of potential there at edge for the Jets. I can't fault them for the pick. I think it was probably them just trying to play it a little bit safer. Playing it safer isn't always the best move, though, and that's why I would have preferred the Reese pick. It hits a need, though. They addressed a need, and I think for them, they're going to celebrate that.
Dom, the Jets have a lot to get done tonight. Is this a good start?
I mean, when in doubt, draft an Ohio State defensive lineman. The Steelers have done that for a few decades, and it's brought them Super Bowl victories into the playoffs, not winning those, but to the playoffs. So, like, I tend to go with that. I don't – again, it's hard not to fall in love with you know, the main pass rusher for Texas Tech last year. That defensive line was so much fun to watch, and so was he. But when you're obliterating Big 12 teams every day, you kind of hope to expect that from someone who's supposed to be a top 10 pick. Again, I think he'll be just fine in the NFL. But similar to that first round, that first overall pick we saw a few years ago from Jacksonville with Walker, I think it's just an okay pick and not the best pick they could have made. I think it's safe, but I don't think it's the one that's going to make the largest impact. It's going to turn this team around. Again, it's not going to hurt them in the long run compared to other stuff that they're probably going to do today and tomorrow. But again, I think they left the better pass rusher / defensive lineman on the table, and David Bailey was not that guy.
Well, and the Jets have a history of blowing drafts. They truly do. They've blown a lot of drafts for the last couple of years. Geno Smith back there to start as their quarterback this year. Wild to think. You know, Mr. Soder, you know, talk us through it here. Obviously, they got a quality player there, but still a long ways away.
Yeah, and again, I don't quite understand it. I do have Arvell Reese listed as an edge, so Bailey's actually my edge 3 and actually my 14th overall ranked player. He is a great pass rusher, but the problem is, especially early on, his upside is going to be limited to being a designated pass rusher. He does not have the size and the physicality to really muck things up in the run game, where a guy like Arvell Reese, while you may need to kind of mold him more into that edge position because he hasn't played it as much, he could give you both. And again, from that outside linebacker position and kind of fill two needs. Where here you're getting maybe the best pure pass rusher in the draft right now, but it feels like a short-sighted move, and it's, again, not really going to add anything to that run defense, which also was not good last year.
Right.
I mean, the Jets had a lot of problems
Yeah.
for what was a very good defense even just a couple years before. So, again, a little bit short-sighted, a good player, a first-round talent, but definitely better options on the board.
Was that a Dylan Gabriel game where the Browns were
It
they
was.
on the stand? Was
Yes.
it Gabriel?
That was.
Man, it was a nightmare. You know, Cole, we had a lot of fun texting back and forth about the Cardinals the last few days. Do they keep this pick? 2 minutes left before the Cardinals make this pick. Do they keep it? Do they trade it? If they do keep it, what do the Cardinals do? We might see action right away. We might see Brandon Marvel over to those helmets almost immediately here. What's going to happen at 3?
Well, I think it'd be best to
right.
trade back based on their needs. I think the Cardinals should go back. And the New York Giants, they could be a team that could come calling because I could see them wanting Jeremiah Love. They haven't had a true starting running back since Saquon Barkley, left and went to the Philadelphia Eagles. So ultimately, I could see the Giants just trying to get ahead of the Titans to secure their sweepstakes in Love. For the Cardinals, I think it would make more sense to go back. However, I think there is a strong chance that they stick here. I think that Arvell Reese still being there, even though that's not a primary need, he's such a talented player that I think that might pique their interest. I think they could even use another linebacker. It might not be a top need. However, a Sonny Styles, who had an incredible combine, could actually go somewhat early here. I think if he went at 3, it would be earlier than most expected, him being somewhere in that 7 range or below, but I could see them going that direction. There's a lot of ways that the Cardinals could go. They really need a right tackle. I still think it's kind of early for tackles here in this, but maybe they'll pull the trigger and go with a tackle. But ultimately, I think they should have traded down. They'll probably select at this point as the clock was continuing to tick down.
Mr. Soder.
Yeah, and it does look like the pick is in at this point. I think they would have loved to trade back, and I am still kind of surprised that the Chiefs didn't try to pop up for an Arvell Reese. I do think there's a great chance that Reese goes here. I think his absolute floor is 5 to the Giants, but if you're the Cardinals, you have so many holes right now that I feel like you almost have to go best player available. Best case scenario would be to get alignment, but like Cole said, I'd be more comfortable kind of waiting on that. But Cardinals are a team that's also been in the talk for Ty Simpson, so they may not have that second round pick either. So if they want to address the trenches, this might be the time they have to do it. This truly could go any direction, but if I had to kind of put a pulse on it, I think it's going to be Reese.
Yeah, and I would love to see the local kid go here. I would. I think their quarterback room is absolutely terrible. So if Drew Allar is still on the board tomorrow night, I'd have to believe that's the pick. But as you said, a lot of other options there. None of them first round worthy, we believe. But, crazy stuff happens, and they are going to make the pick right now as we speak. I always hate this awkward 4-second silence here. So, but the pick is in, and it is official.
Wow.
Oh.
It's Jeremiah Love. So the running back, so Cole just mentioned it, or that was you. One of the
Goodbye,
two just
James
mentioned it.
Conner.
So the Notre Dame running back, the third, he's got to be, since you said Barkley, right? I believe the highest, at 3. But yeah, the official pick, running back out of Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love, now with the Cardinals. Cole, we'll bounce it back to you because I believe you were the one that mentioned it.
Yeah, I felt like the Giants would come up to just try to get ahead of the Titans, who would be in the Jeremiah Love sweepstakes. I felt like all the smoke for Jeremiah Love potentially going to the Cardinals felt like smoke. They brought in Tyler Algier. James Conner still listed on the roster here at this point. You have Trey Benson as well. I felt like their running back room was in a spot where they had enough running backs, good running backs, to not necessarily need to jump into the Jeremiah Love sweepstakes. Instead, they decided to take who's by far the best running back prospect in this class. I'll give him that. He's an every down type of player. There's a lot of potential from Jeremiah Love. I would probably say if I had to rank Love and Genty, from last year to this year, I would probably go Genty. However, Love would be right in that mix of some of the top guys from that loaded running back class from last year. He was my 5th overall prospect, of course, my number 1 running back. Interesting that they made this decision. But now it'll be interesting, and we'll touch on this in a second, of where the Titans are going to go, because I really feel like they would have taken Love if he made it past the Cardinals here at 3. Interesting pick, good pick, but it wasn't necessarily one of the needs for the Cardinals, in my opinion.
Brandon, we're going to stay with you.
Yeah, this, as good of a player as Jeremiah Love is, and I have him very highly ranked on my overall big board, there's just too many other needs. This feels like a little bit of a luxury, especially when, again, the quarterback situation's a mess, the defense, the offensive line. There's so many other places you could have kind of gone here. This feels like a front office decision where there's not a lot of sizzle on the Cardinals going into next year, especially with, again, Jacoby Brissett as your guy going into it.
Or Gardner Minshew.
Or Gardner Minshew, whoever wins that job. Oh, boy. So yeah, it's exciting, right? The fans can talk themselves into this as a great pick, and he's going to be awesome. But they're a team that's a few years away, and this feels like another Saquon Barkley situation where, he's going to be great, but it's going to turn into a wasted asset. And by the time you're getting ready to go pay him, things are just going to start to be turning the corner for you, and you might have to run into another decision where you got to let him go. So I love the player. I don't like the pick.
Dom Cleary, the Tennessee Titans picked first last year, got Cam Ward, had an awful start, fired the coach, turned it around a little bit, but not much, as you can see them picking fourth this year. Do the Titans go offense or defense here? And feel free to break down the Love pick if you would like as well.
Yeah, I do want to touch about the Love pick, but with the Titans, you have a bad year with not just your coach is fired, but also you completely rebrand your uniforms.
Hideous from what I'm looking at right now.
The colors,
Yeah.
good,
Eh.
but the uniforms are kind of ugly. But they've always kind of been ugly. I miss when they had the pajama pants back
Yeah.
in the 2000s. But I'll take these Oiler-esque colors over the.
Oh, then you would like the Columbus Aviators. Check out the next Aviators game.
Yeah, well,
Trust
but
me.
they have a lot of needs. Ward needs a lot of help if this team's going to want to do anything. He had moments, but also had some bad moments as well. So I think they're going to go offense because I think they want to support him as quickly as possible with that new regime taking over in Tennessee, with that new stadium coming up, I believe, next year. They're really going to want to have some fireworks on offense. They need to add on offense because last year they didn't have much to help them out with wide receiver wise or running back wise. When it comes to Love, I like the pick for the guy. Again, a lot of running backs in there. James Conner, probably at the tail end of his career, Pitt legend, probably going to trade him, hopefully somewhere where he will play and he will have a chance to compete in the playoffs. But Jeremiah Love, I've probably seen him live more than most in this room. I believe so. I've seen him as a writer twice. I see him as a spectator once. He is good as advertised. He's explosive. He's quick off the starting block. He can be patient when he needs to find the hole in those zone reads. He's good at reading the second level and then breaking past the third level, which is impressive for a running back because a lot of those guys, they're fast enough to break past the second level, but once you get to those safeties, they're not quick enough. He is fast in the game. Right? I'm not sure what his 40 numbers were. Cole, you might be the guy that knows that off the top of your head. I'm not sure. But he has blazing speed on the field. Again, I saw it against Pitt where that was one of the best linebacker corps in the country, and they couldn't seem to figure out where Love was going to pop out of on that offensive line, and they couldn't corral around him. And again, you have Lewis, who's going to be a pick tomorrow. You have Biles, who's going to be a pick next year, and then you have Loveland, who's going to be a pick next year for the University of Pittsburgh. That's the linebacker core that could not stop Love. So he's that good. I think he's one of those guys that can end up changing things around for Arizona.
Cole, Titans, the pick is in. Who are they taking and why?
Well, I feel like I disagree with Dom in the sense of they do need fireworks. They need plenty of offensive players, but I actually have the Titans' three biggest needs being all defense: cornerback, linebacker, edge. To me, with Arbel Reese still sitting there, it makes a lot of sense to go Arbel Reese, but I don't know with the Titans because they have so many needs. But it would make sense if it's one of these Ohio State Buckeyes because there are still a lot of top Ohio State Buckeyes expected to go in this top 10.
Wow.
I feel like to the Titans that would potentially make some sense.
And an offensive target there would definitely be wide receiver, and there it is, Carnell Tate. They flashed him for a split second there.
Whoa.
That blows things up, fellers, because that is Carnell Tate, receiver of Ohio State. Dom said, I don't know about the fireworks. You said, yes, they need fireworks. Well, doggone, is that a firework? And that really screws up the Browns badly. Brandon Marvel, get ready for a possible trade, my man. I'm sorry, Cole, we're going to stick with you. Take off. Wow.
Well, I mean, Carnell Tate is by far the best wide receiver in this class. I think there's so much pro talent with him. And the crazy thing, it's almost as insane as when we look back at it. And Emeka Egbuka, right, coming out of Ohio State, never was that number one guy because he was behind Marvin Harrison Jr., who's the number one. Then he was behind Jeremiah Smith in his rookie season. But Emeka Egbuka, phenomenal receiver. Carnell Tate was then still in that same type of situation where he was the number 3 guy and then the number 2 guy here last year behind Jeremiah Smith. But he's a great route runner, good hands. I mean, the Brian Hartline coaching tree at wide receiver is just insane. The recruits that they bring in, what they do to develop them. Carnell Tate is pro ready right now. He's going to be a great target for Cam Ward, a target that he needs. I really thought that the Titans would then, with Jeremiah Love off the board, would go defense here, but you can't go wrong with the Tate pick. I think it's a huge get for them. Tate's instantly their number one guy. Fantasy football players, make sure you're paying attention to Carnell Tate as well in your fantasy drafts, because I think he's going to produce for you early. That being said, my last take on this is him going here at 4 really does throw things off for the Browns, the Commanders, the Giants, some other teams who would have had interest. Start to think about the
Offensive
Browns
line.
and some other teams thinking about trading down or maybe having to pivot a little bit, because he would have been right on their radar.
Well, yeah, no doubt about it. And Dom, now this makes me think offensive line. Before think, okay, maybe the Giants will get desperate, or the Browns will do something crazy here. But yeah, I'm thinking maybe offensive line.
Yeah, I think so. Real quick with the Tate pick,
Let's take your time. We got plenty of time.
they needed help with Ward. Ward didn't have any wide receivers last year. Again, Cole, you have a point where they need help on defense. Quite frankly, the Titans need help pretty much everywhere.
Yep.
And that was the issue. What do you want to solve first? Hey, what if we score more than the other team? Tate could help you do that. You know, if you score 45 points a game, you might lose by 7 still, but at least you're giving people a reason to show up to games and you're selling merchandise.
We call it the Bremen Park Titans.
The what?
The Bremen
Park
Titans.
Titans. Yeah, they'll
Just
put on a show,
Put
but
up
they're not
60,
winning the
but
game.
lose
Yeah.
by 7 tomorrow.
Yeah, they stuck with Avon the entire game, and they're like, you know, we're done.
Yeah.
But with the Giants, I mean, maybe Proctor here if he is the top. Maybe I'm reaching. Again, it's been a tough year.
top 10 talk for
Again, maybe I'm reaching with him. Marvel's doing something.
Brandon Marvel moving over to the helmets.
Browns trading number 6.
Whoa.
Browns have made a trade. They've dipped all the way back
Okay.
with the Chiefs. And now the Chiefs and Browns have swapped first-round picks, we believe, per Adam Schefter and our on-site producer, Brandon Marvel. Cole.
Well, the interesting thing about that trade is if the Chiefs are coming up and the Browns are going back, and I expected the Browns to trade back
We got
with
third.
Tate off the board, I think this Giants pick is going to be really, really interesting, because there have been talks about if Tate's not there, Jordan Tyson is potentially a guy at wide receiver that the Giants are very interested in. I think it's too early for Tyson. However, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Arvell Reese, they don't really need him because they have 3 strong edge rushers. So I think that the Chiefs are probably feeling pretty good about, hey, if we want to get a guy like Arvell Reese, then we come up to 6 with Cleveland, because the Giants are more likely to go with a Caleb Downs or even reach for a guy like Jordan Tyson, which I think is very likely here. Interesting to see where the Giants go, but I do think that means that the Chiefs probably have some vote of confidence that they think that they can land Reese at number 6.
And it also leads me to think, as Brandon is scrambling to get us the exact details of this, I'm going to wager a guess and think that the Browns just got the Chiefs' other first-round pick, which is like number 29-ish.
3
9.
spots. I don't.
No, it's got to be 9.
They did get 9 for sure.
No,
We're trying to
I'm
figure
not
out the
saying I'm
additional.
not saying that they're not.
I don't
The
think they got
swap
29
is
in
9,
addition.
but what's the addition?
I don't think it's 29. I'd be very surprised if it was
Wow.
29.
So we did that for a second-round pick, you think?
For 3 spots, it's very possible. In this draft where there is no quarterback tax,
Cole, let me talk about that for a quick second. Just looking at these first 4 picks, and no knock on Tate, Love, Bailey, or Mendoza, but is it just me, or like you think
okay,
about the
we
top?
got it real quick. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Browns sends 6th overall pick to the Chiefs in exchange for 9th overall, the 74th overall pick, which is a 3rd rounder, and the 148th pick, which is a 5th rounder.
Wow. So
Not bad.
They got a 3rd rounder, and you said a 5th?
3rd and a 5th.
Okay.
It doesn't hurt to have extra people showing up to rookie minicamp, right? Again, it's sorry. Go ahead, Cole.
Let me call this out. I think what Andrew Berry's probably doing too is he's accumulating more picks. I don't expect him now to make all the picks that he has, because now he just turned 1 into 3. They already had a ton of picks. I think that now puts him at like 12. I don't expect him to make 12 picks this year. There's then potential of packaging some picks together and moving up again at some point down the road. I think that's very likely as well. So you just got a couple more assets to play with to package together to move up at some point if somebody's sliding who you want.
Interesting stuff. Cole, sticking with you real quick in the next, I really want to get Brandon's take on this as well. Again, no knock on Tate, Love, Bailey, or Mendoza. But do you kind of feel like last year's number one linebacker was better than Bailey? Last year's number one running back was better than Love. Last year's number one receiver was better than Tate. It feels like with this is a slight step down this year. Am I overreading into things?
Was this me or Cole? I'm sorry.
Oh, it was Cole.
Where are we starting up?
Oh,
Go ahead, Cole.
okay. I thought you were going to
We're
Brandon
both just
here.
staring at each other.
We'll watch the feedback later.
At running back, Genty was the better one, I think, over Love. I think relatively close, but I would have said Genty. I think Tate's right up there in the mix. I'm trying to think of who I had as my number one wide receiver this year, but I think he would still be in the mix there. I think overall, though, anything offensively is mostly on the downside. Defense, though, they're right in the mix. They're in the hunt. Even though Bailey was the first guy off the board, Bailey's not the best guy of the group. The first round defensive talent this year is ridiculously good, better than last year.
Arvo Reese sitting there at 5. Brandon, what do you think? Not are the Giants going to pick Reese, but the same question I asked Cole as I stared at you while I asked it.
Yeah,
I can see why the confusion was there.
It's relatively comparable at the very, very top. I have Love just over where I would have had Genty, just because I like his ability, like catching the ball out of the backfield a little bit more. Not as much where as Genty either. But yeah, overall, like if you're looking for an offensive skill position player, not quite up to snuff last year. Still a lot of incredible defensive talent. I think you start to see the drop off though as we get into the later rounds of this draft, where last year it felt like both days of the show were just nonstop, like productive players that were going off the board.
All right, I think it's time we put Dom Cleary on the spot. Going to let you make the Giants pick here, let you do the announcement, and then immediately break it down. Are you ready for this gigantic responsibility?
All right. Do you want me to do it as Jesse Ventura?
At the body. Yeah, it's up to you.
That's not the, no.
I don't know. You know.
I feel like Cole would get mad at me.
Cardinal
I
Tate,
think America would get mad at you, Dom.
Cardinal Tate, a very respectful
What? That'd
kid.
be they would talk like America's mayor.
Did you know he said with his rookie contract, he's going to buy his mom a house and his dad an ice shanty in Hudson. So
Huh.
the kid's
Wow.
got big plans. He's got big
Who?
plans. All right, you're on deck here.
All right. This kid for the
How
wearing
about
a
you
New York
just-
Giants chant.
Just make the pick, all right? We don't
I'm
need
not making the
accommodate
pick. Well, the
I
New
tell
York
you what.
Giants select. They select. They're still selecting
There it is.
Arvell Reese, linebacker from the Ohio State.
Also a tire blooder. You know who else is a tire blooder? Ted Ginn Jr., quarterback of the Aviators.
Wait.
But yeah, tell us about Arvell Reese.
That's not called. It's not
Coach.
It's not Turbo Loader. I thought it was Turbo Loaders.
Tar blooders.
Oh boy.
Anyway,
Arvell Reese.
this is a guy that's probably most likely going to make. I mean, could make a transition to pass rusher, but with a loaded pass rushing room, I'm not sure how they're going to use him. I'm sure they have
Yeah.
a plan if they selected him. It's going to be interesting. Anyway, like when you have so many pass rushers, you can mix and match any way possible because these guys aren't down there for 3 possessions, right? Or for 3 downs in a row. Those third down packages, you could see a loaded pass rusher unit for the Giants where there's not really a big guy to be found. It's all straight pass rushers. That's really popular in college where you see third down come in, and then there is not a guy over 270 that's on the line of scrimmage. And
They're late, Vince. That's all it is.
This is
They're just announcing that it showed the Browns are
No.
still making their pick.
yeah,
That
no,
is
that threw me off too.
wild.
We had a draft
Okay.
day. Give me my picks
so
back.
we had a Brandon
Give me the
Marvel
returner, too.
scoop ESPN. I love
Cool.
it.
What are your thoughts on Arvell Reese, linebacker
Yeah.
from the Ohio State University?
Well, I've already sung
Train
my
wreck.
praises about Arvell Reese, the number 2 overall prospect on my big board. I will say this, guys. The interesting thing about the selection, too, is that I think that the Chiefs were probably coming up. I think there's a good chance they were coming up for Arvell Reese. Now they've made the trade with the Browns. They're sitting here at 6. They're still going to get a good player. They came up 3 spots, but I think they're hoping Arvell Reese would fall to them. I could be wrong. That being said, you got 3 edge rushers in New York. Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, and Kayvon Thibodeau. You have 3 great guys there. I view this as that they didn't have a needed edge rusher. However, they had a needed linebacker. A lot of times they play 2 linebacker sets on the field. They just brought in Tremaine Edmonds, and he's going to be the Mike linebacker. Right now, you have Micah McFadden slotted in at will. I think both of them are okay, but I would rather see Arvell Reese maybe push one of those guys to the bench, and then he could either start at Mike or he could start at Will. You can blitz him up the middle, which is really his strength, right? Play against the run, play as an off-ball linebacker, which all the talk about edge rusher, I view him best as an off-ball linebacker, but he's a chess piece. Micah Parsons used to be an off-ball linebacker and then would get moved to edge rusher. I think you could develop him into that and give him reps at edge rusher at times, even though he spends the primary amount of his time as an off-ball linebacker, which I think would be nice for the Giants.
Cole, the pick is in for the Chiefs. Who is it?
At this point, I'm a little surprised in Arvell Reese going here, and the Chiefs still sitting in this point. I think that Sonny Styles could be in the mix potentially. I also think this could be a Caleb Downs type of pick here now too, because with Arvell Reese going, I think they may just pivot to another one of those top tier Ohio State defenders. So I would say if I had to pinpoint something right now, the Chiefs need help in the secondary. I think there's a strong chance that Downs could be the pick here for the Chiefs, but this is still a little bit of a head scratcher because I really thought they were coming up for Reese.
Brandon, what do you see the Chiefs doing? We talked a little bit earlier. They have a lot of options.
Yeah, I agree with Cole that I think Arvell Reese was kind of who they were hoping for, and the logic being, the Giants had both Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs sitting there, which were both more, immediate needs that they could have kind of filled there. But Arvell Reese is just too talented for them to pass up, and like Cole said, he's got a little bit of that scheme versatility that I think is ultimately going to help them out. I'm going to throw a dart out there a little bit, a name that has been rising a lot these last, I'd say, couple of weeks at this point. He kind of got forgotten about because of the injuries from last year, but then we kind of went way to the other direction on the conversation, and that's Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver for Arizona State. Kelsey's getting older. Rashee Rice cannot stay out of trouble.
Right.
Xavier Worthy has not turned into the field-stretching dynamic threat that you were hoping for.
He's a number 3 slot.
Jordan Tyson, and while you still have those guys that are serviceable, you're kind of in the best situation to take somebody like Tyson, because if he does stay healthy, suddenly you've got a true dynamic X guy to pair with Patrick Mahomes. And if he does can't stay on the field 100% of the time, then you still got enough talent to stay afloat with Patrick Mahomes there. But again, I think Tyson might be the pick.
You want me to do this one again?
No, I got it.
Okay, just making sure.
A lot of speed, in Kansas City. They love to stretch that field, as Brandon said. So will they go with the secondary with Caleb Downs? Let's see where they go here. And they do address the secondary, but it is at cornerback. Mansour Delaney from LSU. SEC gets on the board, their first pick of the night. Cole, will bounce it right to you. What can you tell us about this young man?
Well, Delane's my number one cornerback, but I think the interesting thing about this is I expected him to be there easily at number 9.
100%.
So a year after, and you have to think about this, the Browns went a long time with not having any first-round picks, right? Then last year, they actually get into the first-round action, right? And it's like, okay, the Browns are actually first-round picks again. This feels weird. It's been a while since that happened. Then they fleece the Jacksonville Jaguars and have an excellent draft last year. Now, in many ways, I feel like you somewhat fleeced the Chiefs here. The Chiefs address a need that helps at corner. They're thin in the secondary, but they didn't need to trade up. They did not need to trade up to get Delane here, and I think that's the biggest benefit for the Browns. You just moved back 3 picks. You got some more assets. And sure, the Chiefs addressed a need. I think Delane is, in my opinion, I think he's the best corner in this class. However, like I said, I just think they came up for Reese, wanted Reese, and then they had to settle with the guy they would have taken at 9 potentially anyway.
I think you're right, and that's kind of how I see it as well. They wanted to hedge their bet a little bit, pray the Giants didn't do it. The Giants did it, and then said, well, that is what it is at this point. We think. Who knows? I mean, none of us are in that room with Andy Reid and those guys to truly know. Brandon, though, what kind of player are they going to get here? I mean, the Chiefs, they needed a cornerback. They got a damn good one.
I mean, similar to Cole, he is my cornerback, or actually, no, he is not my cornerback one. That would be Jermod McCoy, but he's not going to be everyone's because of his injury history. He missed all of 2025, but still a solid, ex-cornerback that's going to be able to play the outside for you, kind of set it and forget it. You obviously get rid of Trent McDuffie, so it's a spot you needed to fill. It's a good pick. I just don't like the process of getting up to it, right? You didn't trade a ton of capital away, but I feel like you're already in that spot. Why not go for someone that would not have been available to you, like a Caleb Downs, a Sonny Styles, a Ruben Bain even, who was talked about to go to the Commanders or the Saints coming up here. There's just a lot of other talent I think they could have grabbed and then maybe addressed corner later on in the draft. So, again, good pick, just kind of an unnecessary jump to go up and get him.
What do you think, Don? Do they give up too much?
Yeah, I think for a guy that was projected to be at your spot, it's obvious that the guy that they wanted was picked right before them. They did not expect the Giants to make that pick. This was hey, let's not do anything crazy. We like who we like. Let's pick them and move forward. They tried moving the chess pieces forward. The queen got.
Yeah.
Now they have to go back to the drawing board, figure out what's good to them. They like the lane, so they're going to roll with them. It's not a bad pick, but again, was available where they were.
So I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen in these next two picks with the Commanders and the Saints, but I do get the feeling that it wouldn't be a shock if Caleb Downs isn't around at number 9. If he is, though, you guys are going to think I'm crazy, and it's fine, but I actually think the Browns should take him. I know they need a receiver. I know they need a lineman. I know all of that. I don't think the Browns secondary is all that great. I love both their cornerbacks, but once you get to the safeties, I mean, are you sold? Brandon.
Not sold, but there's just so many other places that we really need to address before that.
I get
and
it, but
it's
that's a
not
tasty-
and it's not just about making the team better. It's about evaluating your quarterback position as well. You need to give Shador, Watson, whoever you're going to run out there,
need 'em
an
help.
opportunity to stay upright and to be able to get the ball out. Because if you're trying to evaluate specifically Shador Sanders with half an offensive line and Jerry Jeudy as your number one receiving option, no disrespect to
And
Harold
Cedric
Shannon, he's
Tillman
in there
as
as
your number
well.
2. Yeah.
It's just not going to work. So I
agree.
love Caleb Downs. He's one of the best players in this draft. I don't think I could do it.
Hold on, I
It's
got to
so
interrupt.
Browns.
Is that the bus?
That's your boss, baby.
Oh, that's the bus.
Why is he
Super
out there
Bowl
with the
champion.
Commanders, though? What's going on?
You know.
Hey, I would trade down one more time if I'm Cleveland, though. I would see if
I
I
wouldn't
can.
hate it.
I would trade
would
down
do
with the
too.
Cowboys, see if I can get
Give another
3
3.
first rounders, and I would take Downs. If you have 3 first-round picks, I would take Downs because you could still get a tackle and a safety. Want to say with the Commanders?
Yeah.
I think they really would have wanted Carnell Tate, who went at 4. Now that Tate is off the board, to me, this seems like a no-brainer Sonny Styles pick, the linebacker. They need a linebacker bad. The Commanders we talked about, they felt like they were in a position after the year before that they could potentially compete. They had an old roster, a lot of veterans. I think they were selling out to, hey, this is our year, and then injuries and everything just fell apart, and it was a terrible year for them. They now need some young talent. They need some athleticism. Sonny Styles is a no-brainer here for the Commanders. So.
Well, whether it's Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs, I mean, it's an insane amount of Buckeyes off the board early tonight. Kind of what we expected. And really just a good mix, but kind of dominated as well by the Big Ten.
Vince, look
And
up.
there it is. I'm sorry, Sonny Styles is the pick. How about that? So linebacker Sonny Styles, now a Washington Commander. And we talked about it again, guys. You know what? Browns might trade back. I realize we still got to get through the Saints pick, but now I'm not starting to hate that thought. So, Depender, we're going to actually start with you a little bit more on Sonny Styles.
Yeah, with Sonny Styles, you're getting someone who was really able to shoot up draft boards late because he was an absolute physical freak. And when you're replacing an aging Bobby Wagner on this Washington defense, I think you're getting someone that's really going to be able to give this defense a strong identity, which is what Dan Quinn wants, moving forward as he continues to build this team out after a very disappointing year. So, again, Sonny Styles, too talented of a player to continue to slide down the board. I could have seen Ruben Bain being the pick here. It was going to be defense, I think, pretty much regardless for Washington at this point, especially with Carnell Tate off the board. But, again, love Styles.
Dom, what's going through your mind right now with the Saints on the board? So much to build there, but everybody kind of joked about their quarterback pick last year. I believe in the 2nd or 3rd round, might have been the 3rd round. Kid tore it up when he finally got in.
Yeah, this is a team that's in a little bit of a better position than they originally thought. We'll see how that goes this year. Again, I believe they're still in a bad cap situation for the most part, where
Yeah, they're talking about trading Kamara still.
Yeah,
still out
it's. I mean, they still have. Who's the pat? Is it Cameron Jordan or Jordan Cameron? Which one? One was drafted by the Browns that year, and one was Cameron Jordan.
Cameron Jordan went to the Saints, didn't he? And we
Cameron
got
Jordan,
Browns
and
got
then
Jordan Cameron.
thinking it was Cameron Jordan, which is true, by the way. But again, that's a guy who's aging, still decent, but he's aging. Again, there's a lot of needs this team needs, but they're in a lot better spot where they can kind of make hey, let's get a pass rusher. Let's add Bain to this roster, and I think that could be an appropriate move for New Orleans, as the small moves could end up pushing them a lot more forward than, let's say, the big sparkle move, one that like the Titans made.
Saints on the board right now. Pick is in. Probably going to make the announcement in like 20 to 25 minutes. It seems to take forever between picks tonight. But the New Orleans Saints have made that pick. Cole McDaniel, you have the crystal ball in front of you tonight. Who is it going to be?
It should be Ruben Bain. Dom is spot on with that. It makes a lot of sense. At edge rusher, they have some older edge rushers, and Chase Young's there, and Chase Young has had his injuries and hasn't been as explosive and dominant in the NFL as anybody would have hoped. Still some talent there, but they need an edge rusher that offers a little bit of youth, offers some explosiveness. Sure, wide receiver, they would have also been in that Carnell Tate mix. I think it's early for Jordan Tyson. They're probably going to wait on this. To me, Ruben Bain should easily be the name on the card, and that should just be signed, sealed, delivered, and move on. And we'll see if the Browns trade down. But to me, makes perfect sense here at 8 that the Saints just strike, take advantage of Bain, who's my number one true edge rusher on the board.
I'm going to say it again, too, that if the Browns get here next, right, and it's tough to think, but do you trade down one more time, one or two more times? I still kind of think you do.
I think
no
if you're,
matter who's out there now.
if you're able to, I'm comfortable going a little bit further back. I'm my whole stance on this the entire time is I want a wide receiver early for the Browns, and then with our second first-round pick, then go and address the line, because I like the top of this wide receiver class better than the top of the tackle class for a lot of the reasons Cole stated. You know, some of them are more natural right tackles. Some of them may eventually become guards in the long term. So I'll go a little bit further back, but also at some point as these bigger name players continue to go off the board, that compensation is going to continue to dwindle. It may not necessarily even be worth it. So I'm open to it, but I don't want to turn it into a situation where we just keep doing these small trade backs and never really get anything of value.
Dom, my man, my favorite all-time lineman that I've ever known in person and been lucky enough to call friend. This is nuts. We're on pick number 8, and we have not selected a single lineman. I cannot remember a draft show that the four of us have done together where there hasn't been a lineman picked in the top 10. We are fastly approaching that.
Yeah, this could be the year where that
nuts.
might be the case.
In a year where the skill players aren't really the greatest. I mean, they're decent, but wow.
Yeah, just a lot of these guys have a lot of question marks around them when it comes to these offensive linemen. And then a lot of the teams that really need offensive linemen are kind of packed in the middle there. A lot of the teams, and again, it's easy saying this, a lot of teams in that top 10 really needed a lot. I mean, these are teams, most of them, for the most part, other than Kansas City and Washington, aren't teams primed and ready for a playoff push. These are teams that are slowly building forward. And usually those aren't the teams that are picking offensive linemen. They're kind of throwing a dart at the wall, hoping that they'll hit. And a lot of times they'll start off on defense before they make it to the offense. Again, Kansas City, Washington, those are two teams that, hey, they think they can make the playoffs next year because they think they have the roster for it. Everyone else, they're looking forward to the future and a reason for people to show up. And I think that's what the Titans did with their pick. But anyway, like a team like the Browns, yeah, you have an offensive lineman you need to pick, but there's going to be a lot of offensive linemen available later on.
True.
So why not get something that's also more pressing that you could fill a need for and then save up for when the offensive linemen are for value and you're not reaching. And you don't regret missing out on the guy that you could get else, or you could get in that spot better than any of the offensive linemen available.
So I've looked at a lot of mock drafts, and I'm probably going to butcher this name, and if I'm not even close, I apologize. Is it Jacob Amu?
For
Lomu.
Jacob
Lomu.
Okay, Lomu. I think he's still around when the Browns make their second pick.
More than likely.
If they go receiver right now, I wouldn't mind seeing him as their second pick of the first round offensive.
That's not
There's
the,
gonna
that's not
be-
the Miami kid, is it?
No, he is the other Utah
I
offensive
think
lineman.
I think he would do well here.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, again, guys, I probably looked at 20 different mock drafts, but that is the one kid that every time I read about him, I'm like, he's probably going to be around late in the first round. So with that being said, take a receiver here or go for it. Go for Caleb Downs.
Which is my exact point, because it's not just him either. I mean, offensive tackles that I think are going to be available later. Blake Miller, as we mentioned. Monroe Freeling, it feels like initially there's a lot of hype around him, but now I feel like I only see him associated with the Browns. So we might be able to get him later than we expect even. Lomu, and I think Maxi Onacher will likely be available there. He's an interesting prospect where you're kind of betting on his development because he hasn't been playing football all that long. Maybe Caden Proctor, but the hype around him continues to grow. I think he's probably likely going to the Lions.
I've always liked Caden Proctor, by the way. I don't know why there's been
and I trust your opinion more than my own.
Listen,
as a former offensive lineman.
If there's a guy that you're handing the ball off to and throwing passes to, the last guy I saw that happen to was Brian O'Neill, and he's been one of the longest tenured offensive linemen in the league for the Vikings. He's going to be making a pick on day 2. So listen, if you're athletic enough to be doing that, and you're also an Alabama offensive lineman, I know that some Browns fans aren't a fan of Alabama offensive linemen after getting bit by that bug a few years ago, but I like him. I always have. I've been a fan of him for 3-4 years now.
Who's the mountain of a man on the Browns who keeps getting hurt? Gigantic.
DeJuan
offensive lineman.
Jones.
Thank you. Couldn't think of the name to save my life just now. I mean, that could be your left tackle if he could stay healthy, but that's a giant if.
No.
So the pick,
he's too big.
I'm going to make a point about Blake Miller here in a second. But the pick is in. It is another receiver off the board from Arizona State, Jordan Tyson, the newest New Orleans Saint. So, again, it's going to line up for the Browns to take Caleb Downs at 9 or trade back. Keep those sneakers on your feet, Brandon Marvel. We will see what the Browns do here.
I have
in
a fun
second.
fact for you.
Jordan Tyson, yeah.
His brother,
Who's?
Tyson,
Okay.
plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize. I mean,
Yep, that's who that is.
Common last name in
Yeah,
athletics.
Kenny Atkinson said that they will. Someone on the staff will. Security. Yeah, security will notify him when his brother is drafted.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Brandon Sorter Punter. Jordan Tyson is the selection. Are you able to talk about him just yet?
Give me like 1 second here. Yeah, so Jordan Tyson, I love the pick here. Again, he kept talking about that he could go later, like maybe in
him on the Browns,
late
yeah.
teens, early 20s because of that injury history. But it started getting a little bit overblown where people thought he just couldn't straight up stay on the field. He had 1,000 yards each in his last 2 seasons. And when he was out there, he was the best wide receiver in college football. He's explosive, again, a true X receiver. He gives you some yards after catch ability that you don't necessarily get with Tate. Again, incredibly talented receiver. I'm not entirely surprised that he ends up going this early. I wish that the Browns would have had an opportunity to grab him as, 2 of the best receiving talents already off the board. And the Browns, it looks like the pick is in. So I'll go ahead and hit the shine.
Puka in the chat room says cannot notify him right now. He's in the game currently as we speak. Devin Lowe says, I need Caleb Downs right here. So Devin Lowe chiming in, Puka chiming in, tapped in with Tony. And if you haven't been tapped by Tony, you are missing out. He says, boo Saints, LOL. Let's get it. Yeah, a lot of good chat going on in the box. We have Yeet by Puka. But again, boy, man, the young man's crying. I love seeing that kind of thing. I'm an emotional kind of guy myself. But yeah, Blake Miller, it's funny because Strongsville, I'll never forget the first time I saw that kid. I had no clue who he was. I just saw a giant lineman, took a picture of him. You know what I mean? I'm going through my pictures the other day. I'm like, holy cow, I'm like, that was him. You know what I mean? So unique. But hey, guys, let's do it up. Cole McDaniel, you are the new Andrew Berry right now. What card did you just send in?
So if I'm Andrew Berry right now,
you'd be tapped in with
Jordan Tyson goes. And I already would have not been going Jordan Tyson personally, but I think there's a strong chance that they could go Jordan Tyson here. If it's me and I look at this board, I just traded back. I gained some more assets. If I'm Andrew Berry and I'm trying to be a mastermind, I'm taking Caleb Downs here, the best player available. I know that I have pick 24 where I can go wide receiver. I see that the tackles are sliding, which means that pick 39, they could still be in the mix early in the second round. And if there starts to be a run on tackles, late teens, early 20s, I take a couple of my assets, I package them together, and I get back into the late first round to end up with 3 first-round picks. So then I get Downs a wide receiver and a tackle. That's what I would do if I were Andrew Berry. I could see him going tackle here. I could even see him taking Ruben Bain just to have an edge rusher opposite Miles Garrett, who's an elite talent. But for me, if I'm Andrew Berry, which is what the question is, I'm going downs. I'm waiting for tackles to keep sliding. I'm thinking about wide receiver at 24, and I'm hoping that a good tackle, a Freeling, is there at 39 in day 2. If there starts to be that run, I'm packaging some assets and getting back into the end of the first.
Puga says, I agree with Cole. Anybody else want to chime in the chat box, please go ahead. Brandon Soder, you are Andrew Berry. What card are you sending in right now?
Oh, I don't love how this board has fallen. Again, with both of those receivers going, my plan's kind of out the window. I'm slowly sitting here talking myself into Mekhi Lemon to be that safety valve slot guy for our quarterback. I don't love him nearly as much of a prospect as I've done these other two. I think we have a pretty decent drop-off now going into the back end of the first round. You still have your pick of the board for offensive linemen, so that's incredibly tempting. If it's me specifically, Spencer Fano, I think, is the guy. Francis Maui-Noah, I think, a definite possibility there as well. So it is cool to have the entire board open to you, regardless of what you might feel is the draft as a whole. Like, you can get the guy right here if you trust yourself. But the more you guys talk about it, man, Caleb Downs, if we can somehow maybe sneak back into the end of the first round, or, again, maybe grab a receiver that second day, which I'm not convinced these guys are going to slide the way this draft has
Browns love
started.
day 2 receivers, unfortunately. We've seen that since they've been back in
They
the league,
do. They
going
do.
all the way back to Kevin Johnson.
So, if anything, I think it's Cole's plan where you grab, or grab a receiver later on still, whoever's available, Concepcion, Boston, someone there. Oh,
I
God.
like that name,
Yeah.
Concepcion.
Concepcion. It's a good one.
Remember
Yeah, man,
Juan-
I
Juan
might take
Itesha?
Downs, so you guys talk me into it. Give me Caleb Downs here.
All right, I'm going to pick the best player available, but really, who cares what I
Hey,
think
what's
it is?
going on
should
with
probably
Bane?
be
Is it
down.
because his arms are short,
Puga
or is
says-
it because he's
Bane
not?
Bane on this team would be absolutely incredible. He's my number
I
one
don't know where you
overall player.
put him though.
Well, the pick
On
has
the
been
line.
made. The selection is in. Again, it will be seeing me a little bit longer before we switch over to Brandon Marvel here in a bit. Going to stick around for some fan reaction. This is Keon Sports, and the pick is in. And, of course, it is Spencer Fanu, the tackle out of Utah. Young man seems very, very excited. We talk about the 2 Utah tackles. They did get one of them, not the guy I threw out there, but still another Utah tackle. Cole, tell us all about it. Shedeur Sanders running out of excuses because now he doesn't have to run for his life, hopefully.
Well, I mean, it's going to be Deshaun Watson starting, so
Yeah, a little bit.
I forgot about that.
Deshaun Watson's probably going to start is what I think will end up happening early. But anyway, I personally hate the pick.
Woo!
Again, I think tackles could have waited until later. I understand that you're getting one of the best here in this class. He's my number 2 overall tackle. But the top 2, I think, are natural right tackles. Now, here's the thing. The best person to evaluate linemen of all of us is Dom. I feel the least confident in linemen of saying who's going to be great compared to all the other positions. However, when I look at it like this, I can compare it back to my soccer career, right? As a left-footed player, and back in the day, like 4-4-2 formation was a big thing. And like in outside mids, a lot of times they wanted your dominant foot on the outside so then you could swing crosses in. I played a lot of left mid in club. The thing is things have shifted over time and we're seeing like 4-3-3 formations become increasingly more and more and more popular. They actually then want wingers to be cutting in so their dominant foot's on the inside so they're cutting in and hitting shots rather than swinging crosses in. I was always more comfortable than on the left side as a lefty. When I look at football and I look at guys who played at right tackle and they consistently played at right tackle.
Real quick, the next pick is
I
in.
do think
Go
it's
ahead,
a little
Cole.
different moving over to the left side. So I have a little bit of Jed Wills PTSD here with this pick. He's a good player. I hope it all works out, but I am a little concerned. I would have preferred a natural left tackle for the Browns rather than playing this switch over game that you've done with DeJuan Jones, you've done with Jed Wills. You're about to do it again.
And Cole, the Giants have also picked a lineman as well right after that. What do you think they were thinking as well? Because it's now their second pick here. This one, a lineman. And the Chiefs, not the Chiefs, give me 1 second to recollect myself. The Giants have gone ahead now and taken an offensive tackle and A linebacker. I mean, they're beefing it up here in the first round. 5
You
and
want to
10.
say who that offensive lineman is?
I'm afraid if I try to pronounce this guy's name, I'm going to blow it. So you go ahead and tell me.
Well, it's Francis.
Francis Maui Noah.
Maui Noah. See, I knew
Before
it.
we
No
get,
one even said that.
And now there's also been another trade, too. So the Dolphins have traded away their pick, and Brandon Marvel will be swapping some helmets here in a second. Miami has traded their pick to Dallas. Let's stick with the pick of the Browns of the offensive lineman, please.
Yeah, so Cole, I'm with you. As someone that I was a rare commodity at BW. It was one of the reasons why I got second team reps when I did, though my talent said I shouldn't have. At BW was because I was able to switch from right to left, and I was able to pass it on both sides. Usually, your right tackle is someone, they don't have as wide as a butt. I know that's a joke, and you're laughing. People are probably laughing. What does that mean? They're narrow, right? They're able to get down, run blocking. They're able to wash down. They're able to get to that second level, but they have a hard time anchoring down when it comes to those strong pass rushers at the NFL level, and it's hard when you're kind of doing everything backwards. Cool. How hard would it have been for you to swing in passes from the right side? It would have been hard, right? It would have been the same for me when initially when I went to college and I had the pass set to the right. It's hard. Now, again, these guys are a lot more talented than I am, but they've been playing and pass setting in that same spot for years. It is hard. When you're told you're a right tackle, you're right tackle. We need you to be the best run blocker on this team, and that's why they put you there. You're a lot of one-on-one opportunities with that edge. And also, you're washing down a lot, getting to those fast linebackers to the second level. He's able to do that. Here's the problem. Can he handle the fast pass rushers? Right tackles with narrow butts usually cannot. Can they keep up and can they anchor down with those strong pass rushers? History says they cannot. It worries me, but the Browns believe that they can. I have a hard time believing the Browns know what they're doing when it comes to evaluating right tackles as left tackles. It is a rare thing to do, and it is very difficult. The Steelers are also having this
They've
issue
shown that
too.
they can't do it over the years.
They cannot do it,
Yeah.
right? And also with DeJuan Jones, they kind of had to put him on the left side. Really didn't have a choice. He's a pure right tackle. Will they make the same mistake with this young man? I think they will. Hopefully for him, he's able to make the adjustment. It is a hard one to make and harder than anyone could possibly imagine. Again, Cole, that's a great example. It's like trying to swing passes in from your right foot. It is the same. If you're left-footed, it is the same thing.
We're going to go to Brandon Soder in a second to break down this pick, but wanted to throw it out there. We talked about it, in our pre-draft show. Then we talked about it tonight about who's going to make the trades, who's going to trade in, who's going to trade out. Wild to me that all the teams we talked about with multiple picks are the exact ones making all the trades. The Dolphins just made a trade with the Cowboys. We saw the Giants make a trade. We've seen the Chiefs make a trade. We've seen the Browns make a trade. So crazy enough, all those teams we've talked about literally have all made moves with the exception of the Jets. So that is funny. That actually 5 of the 6 teams with 2 picks have made it. I said a few minutes ago before I tag out to Brandon Marvel, and I want to stay on board for a little bit longer here. Brandon, I just said a little bit earlier that we hadn't seen any tackles get selected tonight, and now we see back-to-back tackles. Did the Browns get the best one or not?
On my board, they did. For their specific situation, I don't necessarily think it was a move, which is, again, why I wanted to wait a little bit longer and, take maybe a more run-of-the-mill left tackle later on in this draft rather than one of these guys you're projecting to either make a move or, again, could ultimately end up in that guard spot. Who knows what exactly their plan is at this point. If they are planning on throwing Fano over on the left side, we'll see. I'm trying to have some confidence in Barry in that we had every single lineman available to us, and they spent a lot of their top 30 visits with linemen. So I'm putting a lot of faith in Barry right now. I don't absolutely love it. There's other guys I would have rather snagged there. Even the next guy that went, Maui Noah, I think would have been a little bit better of a fit.
Ain't that something?
In Cleveland, but
Literally the next pick.
But we'll see. Yeah, that wouldn't be the first time that's happened. Again, going back to the Jedrick Wills draft and Tristan Wirfs going a few picks later.
Our first draft together.
Oh man,
Absolutely.
And then real quick before we move on, Dallas's pick is in. They're in commercial break, so that's not going. But quick compensation. It was just a swap of one spot. Miami going back to 12. They also get 2 fifth-round picks from Dallas.
It is amazing, and with the power of TV and the internet, I actually just saw who the Cowboys picked. I am definitely not going to ruin that for everybody at home. But the one thing I'll say before I check out of this and check Brandon Marvel in for a little bit so I can do my whole writing routine there. Guys, we want to appreciate you very much coming in, watching us every single year. I am personally glad to see that my personal fan is no longer in the chat group. Not sure what happened to her, but not heartbroken she's gone. Puka says 4th ranked tackle, 19th best player. I don't like it. So Puka is not thrilled. We have, I'm going to bomb that name. Looks like we'll go with Alec Carlo, 6584. He just throws up a heart with a medical sign. Not really sure what that means. But again, guys, we are very happy you are active in the chat group, and you guys seem to be having fun. We love doing this for you each and every year. Want to take this moment before I tag out and tag Mr. Marvel in, Chatty's Tavern, Chatty's Pizza, and our Golden Platinum Everything sponsor, Cement Masons Local Union, are the reason we are able to do this tonight. I will be back in a bit, but for now, I'm going to sub out for a little bit. Brandon Marvel is going to sub in, and he's going to take you through probably 5 or 6 picks at least. Sit.
Well, and as we make the switch here right now, I'll fill the time as Marvel's gonna hop in. The Cowboys here, they trade up one spot. They clearly have their eye on somebody. They really need defense. They have good offensive pieces, but they desperately need defense. Defense was terrible last year. Cornerback, linebacker, edge, my top areas of focus, the top needs for the Cowboys. I think Downs is definitely in the mix here. It would make a lot of sense to go Downs. Bain would also be in the mix. It's likely one of those two guys.
Yeah, glad to join you guys. Taking care of Vince's spot while he gets his write-ups done and shares the Browns picks to socials. Glad to join you guys. My first year here with the draft show. Couple of mix-ups already. Browns traded back to 9. Got their guy regardless. There was a report from Adam Schefter that even if they stayed at number 6, they would have taken Fano no matter what. So for the Browns to be able to move back to 9 and still get their guy, get some extra picks involved, is a good idea. As the Cowboys selection is coming in now, Roger Goodell gives his little spiel. And it is Caleb Downs, the safety out of Ohio State. They get their defensive guy, trade up one spot to get him to make sure Miami can't get their hands on him. Cole, what are your thoughts?
Well, Downs was my number 1 overall prospect. My number 1 safety, but like I said, my number 1 guy overall. What a freak Caleb Downs is in an era where safety is so valuable, not just in a natural, strong safety or free safety spot, but moving all over the field, right? Pinching up closer to the line of scrimmage in that nickel spot, or even crashing down into the box. You need a versatile safety, and we see so many of them offer defenses a lot of value. Downs is going to do that for the Cowboys. They need a difference maker. He is a difference maker. In some ways, hard to believe that, in my opinion, the best prospect is here at 12. But I had the Browns in my mock draft trading down with the Cowboys to 12 and being able to get Downs. So it felt like there was a trend that he may be here in this spot. Cowboys did trade up 1 to go to 11 to ensure that they got him, but he was still going to be right there in that mix. And that's an easily top 10, top 5 type of talent guy. You get just outside the top 10. Huge win for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and SP, another safety that maybe even in the ballpark considered as Dylan Thieneman, the Oregon safety. What makes Caleb Downs so much better than Thieneman, where we have him here at 11 rather than later in the early 20s, late teens?
I mean, it comes down to his instincts and his versatility at the end of the day. I mean, Downs is somebody that you can kind of slide up and kind of play a pseudo corner role, keep him at free range safety. There is nothing that he is not going to be uncomfortable doing. And somebody that really didn't have many blemishes on his tape at all, or his process. There were some weird rumblings about medicals towards the end there. Who knows? I feel like there's all kinds of smoke screens about that. And the fact that he wasn't really testing, there was some maybe concerns about his overall speed, but at the end of the day, like Cole said, he wasn't my number 1 overall prospect. He was still very high for me. And while you might say, like, oh, safety is not a premium position, I mean, you see what a safety of that caliber can do for your defense. I mean, go as far as in division and what Kyle Hamilton's able to do for the Ravens. So while in a vacuum, maybe safety is a more replaceable position, you cannot replace a guy like Caleb Downs, and they are incredibly difficult to find. And again, like Cole said, the fact that he slid this far, I think a no-brainer for Dallas. Again, Ruben Bain, personally, I still think should have been in that conversation, but for the Cowboys specifically, man, great fit, great player.
Yeah, you mentioned it, Kyle Hamilton for the Baltimore Ravens. If you do that draft over again, he may go top 5 rather than later in the first round like he did. Dom, your thoughts quickly on the down selection, and Miami's pick is in, so what is Miami going to do?
What is Miami going to do? Hopefully, going back to a podcast we did a while ago, hopefully they'll pray a little bit and get a miracle. Well, I can only hope for that for them. No, on a real note, this is a team that kind of scorched their roster. As they have the former University of Pittsburgh assistant stepping in as their head coach. Yes, he was assistant there in like 2006, but still, I'm still going to throw that out there. This is a guy off the one stat coaching tree, and I think it's going to be really a defensive-oriented team here. But a lot of their needs are on offense as well, as they got rid of a lot of guys in that wide receiver spot. But I don't know who they would pick. You guys mentioned before, there's a big drop-off. I don't know who they're picking that's going to make a big change for Willis down there at Miami. Maybe a cornerback if there's one still looming for you. I know you guys are the ones with the big boards, but maybe they reach for an offensive tackle. Again, offensive line is also a need for this team as well. Unfortunately for the Dolphins, they need a lot. Wait, is Bain still there?
Bain is still
Bain is
available,
still
which
there.
is where
Bain.
I'm going.
I mean, come on. I mean, you have Miami similar to Pittsburgh is close to with their college that if there is a guy, they keep a close eye on him. I mean, they play in the same stadium. They're going to want to take him. I think Bain's going to be the pick here. Now that you reminded me of it, I think that's a guy that they think is going to bring in a lot of attention to the Dolphins.
So Roger Goodell's coming to the stand as the Dolphins' pick is in. And will they go with the edge from Miami in Ruben Bain? They go Caden Proctor, the offensive tackle from Alabama. And I know you guys talked about it previous about those Alabama left tackles and how us Browns fans feel about a particular one. But that's a little bit of a stretch in my opinion. SP, what are your thoughts on Caden Proctor going 12?
Physical freak, great size, very athletic. Like Dom was saying, I'm not sold on his overall development. His footwork is still sloppy at times. A little bit developmental, in my opinion, for this early. And again, if you're going to go offensive tackle, the fact that you had the entire board pretty much still available to you other than Maui Noah and Fano coming off the board. Ruben Bain is, I think, the bigger story here as he continues to slide. He's got short arms. I don't really give a damn, right? Like, I understand he's an outlier, but he is an absolute people mover, and he's not getting enough credit for being a fully rounded out pass rusher. He does not just win with power. That's how he wins primarily and how he's going to continue to do it at the NFL level. But I don't know. That's kind of astounding to me. This is a reach for Proctor. I had him much lower on my offensive tackle ratings. And for a team that has so many holes to take a guy with, I think, relatively high bust potential, I don't love it at all for Miami.
Yeah, Cole, what are your thoughts quickly? And then we'll jump to Dom as the Rams pick is already in at number 13.
Well, there are so many needs for the Dolphins. The Dolphins have one of the most bare open rosters of any of the teams in the NFL draft this year. So they really need a lot of talent that can make an impact right away. And I also view the size of Caden Proctor, the athleticism he really is an athletic freak. However, I looked at him more as a late first round type of prospect. And I think it's early to be getting him here at 12. I agree with Brandon that with SP that really we're in a spot where the Dolphins, they probably can't take the risk on guys that are more bust potential, and they did here. Now, in all seriousness, but also joking at the same time, they did need to tackle at some point. They also have the worst wide receiver room in the league, right? So Caden Proctor's a guy who you sometimes throw the football to on screens at Alabama. So maybe they're actually bringing him in to be a wide receiver / offensive tackle, and that's actually the secret plan for the Dolphins. But ultimately, I understand why they did it. However, I think if there are a couple places in the league where Caden Proctor is most likely to be a bust, unfortunately, I think Miami is likely one of those places.
And the big thing with this offensive line room or prospect board this year, a lot of people weren't sure how college tackles, how many would transfer over to the NFL and remain a tackle, how many would go to offensive guard. Dom, what are your thoughts? Do you think Caden Proctor still has that tackle size and skill set to be a successful tackle?
Listen, he's too darn big to be a guard. He is, when it comes to body type, obsessed with the way he can move, obsessed with how big he is, how powerful his lower half is, able to drive guys who are also big off the line of scrimmage. He's a people mover, right? I understand that his footwork is not great, but sometimes there's some things, again, it needs to improve. You can't run through him, right? TJ Watt is going to have a hard time going through a guy like that. He is a big guy, and he's a super freak athlete, and sometimes that's all you need. If he's willing to put the work down there at Miami, he will be a good offensive lineman. I'm a huge fan on the way that he moves. I'm a huge fan of the fact he's a true left tackle, and he should be playing as a left tackle. If he moves anywhere else, I'm not too confident on it because that guy is just a freak of nature. He could pass set decently well. He can get back. He could drop back quick. If there's a wide 9 tech, if there's someone tight as well, he can anchor down and hold his space. I love the way he moves. I know I've said it 100 times over and again. I'm a huge fan of him at the college level. I'm curious to see how it works. I know the concerns for him that Cole and Brandon have both brought up, but sometimes you can just look at a guy and be like, that's a big boy who should be able to do big boy things down there at Miami, and I think he will. Again, someone that maybe would have been available later, but it is hard for me as an offensive line guy not to like the size and the speed and the talent on Proctor.
Yeah, and it's been hard to tell when exactly the picks are going to be made in this draft. You can't tell when they're going to go to a commercial for 5 minutes or when they're going to run off 3 picks in 2. But we're at a commercial break right now.
Can we talk about that real quick? So we're going to make it to where it's 8 minutes per pick, but we're going to change absolutely nothing about the broadcast to make this confusing as all hell. The Browns, we had no time to break that down because that was the one time that the pick was made. The next one was in because, again, we've been bleeding the entire clock, and they just went right to the next pick.
And I will say the hardest thing about being off the camera and having my phone there trying to get any trade updates, I'd get notifications about 5 minutes before the pick was made on TV. So I knew about 5 minutes before it ever showed on the TV, and you guys knew. So I was biting my tongue each time, or if I saw Fano was picked about 6 minutes before it was made on the TV. But while we're in commercial break, let's go back to that bigger story kind of right now is Ruben Bain, how he's still there at number 13 and the Rams are on the clock. Now, the Rams have an absolutely disgusting defensive line room. Their defense has been great. After that is the Ravens, who picked up Trey Hendrickson this offseason, improved their D-line room. Then you have a team like the Buccaneers. Cole, I'll start with you. Is this a situation where we might see a team try to trade up to get a guy like Ruben Bain?
Maybe, but I think there has to be reasons why he's sliding and everybody's moving off of it. Is it the arms? Is it the situation about that car accident from a few years ago that we're seeing brought up? I don't necessarily know what it is. I would say of the next couple teams that come up, I think the most likely to select Bain is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I think at some point the Rams will take an edge rusher in this draft. I'll talk about where I think that they're going to potentially go here right now. The Ravens, it makes sense, Bain falling into their lap, but again, I still look at them more so going with Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon, who's a direct Isaiah Likely replacement at tight end. So I think Tampa Bay, they really need to think about edge rusher. They need it bad. Bain would make a lot of sense for them. With the Rams here on the clock, I view this as a Mekhi Lemon spot. They have Puka Nacua and they have Devontae Adams on the outside. How about you already give a great roster and Matthew Stafford a great slot receiver, and you have 3 nasty receivers out there for him to throw the football to? I think that's the most likely fit for the Los Angeles Rams here on the clock.
Yeah, I like that Mekhi Lemon idea. Mekhi Lemon is one of those guys, if you need a slot guy to get you targets, Mekhi Lemon is the perfect kind of guy for your roster. And as you mentioned, Cole, you already have Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams outside for you. So adding that guy in the slot just makes your roster that much more
I will
dangerous.
say Lemon has been the chalky pick. Do not be surprised if they go with a Denzel Boston because I do not think that they like Devontae Adams and his health long term.
That's a fair estimate, especially with where he's at in his career. He's been in the NFL for a long period of time, especially for wide receiver standards. This is where we typically see that fall off, where we saw, DeAndre Hopkins types, Julio Jones types really fall off and just kind of trickle out at the end of their career. Dom, if you're the Los Angeles Rams, who are you going right here?
Who am I going with here? Again, it's hard to disagree with the strategy of maybe Lemon is the guy to pick, maybe Boston. I think going with wide receiver might be the right move, right? You have a window with Stafford, might as well take advantage with it while you have it. Puka, who knows what's going to happen with him long term with all the mistakes he's been making off field, and then Adams with his health. So maybe it's time to add on to that wide receiver room fairly quickly to make a push this season.
Whoa! We've come all the way back around on Ty Simpson.
Wow.
This was where the landing spot was for Ty at the beginning of this process, and it got pushed all the way back, me included, but Ty Simpson, the heir apparent to Matt Stafford.
That
Wow.
one is a big shock to me. Over the last couple of days, all the smoke around Ty Simpson was that he was connected somehow, some way to the Arizona Cardinals because their quarterback room is depleted. They don't know what they're going to do exactly yet. Jacoby Brissett isn't happy exactly. And here are the Rams at number 13, going with the Alabama quarterback, second in the SEC in passing touchdowns. I mean, how do you go from that? Is this just, like you said, the heir apparent to Ty Simpson? SB, do you want to kind of go off a little more on that?
I mean, I don't like Simpson as a prospect. He is my, as I'm buying time here, he is my third overall quarterback prospect behind Aller even, and that's because of the overall upside where I don't view Simpson as a long-term starter. I see him more as maybe a middling guy who can start you games on a team that's talented enough to win. That said, this is the best possible situation he could have landed in with Sean McVay. I don't think he has necessarily the same skill set as a Matthew Stafford, so I don't like the one-to-one there. I would have liked Aller better later on as kind of that project guy, but in a system where you're going to have offensive weapons going forward, you're going to have an offensive-minded, one of the best offensive-minded coaches in the game in Sean McVay, and then the most crucial thing, you have time. Unless Stafford gets hurt, that is his team. And Ty Simpson, who only had that one season of starting in college at Alabama, now has all the time in the world to continue to develop. So this is a situation where I don't love the prospect, but I love the pick here for the Rams and for that landing spot. Yes, they could have gotten a receiver or something that could have helped out the team right now, and they still have plenty of ammo to do that later on, but I understand the move, and I love this for Simpson specifically.
I agree with you 100% in that Ty Simpson, unless for whatever reason the Kansas City Chiefs took him, could not have landed in a much better situation. You get another.
But he's got to pat the start here as well.
Absolutely.
Where you're not starting in Kansas City anymore.
No. You have a guy who's as veteran and as seasoned and a Super Bowl winner in Matthew Stafford. You get to sit behind him for 2-3 years, depending on health, and you get to learn from one of the best behind Sean McVay as well as your head coach, and you get to see how they run their offense. Cole, what are your thoughts on the Alabama quarterback going to Los Angeles?
Well, I mean, you guys touched on it. You can't get much better fit if you're Ty Simpson. There's plenty of opportunities for him to learn. It's a great situation where it's a tribute to the Rams. You can tell that they feel good about where their roster is, considering they're taking Simpson this early. Where I didn't expect Simpson to be a guy going until maybe the late first or the early second round. I had him as my 67th overall prospect. So he's by far the lowest on my big board that's come off and been selected so far. He was my third quarterback. Same as Brandon. I liked the upside of Aller more than Simpson. I think he's a higher floor, lower ceiling type of guy. But with the Rams and all the offensive weapons that they have, I think that there's a lot of potential for any year in 2 years, Ty Simpson to step in and have success. It's one of the most likely spots for him to have success. Good pick, probably early for it, but the Rams aren't going to care. They feel good about where their roster is.
Yeah, and I mean, with a roster like this where you can kind of have your choosing and whatever you want to do, you can do, and you can say, hey, well, look at our resume. We've been pretty darn good the last few years, and we don't plan on getting worse anytime soon. We're going to go with a guy that we could potentially use in our future. Dom, what are your thoughts? And here, right after, is going to be the Ravens pick, who needs some interior O-line help. Do they go potentially Olivega Ione from Penn State here.
I'm just hoping they don't get Bane.
Yeah, that's a little
I'm
terrifying.
kind of in paralysis right now, thinking about Aaron Rodgers on his back because Bane is a Raven, and that would be a nightmare and would keep me up at night. For Ty Simpson, shocked he went this early. Not shocked he went to the Rams. You kind of heard the Rams liked him, and that he could be a good fit for the Rams. I think that he would have been available day 2, but hey, if you're confident where your roster is, if you don't feel like you can really add anything right now that would make a big difference, go ahead and find your guy for the future. They think they found him. And it's hard to disagree with the quarterback analysis from McVay and his staff.
So Ravens have their pick in, and Goodell is at the stand ready to make the selection. Still have Bane on the board.
Please don't pick Bane.
And they go with Olivega Ione, the offensive guard from Penn State. After losing Tyler Linderbaum and free agency to the Raiders, they get some interior O-lineman help with Ione, and I'm probably butchering that name, but that's all right.
Vega Owane.
I wasn't even close. All right. Well, thank you, SP. What are your thoughts? Dom, I'll go to you first as the lineman, getting some more interior O-lineman help after losing one of the best centers in the game.
Yeah, it's a good pick, I think, for them at guard. I liked Owane when he was at Penn State. I think he has the size to be a nice people mover, a big people mover, over 6'4". I mean, he's a big guy. Just look at him go. The stats we're playing for you. And when it comes to pass protecting, he's able to turn the switch. He can anchor down real quick. Pass protecting as a guard is different than a tackle. Instead of kind of getting out and you're in a lot of space, you're kind of taking a false step, waiting for that move, anchoring down, holding strong, keeping those arms out, and kind of maneuvering them around. You can also slap them down, too. You're able to kind of get your hands and hold a little bit more on the inside there. He is just a mean, lean, wrecking machine. They put him on the outside motion at times and have him just wreck a cornerback or an edge rusher. He is a big guy. He is a scary guy, and I think it's a good pick for him, especially when it comes to run blocking guards. I think they have a good guy there. And one big thing that I remember him from was when Franklin lost that game to was it who is it, Northwestern?
He lost a lot of games.
Yeah, to the
He got
Wildcats.
fired.
Of course, the game that got him fired at home were kind of how that loss affected Owane and seeing how emotional he was after that loss. So it's nice to see that he's in a landing spot like Baltimore, a team that's typically competitive. Upset that it is Baltimore because I have to watch him against my team, but he's a fun player at guard, and I think he'll have a decent career in Baltimore.
And now, Cole, this is our first offensive guard off the board. Where did you have – how do you say that name again? I'm going to butcher
Vega
it.
Owane.
Vega Owane. Was he around this for you? Do you like it with the Ravens? And Buccaneers are up and their pick is in, so do you think they go with Bane here?
Yeah, so Vega Owane was my number one guard. I think a really good prospect, really good player. He's my 12th overall prospect in this draft. And I look at this as the Baltimore Ravens. They did need interior offensive line help. Now, I think they need a center more than they need a guard. I don't expect Owane to move into center. I expect him to be one of their starting guards. So does that mean that, Andrew Voorhees or John Simpson potentially try to kick them into center? I don't think so. I think that they'll probably still take a center at some point in this draft. I don't think they're done with interior offensive line. But again, really good player. A lot of potential for him in the center should help solidify the middle of the offensive line a little bit more, even though they still need a little bit of work. Now, turning the page a little bit here, there are a couple guys still that were in my top 15. The three that are still available that were in my top 15 is Bane. You have nose tackle Caden McDonald of Ohio State and Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end of Oregon. Felt like Sadiq could have been a pick for the Ravens. He's not. He's still on the board. For the Buccaneers here, though, they need a lot of help on the defensive line. They need edge rusher. They even could use a nose tackle. I think that Caden McDonald, this would be early for him. I think it'd be a good fit for the Buccaneers. But to me, this feels like a no-brainer for Bane. They really need an edge rusher. their defense has dropped off from what it had been. Still have some good players on that side of the ball, but they really need an edge rusher. Bain would be a difference maker. It's shocking that he's still there, but we knew the slide was potential. I hope for his sake it ends. This is really one of the best fits that he could ask for here at pick 15.
SP, going to you with the Buccaneers selection. Who do you take? Do you take the offensive weapon and Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon, or are you in agreement with Cole here and you go with Ruben Bain and stop the slide?
So I don't love Sadiq in their system, and I think they like Cade Otton more than we're willing to admit. They're in Tampa, so I don't think this is the spot where Sadiq goes, who I view as an incredibly talented giant receiver, but I think that's kind of his limitation. He's not going to give you a lot of blocking or like any real help in the run game with that. But away from him, this could not be a better situation for them. Ruben Bain was my number 1 overall player on my big board, and Tampa Bay desperately needs pass rush, and it looked like, even though this is a deep pass rush draft, that the spot they were, a lot of the big guys could have been gone. Where like my next best pass rusher on here is Akeem Messidor, who, while he's a complete player, is a much older prospect and doesn't come with problems. Keldrick Falk is in this range. Like, not the same level of talent, not that nearly that same echelon as somebody like Bain, Reese, even Bailey. So it's clear as day to me that Ruben Bain should be the pick here, and I would be sprinting this pick in if I am Jason Light and Tampa Bay, because you're filling your number 1 need with the best player still on the board.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up David Bailey again, because I did see something. And Cole, I'm going to ask you this. So while David Bailey was short-lived at Stanford before he went to Texas Tech, 4 of the assistant coaches that are currently on the Jets were on that coaching staff at Stanford. How much impact do you think that kind of would have, or kind of pull that would have in taking prospects?
Well, I think it has a big pull, right? It has your familiarity with how they work, how they process information, how they learn. I think that probably gave an edge for David Bailey to go there. At the same time as they know what they were getting with him. So if it was even close between Arvell Reese and David Bailey, that's something that would potentially move the needle in that direction. So anytime there's college connections that then transfer to the NFL, it always increases the likelihood. Same as, not like it's going to happen, but Carson Beck to the Browns. Remember, Todd Monk and the connection at Georgia. Don't think that's necessarily going to happen, but you never know. You never know.
And there we have it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have selected Ruben Bain Jr., the edge out of the University of Miami, Florida. Miami Ohio's basketball team is now giving them that, where we have to make sure it is Florida, not Ohio, but goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay gets their edge help. Dom, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this was a guy 2 years ago where, when we saw him and his raw talent at Miami, we said, hey, maybe this can be a guy in a year or two that'll be a top pick. Didn't have a great year, not this previous year, but the year before. And then this year, I mean, he was just a wrecker in the backfield. Some concerns when it comes to his arms, which, again, I don't think is a big deal. I think we'll figure out a way to succeed with that car wreck situation, which I've heard from a lot of people from Miami, Florida, where they didn't seem too concerned with it, where that issue was already dealt with, that he was deemed at no fault with the accident, and that even the family of the victim even said that they wish nothing but the best for Bain, and that it wasn't anyone's fault, it was an accident. So hopefully that wasn't a big effect for him, and hopefully that's not something that was in the news a lot, so that family can kind of move on going forward with that situation. Bain's a great pass rusher. He's going to be joining former Pitt defensive tackle, who is a good pass rusher, in the interior. I believe forget his name. Is it Clancy? I can't remember his name.
Clancy.
Thank you.
Elijah Clancy.
I should know that, but he was on that ACC championship team a few years back for Pitt. I think those two together could be a wrecking crew for Tampa. And if it's one thing Tampa Bay loves, believe it or not, when saying this about a Florida team, is a good defense. And I think he'll bring that there with Clancy.
Yeah, and we've seen this fall for Ruben Bain end. In your time as an offensive lineman throughout your career, did shorter arms really have much of a big difference for these edge defenders if they were already just super powerful and could push you around?
I think it depends on the type of pass rusher. There were some guys where they were able to get their arms out on me because they were longer, but they didn't have a move. So I was able to swipe those hands down, get inside, kind of bring them in where they're uncomfortable, and then drive. Right? With a guy like Bain, he's able to get up close and personal with you. Now, it's easy to do that when you're going against Pitt, where they have undersized linemen. It is hard to in with Syracuse and schools like that, Boston College. But how are you going to do that when you have a DeJuan Jones? Or you have the Steelers, both their tackles, very long arms, both can play left tackle. It's going to be really hard for him to get inside. So he's going to have a good quick move that doesn't rely on his hands. Swat a hand down, slap down, rip, push, pull, rip. Things where he can kind of get in quick and get out, right? Things where he can use his speed. If he's going to be more tight to the line of scrimmage, he's going to have a hard time. If he can play a wide 7 or a wide 9, he'll be set to go, and he'll be able to kind of take advantage and really stretch those tackles out. Hopefully he doesn't stretch himself out and also push himself out of the bubble where that quarterback can then step up and make a good throw. Hopefully they can develop him in Tampa Bay. They've done it before when it comes to pass rushers, and I think they can do it again. The short arms, I think, will have some growing pains with them, but I think he'll be successful either way.
Now, Cole and SP, we both know that you guys love that this pick fell to Tampa Bay here at 15. You're glad they were able to get him for that much-needed edge help. So I'm going to kind of jump ahead to the Jets' next pick here. Took David Bailey, number 2 overall from Texas Tech. They got their edge defensive help. Now, I'm going to start with you, SP. Do they go stick to that defensive side of the ball, or do they go back offensive side, get a Mekhi Lemon or a Denzel Boston, or do they go O-lineman here?
I think you go offense at this point. Again, plenty of needs on this team kind of all over the place, but it feels like Omar Cooper Jr. has been penciled into them for a while, and he's obviously still available here. And Mekhi Lemon adds a little bit of an interesting wrinkle to give them that slot presence. You've got Garrett Wilson, obviously, already as your primary guy, so I think Lemon could slot in there pretty well. But Omar Cooper Jr., another guy that primarily played out of the slot, even though you can play him outside, and I think will have value there. I think it's going to be Omar Cooper Jr.
Now, Cole, we'll go to you now. What do you think the Jets do?
Well, I think they need to go with a receiving weapon. Garrett Wilson needs some help because the help he has right now is Adonai Mitchell and Isaiah Williams. I'm not that impressed. So Mekhi Lemon, Denzel Boston make sense as the picks here. They're definitely tied to Omar Cooper Jr. Don't forget that Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out there, who he's still available. He's like a big wide receiver. They took Mason Taylor last year. They have Jeremy Ruckert, who's a good blocker, so maybe they could do something like that. But it has to be a pass catcher here.
And I'm going to cut you off here real quick, Cole. They did just go with Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon. How do you like that fit for the Jets?
Well, I think it's interesting because I'm higher on Jeremy Ruckert. He didn't necessarily turn into what I hoped he would be out of Ohio State in the NFL, but he does offer blocking value as the current tight end 2 on the roster behind Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor was their main guy. I felt like Mason Taylor should probably be more of a tight end 2 for a team rather than the primary one. Probably a little bit better of a blocker, good receiver. I don't see as high of a ceiling. But what I expect now, expect a lot of 2 tight end sets from the Jets, and you're also going to see Sadiq probably be split out wide and running out of the slot too. He doesn't necessarily have to be lined up on the line. He's just then going to be a big receiver for them. So interesting, but it's at least going to help out with giving them some more weapons. And you get the best pass catcher of who is available.
And SP, how did you have Sadiq falling on your big board? Was he around this range, and how do you like the fit?
No, he was around this range. I wasn't necessarily considering the Jets before because I do like Mason Taylor, not necessarily like putting all my eggs in that basket. I just didn't think that was the direction they were necessarily looking. But as I kind of mentioned earlier, Kenyon Sadiq, I see as more a pure pass catcher, which is totally fine for this system. You know, he's not going to be filling any holes on the offensive line or like trying to pick up for their tackles or anything. They had a much improved line last year and one of the very few bright spots on that Jets team. So it made sense that they were going pass catcher. If we're just talking, again, pure pass catchers, he was the highest available that I still had with Mekhi Lemon and Omar Cooper Jr. behind him. Little surprised that it wasn't Cooper. They didn't go the more traditional wide receiver route, but at the end of the day, they still kind of accomplished what they needed to do with the Sadiq pick.
And do you see him being probably slotted in as just a big outside wide receiver, or do you, because he's only 6'3", 240, I say only, but that's not very big for an NFL tight end.
Mhm.
You see more receivers that are 6'3", 240 in the NFL than tight ends. So do you see him being more used as just a receiver strictly, or do you see him maybe chip blocking here and there on certain plays?
Here and there, yes. He's a willing blocker. He is not an able blocker, I don't think, at the next level, where if you're constantly putting him up against bigger linebackers, he's really going to struggle in those assignments. I see him more in a Kyle Pitts-esque role, which I know is going to scare a lot of people because Pitts was not the player that we kind of expected him to be, but you would have felt a lot better getting Kyle Pitts at pick 16 versus pick, 4 or wherever they took him in that draft ahead of even a Jamar Chase. So I like that player at this position significantly better than what the Falcons did. But yeah, he is, I think, primarily going to be a receiver, and that tight end position moniker is going to be more an ornament than anything else.
And to chime in really quick, I'll say this, that think of Kenyon Sadiq a lot like how the Baltimore Ravens used Isaiah Likely, right? Mark Andrews was the primary tight end. It had more of the blocking responsibilities as well as being a receiver. And Likely would oftentimes line up sometimes in the shotgun in like a slot position. I expect a lot of that with how the Jets are going to use him. Same with how Harold Fannin was used with the Browns sometimes last year when he and Njoku were both on the field. So Sadiq gives them that versatility to be able to use him in other ways than just being on the line.
Now, we have the Lions coming up next, and their pick is already in while we're in a commercial break. They just had the retirement of Taylor Decker last year after they wanted to re-sign him back later in the season, failed his physical, and now he's just officially retired now. Dom, do you see the Lions dipping back into that offensive tackle bucket where we still have a guy like Monroe Freeling, we still have a guy like Caleb Lomu, the other tackle from Utah? Do you see them going more in that direction here?
Yeah, I feel like they have to. At running back, I think they feel comfortable at what they have. Wide receiver as well. They have their quarterback. Defense, for the most part, they seem decently set. The big question for them is who will be blocking at tackle with Decker retiring, and you got to fill that void. You got to fill it quick. Again, you have one of the best tackles on the other side. Just got to make sure the other side is shored up. And, Decker is a tough loss for them. This is a team that they don't think the window's closed despite not making the playoffs last year. I don't think it's closed either. You get an offensive lineman, you'll be set to go going into this next season.
And SP, as Dom mentioned, they don't think their window's closed. They have an electric offense with Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Isaac Tesla, who we saw flashes of incredible hands that he has to catch balls in the end zones and jump balls and things of that nature. Are you in agreement with the offensive tackle side here, or do they maybe go a little bit of defense touch-up?
I do think offensive tackle makes the most sense, and it's what I would do, certainly, if I were the Detroit Lions. As you mentioned, there's plenty of guys left. A couple you didn't mention. I think Caleb Proctor was going to be their guy, right? There was a ton of talk around that. Max Yonicher still feels like that kind of a pit, which a little bit of a reach for me, but I got 100% see in Dan Campbell's system as someone that can start right away but will need some development. They've got a strong enough core there that I think they could get away with it. Don't be surprised if they go defense, specifically defensive line. I think this is where Caden McDonald's range kind of starts, the defensive tackle from Ohio State. Wouldn't love it, but wouldn't necessarily be surprised either. I think smart pick here is offensive line.
And Cole, we see that there's a lot of options still available, but obvious needs. As Roger Goodell comes to the stand, quickly, what are your thoughts on this Lions pick coming up?
Well, they do need to replace Taylor Decker at left tackle, so Caleb Lomu is potentially in the mix. I think this is Monroe Freeling, direct fits there. I think Akeem Messidor, could be a potential option as an edge rusher. They don't have somebody opposite of Aiden Hutchinson I feel confident in.
Yeah, Akeem Messidor wreaked havoc last year in the backfield alongside of Reuben Bain Jr., who we saw get picked at 15 by the Buccaneers for the Miami Hurricanes, both in the regular season and deep into the playoff run they had last year going up against Indiana in that national championship game. And it's cool. I kind of like what they do every year with the NFL draft. They always have at least one team that has somebody who has a make-a-wish to be a part of this draft process, and that's always something I really respected that the NFL draft kind of takes part in.
They'll make the Lions pick here. Blake Miller, the Strongsville, Ohio native.
I'll get Vince.
Yeah, we need him down here.
Yeah.
Wow.
SP, you just mentioned it. Blake Miller, the Strongsville, Ohio native. We've all seen him play live in a game. He was a monster of a human being as a high schooler. And then he went on to Clemson, the 6'6", 317 pounds. What kind of impact is Blake Miller going to make for the Detroit Lions in their offense?
Well, I think the biggest thing with Blake Miller is a good thing. He's a safe, boring pick on the offensive line. His strength is a little bit of a concern at times, but still a 4-year starter at Clemson, which has, up until last year, was a very, very competitive program, one that was always in the playoffs. I think this is an incredible match for them. I'm very happy for Blake Miller. He was one of the highest-rated players I had left on my board still. Again, I feel like so often we overthink offensive line picks. Dom might not like this, where we look at traits more than we look at production. Blake Miller is a productive guy who has just done his job now for 4 years, and I see continuing to do that in the NFL. And I love the fact that he gets to do it now with the Detroit Lions on what should be a competitive team right off the bat.
And Cole, we were talking about it a little before we went live today, how you and Dom saw the Brunswick versus Strongsville game to end his senior season. You saw him in high school. You watched him in college. What have you liked about Blake Miller?
Well, he's massive, right? He made the defensive line look small when he was in high school, and he as soon as you walk into a stadium, it's like that guy is different, and you could just look at him immediately before the first play, even because of the size. Then he goes off to Clemson. He starts all 4 years there. Had a really good career in college, and he's just a steady player. I like Blake Miller. He was my 7th overall tackle, though. I wasn't as high on him as SP. He's my 38th overall prospect. I really like him. I like the fit with Detroit. I actually had Detroit taking him in the 2nd round. So I actually had him going to Detroit. They get him here in the 1st. My only concern with him, he spent all 4 years at right tackle for Clemson. So now he's got to try to make the switch over to left tackle. I'm curious to see how the switch is going to make, unless they decide to switch over Penei Sewell, which I think is probably the more likely option because Sewell is such a great talent. But the only question is, will Sewell see a little bit of a drop-off moving from the right side over to the left side? I'm not sure. So maybe Blake Miller still gets to play right tackle. I think that would be better for him. I doubt that they'll switch him over as likely as Sewell. Regardless, somebody's got to make the switch over, which is a little bit of a challenge.
Real quick, I want you to give your opinion on Blake Miller as well, Dom. Do have to announce, I put it up on the screen, Caleb Banks taken by the Minnesota Vikings, which I do want to dive into at some point as well, because he's a prospect that a lot of question marks around him with his injuries. But again, let's go Blake Miller before we kind of dive into Caleb Banks, if you want, Dom.
Yeah, is my mic? My mic's off.
Sure is.
Yeah, that's all right. One thing I really like about Miller, you got to love his size. Again, I think he'll stick out right tackle. He has the build as a right tackle. I don't think he's quite white enough to be a left tackle. But I like where he's at right tackle. He manipulates his splits. So what that means is sometimes as a tackle, you can't be scared to, hey, maybe you tip your hat of what you're going to do a little bit. And you're like, Dom, why would you do that? Why would you ever, not disguise everything you're doing? Well, sometimes you want to drag that end out of the play, right? If you're going down and that play's going to the left, why not just completely take that end out of the play and be a foot or two out wider than you're supposed to be? There's nowhere for him to go, right? If you're going to, it's a tight run situation, bring it in, make your splits tighter. He had the freedom to do that at Clemson. That's a guy that understands alignment and assignment and how to manipulate it in his favor. And that is a smart tackle, right? That is something that the best tackles that I've played with, some of the best tackles I've ever talked to, I've seen, they all do it, right? They are a milestone ahead of some of the other tackles where they just want to line up and go, which is great. But he is thinking, he is looking at the playbook. How can I manipulate my splits? How can I get off the ball quicker? How can I utilize my hand position? That's the type of player he is. It also helps he's an absolute mountain of a man. When me and Cole saw him play, I remember even saying to Cole, and I don't know if Cole remembers this, I said, he is incredible getting out of his stance for how big he is at the high school level when he was in high school, how good he was getting out of his stance, and that he was miles ahead, the way that he watched the play breakdown, and also how that he broke down the plays in front of him, where it was, okay, the end went away and looped around. That means someone's coming in tight. I need to get down tight too. He did a great job breaking that down his entire career. He's a smart player. I think he's physical enough. I think he's going to end up being a good guy for the Lions, and I think also having a guy who's now a veteran in say his name, the tackle for the Lions.
Penei
Oh,
Sewell.
Penny Sewell.
I can never
Sorry.
say his name right. Soul. He learning alongside him, I think, will be good for him as well. That is, and also Campbell being your coach doesn't hurt either. So I'm a fan of that move. Probably a little bit higher than I think most people expected, but I think he'll be successful nonetheless.
And I know Vince was excited about this prospect potentially being picked in the first round for weeks, if not months now. So I'm going to step back. Vince is going to come back with you guys. And if not later tonight, I'll see you guys tomorrow night.
All right. Thank you, Marvel.
Thank you, Marvel.
You will be seeing them a little bit later tonight as the Browns have a second pick. And now I have a second article to write about because you just touched on it. Blake Miller out of Strongsville. You know, it's crazy because I tell you what, guys, usually you hear about the quarterbacks. Every now and then you hear about a receiver, maybe a DN. But, you know, high school's high school for a reason, right? There's a lot of big kids who play offensive line, no offense. But, you know, some of them go on the ball on the wall.
I wasn't that big.
Some of them go on to the NFL. Kind of a cool moment, like I said, you know, for us being known as the Northeast Ohio football crew to see one of our local kids as Brandon is back over to the board here. And it does not affect the Browns. It looks like the Eagles and Cowboys are swapping. But I won't get too deep into it, though. But, you know, congratulations to the community of Strongsville, Ohio. Huge fans of ours. I know we do at least one, if not two, Strongsville games every year on the live broadcast. So a big deal there. And I would just want to echo not only with Blake Miller, but Ty Simpson, while he might not be first-round talent, it's actually a great fit with him. Great coach with Sean McVay, and a great mentor to learn from with Matthew Stafford. So those were kind of the two things that jumped out while I was putting up that article on the Browns. Looks like another offensive tackle off the board. This one, Monroe Freeling from Georgia, off to Carolina. So, Cole, I'll kind of let you take over as I get resituated here, but I know you got to love that feeling as well. You know, again, that young man from Strongsville, you called at least one or two of his games over the years.
Yeah, for sure. I want to take a step back to the last two picks here. We got to do a little bit of catch up here at the moment. I'll say this: the Minnesota Vikings on their defensive line, they need a defensive tackle. Interesting to me, though, I really felt like a nose tackle would do a huge world of difference for them. And they need to get tougher against the run. They have some good edge rushers right now, but they need to be more stout in the middle. Caden McDonald, to me, felt like a slam dunk for the Vikings, but instead they go with Caleb Banks, my fifth defensive tackle prospect compared to McDonald, my first. And then Banks goes down the list for me. He's my 48th overall prospect. Again, he's got some explosiveness, good player. They address the interior, but I think they miss by not going with McDonald with this pick. And then before you pass this off from me, I'll say then the Carolina Panthers, they went with Monroe Freeling. They needed to touch on offense. I thought there was a chance they could go wide receiver to continue to add to the weapons that they added last year already. They made that addition with taking Tet McMillan last year. However, they take a tackle looking to protect Bryce Young, who seems to be hitting a little bit better stride in his NFL career. And that's where we stand here as the Eagles traded with the Cowboys.
I would agree with that, too. I feel like Carolina, I'm not going to say they got over the hump last season, but definitely found a stride that worked well for them. McMillan had a really great rookie season. It's Mekhi Lemon, the receiver. You mentioned receivers. There's another one from USC, so we're seeing a bit of a run on receivers here. And Lemon to the Eagles. I know I've seen a lot of trade talk with the Eagles regarding receivers. You know, does this pick exactly shock you, Brandon? Because quite frankly, it does not for me. You know, they jumped up to get him, and now they got their guy.
The player or the position doesn't shock me. Trading up for Mekhi Lemon feels like a little bit of an odd fit with Devonta Smith in there as well. I know he's not necessarily always a true slot player. I thought they'd be looking for a little more size with A.J. Brown, for all intents and purposes, out of the building now and heading to New England.
Right.
A great receiver. He's going to be a ball hog, someone that can catch, 10, 15 balls for you a game. So not a bad player at all. It's just an interesting fit. But obviously the Eagles liked him a lot, enough to move up, and saw a big enough difference between him and like I said, Boston Concepcion. I would have just stayed put if I was Philadelphia. I don't know what exactly they gave up. They didn't make a massive jump or anything, but again, good player. Question the fit a tiny bit, but he's still going to be productive there in Philly.
You know, again, this is definitely a boom or bust situation. Wanted to look up here. Stephon Diggs, did he re-sign with the Patriots? Anybody know off the top of their head? And if not, I'll look it up real quick. But
It's a good question.
you know,
I don't
Brown
think so.
going to the Patriots is actually there. A lot of good things could happen there. That's a team that kind of laid an egg in the Super Bowl, but before they got there, they really hit their stride about midseason and took off. I believe it was about an 8-game winning streak at one point. And if they bring back Diggs back to go with Brown, Patriots might be something to look at. Cole, how do you see the draft going so far? I mean, we are about 2/3 of the way done, coming up on Pittsburgh here in a second. I know usually one of our favorite moments of the draft is watching Dom make that Pittsburgh pick. But not only what do you see the Steelers doing here, but what are your early thoughts?
I think early thoughts so far to this point is even though there are plenty of surprises of where guys landed, overall, I mean we're on pick 21 now, and of my top 21 picks, we have about 75% of those guys gone for my top prospects in that range. So I think it's there haven't been too many crazy surprises. Maybe Ty Simpson when he was maybe the earliest leap in my perspective, but it makes sense with the fit. So overall, not too much that's completely shocking. I think that was probably the biggest reaction we had at all. As for the Steelers here, I think the thing with the Steelers is sometimes when it comes to them, even when they need offensive players, Dom knows it. A lot of times they love to go defense. They love to take the best guy available. I'm not going to be shocked here if they take a Caden McDonald, right? A nose tackle. Is it really a major need for them? No, but they
Not
love
at
Ohio
all.
State. They love Ohio State defensive players.
Love it.
I could see them taking somebody like that because they're high on their board. Realistically, Terrell or McCoy, a cornerback, could be a good fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I got a feeling it's Pittsburgh. They're probably going to go defense, even though defense is their strength.
I would say they're pretty short up on defense for the most part, no?
I think so. But it's the Steelers. They love to take a good defender if they're available.
And Cole, did you see the Steelers going 9-8, just either making the playoffs as a 7 or barely missing them?
I mean, they're always going to be about 500. It's just a matter of is that good enough to get in or not. So it's the same old story.
It's like we often talk about it on the Climate Tech NFL Prediction Show. We absolutely love Sunday Night Football in the NFL. Usually, this year had a few clunkers, but for the most part, usually the best game of the week, Sunday Night Football. Read today, Mike Tomlin going to be on that staff. Brandon, you looking forward to that? I think Mike Tomlin's going to be a bit of a straight shooter. He's got nothing to lose.
But he does, because I'm not convinced that he's done with coaching.
No, I mean, I don't think he's done with coaching either, but the guy's got a Super Bowl ring. I mean, he's a winner. I
but
love Mike
point
Tomlin.
being, I'm worried, and I love Mike Tomlin. I'm worried he's going to be a little too white bread on the broadcast because he is kind of waiting for that next job to open up next year and doesn't want to give away too many things. But, I mean, we will see. I'm happy for him. I figured he'd land in media somewhere. He's always been a very, personable guy with the media, animated. So we'll see how it goes as, Pittsburgh up on the clock here. They are going to milk the crap out of this thing, I'm sure, as Dom is waving his metaphorical terrible towel.
I was going to bring my actual terrible towel, but it's hanging on the wall. They're going to commercial, which means I got to do this the whole time.
Oh,
And the
and
pick
we're-
is Kenny Pickett.
Woohoo! Kenny Pickett, roll it back, baby.
Well, let me ask you this.
Carson Beck.
Dude, actually, I wouldn't mind that. He can throw the ball deep, and that's all I like. Either throw the ball deep or don't throw the ball at all, right, Vince?
Okay, but seriously, though, they almost cost themselves the playoffs. They needed a miracle in the end there to beat the Ravens, a wild field goal, all that crazy stuff. But the week before, I mean, losing to the Browns because you didn't want to give up the sack record against Myles Garrett.
Look, that's Lynn Swan who just caught that ball. What do you know about them
Right,
70
so again,
Steelers?
so Myles Garrett's going to break the sack record against Pittsburgh, and they said, you know what? At the end of the game, we'd rather lose this game by throwing screen passes and everything else
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, my friend.
You're okay with that, right?
I don't care. Hey, listen, they made the playoffs. The Browns didn't. You can have your sack record. We'll take going to the playoffs and not winning every year.
Speaking of
baby.
sacks, you got a really strong motion going on with your wrist. Have you been practicing your terrible towel flag waving before? we
All the
came in?
time.
Yeah. Well,
Should I start singing the Super Bowl song?
I got 2 girls in bed upstairs. So,
How about the Pittsburgh Steelers polka? We're the town with a great football team. Bum, 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 bum. We are the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's been many years in trying.
How many Super Bowls
Please
so
make
far?
the pick
The
already.
Pittsburgh Machine. Okay, this is ridiculous. I'm hurting. All right, switch hands.
Vince, I don't mind you having your friends.
Oh
over
my
for-
God! All the high school kids are coming out.
But if you-
That kid's from Beaver
That's
Falls.
Ray Lewis.
Elwood City.
That's Jerome Bettis.
That's Rome.
Oh wait, that is Jerome Bettis. Wait, what am I? Yeah.
You have some questions to answer, my friend.
Yeah,
Ray Lewis.
yeah, complete wrong team. But I got thrown off because like, oh, the high schoolers are coming out, and here comes giant man in a gold jacket.
Who are these? Oh no, that kid. He's from South Fayette. Reason why I don't have a state title ring. I'll tell you what. Not that kid in
That
particular.
exact
Yeah,
kid.
South
That
Fayette. Look at
specific
that
kid.
Yeah, I don't like that kid.
Is that why he's got the title that says "Screw you, Dom"?
So South Fayette beat us my freshman year
I couldn't tell
to
something
the
was
Western
wrong.
Finals.
Okay.
So they were going to Hershey to play in the state championship game. Their fans were pelting Hershey kisses at us.
Wow.
Actually, no, that was a thing. You would throw Hershey kisses on the field when you go to the
Sure.
state title game. Oh, I'm sorry. What do they throw here? You go in the Canton. Parking tickets?
So I'm gonna let you make this pick. Vitus is gonna make it on the TV. You are gonna make it for us.
Huh?
Are you excited? It's great too because there was a very difficult name that he had to pronounce that I didn't. So
All right, the
great.
Pittsburgh Steelers, who are going to the Super Bowl eventually, they're selecting. Oh my God! How do you say that? Max, I hit anchor. What name is that?
Maxioniture.
That's not what that says.
Yes.
No.
This is that developmental guy. He hasn't been playing football for long, but I like him a ton as a prospect.
Is he asleep? He's so bored to be picked by the Steelers that he fell asleep.
They have that effect on people, Vince.
8, 9, 9, and 8 playoffs. I'm old enough to remember when there was only 16 games per season.
Well,
I think
you remember the leather helmets too, Vince?
Not that old. Cole, what can you tell us about this young man? As Dom's just a loss for words.
Wait,
here.
why'd they get a tackle?
Well, Ian Ultra, and honestly, Dom, you just asked a question that I'm wondering too. I think
They
they
have
need
two of them.
they need interior offensive line help. They need a guard or a center. Now they're going offensive tackle, and an offensive tackle at that, who is the biggest developmental prospect in this draft. He's my 71st overall prospect on my big board. He's my 8th tackle. There's a lot of potential with his athleticism. There's a lot of good things to work with, but he very much so is a developmental type of guy. Could they try to slide him into guard? Potentially. And would that protect him a little bit more with him being a developmental guy? Maybe. This is not a typical Steelers type of pick. I think a lot of times the Steelers, they take advantage of when other teams, they let guys start to slide and they get a really good defensive talent or they capitalize on that. Usually I look at the Steelers as a dangerous team when it comes to the draft and who they pick. I look at this one kind of as a weak pick, not a typical Steelers one. We'll see if it works out for them. I question it.
Is he a guy that they would move inside?
What
Or-
doesn't
or-
make sense?
or
I feel like
Broderick?
Caleb Lomu would have been a better candidate if you're looking for
Well-
someone to pop inside
Well,
than Ionicher.
So they have that kid from a few years ago they drafted out at tackle. But would they move Broderick inside and keep this kid on the end? I'm confused.
I mean, they got to try something with Broderick. It has not been working as is.
Well, he's been injured.
Mhm.
But I don't know what they're doing. They get this guy who says he's a Yinzer from who knows what, and they bring him in as head coach. Now they're making weird picks. I miss Mike already.
Brandon, what do you think about this pick?
He was. I had Lomu ahead of him as far as like available tackle prospects left. My question was more on like picking tackle. I don't necessarily hate going offensive line. If you're going straight interior, I think the talent is more like second round. at that point. It was a weird position for Pittsburgh where the talent's starting to kind of fall off the board. They took a guy that has a lot of upside in Ionicher, who, again, he's inconsistent right now, but that's because he has not been playing football for a very long portion of his life. So maybe they're just kind of trying to swing for the fences, which is not a very Pittsburgh thing to do, I feel like. Intriguing, I guess, in general. I don't love it. I like the prospect. I don't love the fit.
So, Cole, I'm going to go back to you for a quick second here, right? Chargers pick, then the Cowboys, then the Browns. Is there anything that could happen in the next 2 picks that would make the Browns, for whatever crazy reason, trade again? Or do you think they're sitting pretty at 24 no matter who goes these next 2 picks?
I think they're sitting pretty because I think Denzel Boston is probably the most likely pick. He was my 4th wide receiver prospect in this class. I think there's a significant drop off after you get past him at number 4. I felt like Carnell Tate was by far the top guy. I felt like Tyson and Mekhi Lemon were pretty close because even though they're different types of players, and then I had Boston really right after them, not that far behind. Boston is behind Tate, I think, the next best fit for the Cleveland Browns. I don't see Dallas taking him. I really think that they're probably going to sit pretty there. They're going to select Boston, and he instantly becomes wide receiver 1 for the Cleveland Browns.
So Mesidor to the Chargers, the edge rusher out of Miami. Good fit for the Chargers?
Well, I think the thing with the Chargers is I view them as a team that they did need an edge rusher. I think that Cassius Howe of Texas A&M would have been a better fit. They're in that 3-4 scheme. I also think that R. Mason Thomas, who's really explosive out of Oklahoma, would have been a better fit. I have them both above Mesidor. Mesidor's an older prospect. I think he's 26 years old at this point. So he's going to make an impact. He was one of that, the two that was that good duo at Miami in Bain and Mesidor. So he's going to add some value to the Chargers, but how long is he going to be able to produce at a high level? He's going to give you a shorter time frame likely than some of these other guys who are a bit younger. And I also think would have been better fits for the scheme. Like I said, R. Mason Thomas, Cassius Howe, not a bad pick. Expected him to go in the first round. But we'll see what he does with the Chargers. Don't love it, but also can't really knock it.
You got to figure the Browns with Deshaun Watson, one more year of him. For whatever reason, 50-50, there's always going to be disagreement. On Shedeur Sanders, they seem actually pretty sold on him as well. Dylan Gabriel's still there. Do you think there's any chance in the world that the Browns stun everybody and take Drew with the second pick?
I
would say
love
the odds
Drew,
are
but
probably 1
absolutely
in 100.
no. Absolutely not.
So you think Ty Simpson's going to be the only shock?
I think any other team in this class, unless you are taking just a project dart throw, which the Browns are really not in a position to do, you're looking at next year's class because that's shaping up to be significantly more stacked from the quarterback position. Now, we did say that last year as well, so nothing is guaranteed, but a lot of big names gearing up to come out next year. So with the top 2 guys off the board, it's kind of a crapshoot from there. I would not be surprised, again, Carson Beck's name for some reason was being mentioned as a potential first-round pick. If the Browns do that, I'm completely out on this franchise, and you will not see me donning Browns clothing ever again in my freaking life.
Yeah, just wear your Falcon stuff and Kevin Stefanski.
What about the Falcons climbing of the...
Okay. Being a Cleveland and an Atlanta fan across every sport is the most miserable existence that any human being can have. I need you guys to understand that. If the Browns somehow take Carson Beck, I can't do it anymore.
But you can throw the ball really far, though.
Wait,
I'm going to become a hockey fan.
Think about last year when everybody got so excited every time they skipped over Shedeur Sanders. Like, oh, we dodged him for another round. We dodged him for another round. All of a sudden, it's the 5th round and kaboom. So don't think just because Beck gets out of tonight and tomorrow night, they ain't taking him.
But
we all thought that about Sanders last
stomach
year.
it if they're taking him in round 5 or 6.
That's what people said about Sanders, and he went on to do nothing. So
okay, but Sanders, the slide was he has not done nothing. Let's calm down about that.
He was a Pro Bowler.
Yeah,
He's trash.
Okay, Cole, it is your favorite movie. The Browns received the first overall pick. What did they have to give up to the Seattle Seahawks to get it?
That's not my favorite movie.
Well,
It's your favorite movie.
favorite.
Dude, you literally texted us Probably about 7,000 words. It was the entire plot of Draft Day.
Okay, come on. Who did they give up to get the first overall pick back?
Well, okay, so get it back.
I've never seen the movie. I don't care.
Yes.
Who
to
did
get
they
back.
trade to get the,
The
pick
initial,
from?
the
He's just
initial
doing this
trade
to
to
get
get
us off the
number one
Shador
is they
argument,
trade
is all
away
he's doing.
their first for 3 years in a row,
Okay,
and then
this guy's a
um,
moron.
they ended up making the first overall pick and took Vontae Mack instead of Bo Callahan.
Who they traded to who?
And then and then the slide happened for Bo Callahan. So then they traded with Jacksonville their second rounders for the next 3 years
Okay.
to then get that pick, and then they called the Seattle Seahawks to give them Bo Callahan, and they got their all 3 first back and David goddamn Putney.
Who was? Wait a second. Who was the Seattle Seahawks GM?
So
Moron Joe?
So the premise for them was that, which is kind of funny, the Seahawks were like an organization that was like desperately wanted Bo Callahan, and that the fans were upset because they haven't had a quarterback in a long time. And then it panned to about, Cole, correct me, 7 fans protesting outside of the stadium.
That was enough to get it done.
Yes.
I gotta see this.
Like 7
Wait,
people with
so-
pitchforks.
What was
We live in a different world than we did 10 seconds ago.
who was the quarterback where the lineman didn't go to his birthday party and stuff? Was that
That's
That
Bo
was Bo
Callahan.
Callahan, yeah.
and that was
the-
enough
the
to
guy who was
change
sliding.
minds?
Cowboys are making a pick, y'all.
Yeah. Which by the way would be
Thank
concerning.
God.
I went to my quarterback's birthday.
Were you invited?
Of course.
I don't know.
No, I crashed it.
I heard you went to a lot of parties with the musical department at BW. Okay, Cowboys. The pick is in.
You're the worst.
No, I will not come to your key club. Malachi Lawrence. Ooh, that's actually a good pick from UC after the edge rusher. There was a lot of hype for him. Wasn't sure where he was going to go. A lot of people did see first round out of him. And there it is. The Cowboys actually having themselves quite interesting night. I think they've made about 45 trades so far tonight. But it is Lawrence with this pick. Cole.
Well, Malachi Lawrence, they need defense, right? So I can't fault them for going defense. They got Caleb Downs. Fantastic pick, right? They got my number 1 overall prospect. Now here, this is where I'm going to shock some people, might rattle people a little bit. I think Malachi Lawrence is a good fit for them scheme-wise. He's a good edge rusher. I don't expect a high ceiling from him. I don't think he's going to be a great producer. He's my 19th edge rusher in this class, so way down the list. And that puts him, and I'm still actually searching because I have to scroll down to try to find him on my big board. I am getting closer. He is my 171st overall prospect on my big board. So, and fine edge rusher. I looked at him more of a middle of the draft type of talent. I think he's more of a depth piece than he is a true high producing starter. But he should still be able to make an impact, and they need defense. It's just a matter of there's better prospects on the board. I've mentioned some of them already, but I think there's a lot of better edge rushers.
We're going to play it again right now. Brandon sort of punter. You got plenty of time here. Take your time. Think it over. But you are Andrew Berry one more time tonight. Doesn't look like they're going to trade it just yet. The pick isn't in, but it doesn't look like they're going to trade it. Who we going with?
So at this point, we got our offensive lineman, which is great. Cole kind of alluded to it as the pick comes in. Denzel Boston's still there, and Boston has been mocked several times to the Browns. I believe, Cole, your last mock had Denzel Boston. My last mock had Denzel Boston. What is interesting is generally I feel like Omar Cooper Jr. is off the board by this point, so that's somewhat intriguing. But, I mean, just to get a big, reliable jump ball, just strong receiver, I'll take Denzel Boston any day of the week, and not lose any sleep over it whatsoever.
Is he the best receiver on the Browns if they take him?
Yes, or he will be. I don't know if he is right away. Jerry Jeudy is such a weird question mark, and Harold Fannin is probably going to be more productive right off the bat.
Which
at
I was
least.
right about.
But I mean the guy lining up at receiver.
The only question with Boston, if he is the pick, is I question his football IQ at points.
Judy?
Yes. But no, Denzel Boston, if he's not able to get that separation right off the line of scrimmage, and he's not in a one-on-one situation, he doesn't seem to do quite as well with zone. He seems to struggle like sitting down in those weak spots in zones, and being able to kind of improvise when he doesn't have an assignment kind of right in front of him, like, hey, beat this guy and go do it. But I think that's something he can develop over time. So if I'm Barry, I'm taking Boston. I'm not losing any sleep. Omar Cooper Jr., I'm more than happy with as well. Either way, I think it's got to be wide receiver here.
So I would agree with you. I think there's no other option right now.
And there's not a
for
lot,
wide
like
receiver.
BPA would probably be like Dylan Thieneman for me right now, which good player, not enough of a need and not a good enough player to go out of, the receiver realm to go grab him.
Right, and everybody in the chat room, if you are commenting, I will be pulling that up pretty soon
What
and
is this
taking a look.
commercial?
Just trying to get everything caught up one more time. Cole McDaniel, going to throw it to you as Dom. I was going to actually throw it to you, but you look kind of shocked at whatever the heck is on the television there. So, Cole,
Look at this.
I know you're a big Boston guy as well. Brandon just said you both had him in a
I
mock.
did forget one player. Jermod McCoy would be the one outside of the immediate needs that I'd be fine taking. He is my number one cornerback in this draft that is sliding because of his injury.
I'd be okay with
history.
that too if he could stay
100%
healthy.
fine with it.
If he could stay healthy, that'd be huge. But Cole, I mean, again, is it much ado about nothing? Is this going to be easy peasy, turn in the card, or do the Browns get stupid here?
Yeah, I wouldn't want Jermod McCoy, and as good of a corner as he is, you have Ward on the outside, you have Tyson Campbell on the outside. I think Jermod McCoy would have been very much so. He's a lot like Martin Emerson Jr. in some ways. I think his ball skills are better than Martin Emerson Jr. had in college, but the size side of things, how he would fit in, he doesn't really offer much with all three of those corners on the field at the same time, unless you were to slide Ward into nickel, and you're not ever going to slide Ward into nickel because he's going to be matched up against the number one guy. So that's where I think a D'Angelo Pons or somebody who can play some nickel and has versatility is going to be better for the Cleveland Browns, which they'll probably do later. Or they could take, even if they wanted a big corner that's depth, a Julian Neal or somebody in the middle rounds. However, to me, right now, this should be Denzel Boston, be that number one wide receiver, give you the jump ball size. Yeah, the separation isn't always great, but he's going to be that number one. And Judy, he's a terrible number one. He doesn't play well when that pressure's on him. But when he's the number two guy, he kind of hits it into another gear and plays better.
Cole, do you think, two offensive linemen picked up, two or three actually, in free agency for the Browns? I believe it was two, and they made a trade for one. But regardless, good offseason in that market for linemen. They picked up another one tonight with the 9th overall pick. They go out right now. They get Boston. Do you think that pretty much eliminates most, if not all, but most of the excuses a guy like Sanders would have? Again, he's going to start. I hate to break it to you, my man. He's going to start at some point.
At some point, he will. I think Watson actually starts the season. I'd be kind of shocked if he doesn't. I think Todd Monken's going to try both because I think he wanted a guy like Watson. Like, he likes a guy like Watson.
Right. So they did go receiver, just to let you know, and I'm gonna go right back to you in a heartbeat. It is KC Conception from Texas A&M.
Yeah, so I think we'll see both quarterbacks at some point. I think that the excuses should be limited for Sanders at this point. You got a guy who can be a return man here in Concepcion. He offers speed. He can run out of the slot. He may get some reps on the outside. I think they'll probably try to play him in the slot a little bit more, where you still have Tillman and Judy on the outside, and Concepcion's the slot wide receiver. I think there's big plays that can come from him, but I'm disappointed in the pick. I felt like he'd been linked to the Browns a lot, but I feel like Boston had the potential to be your number one guy. Concepcion, I don't look at being a true number one on any roster. I look at him as a big play difference maker. And when has that sometimes worked out for the Browns? Corey Coleman was that type of guy. And obviously that was a complete flop. I hope I'm wrong on this, but I think if he goes to a Kansas City or someplace like that, there's a potential for success. In Cleveland, he's got to have some good wide receivers out there to help and support him and open up some space. And I don't know if he has that. So I'm a little concerned.
Cole, I feel like you're not loving this draft for the Browns.
I don't.
They didn't take the best lineman that you wanted them to, and now they didn't take their best receiver available that you wanted them to. Kind of 0 for 2 tonight in your book.
Yeah, I hate this draft for the Browns at this point. It's as simple as that. I think that they didn't optimize what they could have for value. I think that they could have walked away with a much better draft. Yeah, after last year and how well they did and all the talent they brought in, and I felt like they fleeced the Jaguars. I felt like you had 2 draft picks here, and you had enough assets that you could have turned it into 3 picks, right? And you could have, taken somebody as good of a Downs and still addressed your needs at tackle and wide receiver. They didn't do it. So ultimately, I'm disappointed in how Andrew Berry handled this draft, and I was hoping they'd make more of a splash.
And now we get to the teams that we're playing in the third weekend of January. So some serious playoff contenders this year and possible Super Bowl threats, with the exception of the Dolphins. But when you really look at this, the Bears, the Bills, the Niners, the Texans, the Chiefs, the Patriots, the Seahawks. So we are now getting to a slate of teams that maybe they don't need Boston, but man, if they take them, they're looking strong. Houston Texans never seen them run out of receivers. Kansas City Chiefs, we've talked about them tonight. I don't know what they did while I was gone from my computer, but I do not believe they took a receiver. So a lot going on right now over these last 8 picks, but we'll get back to that in a second. Brandon, is this how you saw the night shaking out for the Browns?
Position-wise, yeah.
Yes.
Like, again, I wanted to flip-flop it and go wide receiver and then offensive lineman. That became a little more complicated when Tate went off the board so early, so I understand the thought process as, like, how we've gotten here. I like Fano. He was my top overall tackle prospect. Not the greatest fit in the world in Cleveland, but I can live with that. Concepcion, I still have fairly high in here. I've actually got him right around the same range as Boston, but like Cole said, that's kind of system-based, and we're looking for a true number one receiver in Cleveland, still not so much a compliment, a guy that can go out and be the number one. I don't know if this is because they still see Judy as a reliable option or we're targeting a veteran out there somewhere. I hope there's a second move to this, because I do not see Concepcion just going out and being a stud number one receiver really at any point for this team. Like, he's quick off the line. He can make guys miss. The hands are a little bit questionable, though, when he starts to get jammed when he's catching in traffic. He's not the most reliable receiver when he's got a guy on him. Overall, he's limited. He can do very well in the correct system, but I'm with you guys. I'm kind of let down with Casey Concepcion being the pick.
So Rico
Well,
McGee says definitely a draft need, no complaints. Interesting.
Fair.
So he disagrees.
That is fair.
Devin Lowe says if Drew is there in round 4, and Cole will get to you in a second. Devin Lowe says if Drew is there in round 4 or later, they should sprint to make the pick, or if the local guy makes good, and the quickest way to end the slide. Show that's going on now with Shador Deshaun. I actually kind of agree with that as well. So, bit of a split room, although KC Conception and not the pick that Mr. Puka04 wanted. He says another drop machine. Puka goes on to say big drop off after the top 5 receivers, and we took number 6 OIC. So Puka is Mr. Positive this evening. Back to you, Cole.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's the problem. You took a wide receiver that has spotty hands and issues with drops, right? Can be a big play guy, but he doesn't take that pressure off Judy, and he is the drop issues. So now you still end up with, at the moment, Judy is still wide receiver number 1. That pressure's still on his shoulders, and then he also still has the spotty hands where Judy had a ton of drops this past season. So overall, I'm super disappointed there. Want to respond to the one comment in the comment section. I hope as a Cleveland fan, as also as somebody who appreciates Drew Aller as a player, I think he has a lot of potential, good player. I hope he does not end up in Cleveland. It's not going to be the best fit. It's one of those things where I sometimes question if Drew has the mental fortitude to deal with. He's going to have all these Northeast Ohio fans that are going to be thinking he's going to be the next savior, and they're going to be clamoring for him. He's going to have a lot of pressure trying to put the weight of Northeast Ohio on his shoulders. Where on the other side, he's going to get the Browns fans who are not from Northeast Ohio, who are in that Shador Sanders camp, and they're going to hate anybody who takes reps away from Shador Sanders. And I don't necessarily know if Carson Beck could deal with that. I don't know if Drew Aller could necessarily deal with that. I think I'd rather see him go to somewhere else where I think he could have an opportunity to learn, develop. I'd rather see him get out of Northeast
Real quick,
Ohio.
2 quick things. The Bears are getting ready to pick, but also we did have a trade. The Texans have jumped up to pick 26 with the Bills. They have traded 26 and 91 in exchange for 28, 69, and 167 going back to Buffalo.
And I got to say about the Bears, you were one of the few people I saw call them to make the playoffs and win the division last year, and
Yes.
they did. So shout out to you, Brandon Soderpenner, because I thought you were. I'm not gonna say I thought you were nuts, but I thought it was a bit of a stretch. But you nailed that one. And the pick is in. They go safety. It is Dylan Thiemann from Oregon. That's a hell of a pick. Brandon Marvel shaking his head. Yes, he likes it. Brandon, we're gonna actually stick with you whenever you're ready here. But this pick here for the Bears, I mean, a hell of a season. They had some dramatic wins late. Cole, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say they won 5 or 6 games in the last 2 minutes in which they were losing, came back to win. And actually, Cole, we'll start with you as Brandon updates the big board for us. Defense really wasn't the problem for the Bears. This is a nice little pick.
Well, I think this is my number 2 safety. I think by far he was the number 2 safety, well behind Caleb Downs, but still a good player. My 18th overall prospect, so still one of the highest rated for me available still on this board. So I think it's a good get for the Bears. The interesting thing is I think that they needed a strong safety more so than a free safety. Thieneman, I could see him as either. So I think there's versatility there. So I think regardless of how he fits in exactly for them, they just need a safety. So they'll shuffle guys around, whether he's the true strong safety or he's the free safety. Either one, I see a lot of potential for him in that secondary for the Bears. It addresses that need positionally, and you got one of the best players that was still available on my board. So good start to the draft for the Chicago Bears.
And Mr. Positivity, Puko 4, chimes in again. Cavs lost. Yikes. So 2-1 still up in that series, though.
First
are the
game in
Cavs.
Toronto, it's fine.
Yeah. Rats. But yeah, Cole, I mean, again, this Bears team, it seemed like on our show, the NFL Draft Prediction Show, another free shout out for them, it seemed like we were talking about the Bears each and every week. But again, I'm going to bounce this to Brandon Soder for a second here. Brandon, as I said, you were the kind of guy there preseason, Caleb Williams, you like what you saw, picked them in the division. Do they have what it's going to take to win consistently in that division? Because you have to figure at some point the Lions should bounce back.
Well, that's the key word. Consistently in that division is going to be difficult, regardless
Very
of who you
difficult.
are. The Packers are always
Vikings
in
weren't
there.
that bad.
No, the Vikings were still 9-7 somehow, and that's with J.J. McCarthy playing quarterback for them.
Wow, partial.
So I don't think anyone's going to consistently be winning that division anytime soon. But I like how the Bears are stacked moving forward. The young wide receiver core they have now, moving DJ Moore out. You've got obviously Caleb Williams kind of being the anchor there. I think they could pick up another running back to pair with Kyle Monangai as DeAndre Swift continues to kind of age in there. So they were in a spot where it felt like they were going to go defense. I thought they might go edge rusher, but Thieneman was just kind of too good to pass up. He's a ball hawk. He's someone that's going to really add to that secondary, because the one thing you could say about Chicago last year is they were really only super productive when they were getting turnovers. So if we're going to lean into that more, I mean, having Dylan Thieneman there is a solid match for the Bears. Not their biggest overall need, but he had to come off the board in the first round somewhere. I like that they got Thieneman.
Yep. Brandon, what do you think about this Browns pick? I mean, you were quite. What do you think about the pick?
I was happy about the position of need. Very glaringly, the most needed position on the offensive side of the ball. And I was right with SP at that. I wish we would have been able to go wide receiver, then tackle. Obviously, because Tate was taken 4. Move off that, get Lomu at 9, or Fano at 9, excuse me. But yeah, I would have much rather had Denzel Boston, a big receiver who could really get up there and catch the ball, or Omar Cooper, even though he's not, as of a solid prospect as Denzel Boston. He might have had a little bit more coaching up to do, a little bit more molding, if you will, in the NFL that Boston would have needed. But Concepcion had some hands issues in college, and I was having a conversation with my dad earlier today, and he jokingly said that Casey Concepcion seems like the perfect pick for the Browns at 24 because of his hands issues in college. And here we are with Casey Concepcion at number 24. Now, I'm still going to root for the guy because he's a Cleveland Brown. I still want him to perform well because he's a Cleveland Brown. But to not have your guy that I'm 100% confident in being able to really be that number one instead of Jerry Jeudy, I'm not a big fan.
Well, the Texans, what a wacky season they had, guys. Started off red hot after losing 2 straight, won a bunch. lost a few, won a bunch again. Just a weird up and down season for the Texans. And they've made their pick tonight, though, and they are going with a guard, I believe. Yes, Kalen Rutledge out of Georgia Tech. So now we see some of the big boys starting to come off the board. It was Dom who said he would come back on the broadcast once a lineman was drafted, and that took about 45 seconds. But again, Cole McDaniel, our guy, man, Kalen Rutledge. You and I talked about it every week, right? It seemed like C.J. Stroud was constantly running for his life. What happens with this pick now? Is this who they needed?
Well, they need to take care of the offensive line, right, and provide some more protection to C.J. Stroud. But the problem with this is they traded up, and if they wanted a guard, Emmanuel Pregnon of Oregon and Chase Besantis of Texas A&M, both two guys that are still available. So it was the third guard on my list then of who's still available that they went with. Rutledge is a mauler. I think he's physical. He's a good pass protector. I look at him as a true right guard who I think offers a lot of value as a run blocker. There are better pass protecting guards in this class in my perspective, but I think he's a really good player. So the Texans, and it's really interesting because the Texans, they brought in David Montgomery, right? And David Montgomery, again, should offer some more physicality. So maybe they're going to actually try to pound the rock a little bit more. But ultimately, Rutledge, he's going to have to step up as a pass protector immediately because the Texans, they desperately need it. It's position of need. Interesting on where they went with, but I'm not necessarily batting my eyes that it's too crazy, but I think it's a little early for him to go in the first round.
Brandon, I'm going to bounce this ball over your way while I bring Brandon Marvel back in and write about the Browns' next pick. And this is what we got a nice little 4-man rotation here. So actually 5-man rotation tonight. But yeah, I'm going to bring Marvel back in. But before I do, Brandon, as we look at these next set of picks, and I'll have you touch on Rutledge as well, but as we look at this, again, I'd say with the exception of the Dolphins, but Buffalo, Kansas City, San Francisco, New England, Seattle to take us home. 5 serious Super Bowl contenders. I would have to believe you agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. They're picking this late in the draft for a reason.
And we always say we want to pick for, you should just pick need or whatever. But honestly, in a situation like this, they don't have to pick for need. They don't have to pick for the best player available. And then they could really be selfish here and say, hey, we want a tight end. And there might be a third-round tight end or whatever, but who cares? I mean, when you're this close to the Super Bowl and you think to yourself, hey, we really just need one piece. Let's go get it.
Fair.
Why mess around?
Fair, but the Buffalo Bills have been doing that exact thing for years now, and they have still not been able to get themselves a true wide receiver one with that strategy. So I think you still got to take this seriously here. I am interested to see what the Dolphins are doing, popping up. But, Dom, while you're here, let's go to Kalen Rutledge again, because I kind of agreed with Cole that there's a lot of guards still available. I had several above him on this list. Really didn't see the need to trade up, but are you seeing something in Rutledge that, maybe we're not? Like, what are you thinking of this pick here?
Yeah, I think what's unique about him is the system that he was in. It was a very unique offense where it was run heavy, right? It was a spread offense, but in the sense of where they got the quarterback involved a lot, right? The quarterback and the running back, they were the leaders on that team. He is a good pass blocker, but this is a guy that is no stranger of getting and going as well because of the uniqueness of the offense that he was in at Georgia Tech. So they believe that, yes, he is a natural pass defender. He can also be a good run blocker, too, and that might be a talent that not everyone is aware of. So I think that might be the reason why they thought that that's their man right there. But also, he looks like a guard. Like, I know it's easy to say, but like,
but if you want to do that, then take Jennings Dunker.
Sure. I think that his ability to be a natural pass blocker while being in a run heavy offense, gives him a different ability compared to other guys to adapt quickly. And I think that for what the Texans need, he was the guy going forward. Again, there were better options that you guys have pointed out, but again, he's a unique prospect. I think he'll succeed well in Texas if given an opportunity early on.
Yeah, we do have a trade here. Miami did bump up a few spots with a trade with San Francisco. SP, I don't know if you have the full details on that trade yet. My phone did die, so I cannot get the full details on that. But this seems like a huge opportunity where Miami can upgrade. Well, not upgrade, but you got the
pretty easy one here. Miami gets pick 27 and 138. San Francisco gets 30 and 90.
Okay, so a couple little pick swaps there in this draft, and I think this is a big place for them where they could go wide receiver, whether that be
100%.
Denzel Boston or Omar Cooper right here. And it's
Or neither.
Chris Johnson, the cornerback from San Diego State. So we talked about earlier, kind of just depleted their entire roster this offseason, and they have a completely new system that they're going to be running, and they're going to have a lot of new faces in that locker room come September when the next season kicks off. And here they go, the DB Chris Johnson out of San Diego State. Cole, what are your thoughts on this move from the Dolphins going defense instead of trying to get some offensive help?
Well, I mean, I've said it already that they have the worst wide receiver room in the league. They're gonna take a wide receiver here at some point. I think with this, again, it's interesting that they trade up for Chris Johnson. I feel like they could have easily gotten him early in the second round. That being said, he is my fourth cornerback prospect. I think he's a good player. Jermod McCoy, he's sliding. I think that would have been a really good corner pick for them. Same as Avion Terrell. I think that would have been a good pick as well. Both would have been probably maybe a little bit safer. I think Chris Johnson's a very good player, not as big of a corner. He has a lot of ball skills, so he could make a difference for them. Ultimately for the Dolphins, though, we talked about it. Corner was one of the biggest needs for them in this draft, so they got one. I think they're going to feel good about that, but they got a lot more work still to go, as we discussed earlier.
And we just had another trade. Buffalo, they had already traded back with Houston for a couple picks, and then they just traded back again. The Patriots are jumping up to take where Buffalo was originally slotting, where we were just talking about, Brandon, you mentioned Buffalo doesn't have that exact true wide receiver run. They're running Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir. They like their tight ends a lot, and Dalton Schultz and Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. Did I get that? I did get that right. Two similar names. But here we see the Patriots move up, and they're probably not going to need a wide receiver, as a lot of people are expecting A.J. Brown to get traded to the Patriots come June. What are your thoughts here with the Patriots move?
Yeah, my initial thought was wide receiver, just pulling up who's left as they're getting ready to make this pick. Could definitely use another edge rusher. I think they could shore up offensive line a little bit. I mean, T.J. Parker still sitting there. That wouldn't necessarily surprise me. The Clemson product, but let's see. Offensive line.
Now they go back-to-back years where they have first-round draft picks coming from the offensive line. Last year was Will Campbell. This year it's Caleb Lomu, the other Utah offensive tackle. And we saw Spencer Fano go to the Browns earlier at 9. Dom, we got another lineman for you. What do you like about Caleb Lomu, and what do you think he's going to bring to the Patriots?
Yeah, this was a team where Will Campbell really got exposed about how undersized he is. Again, like I said earlier, he has a tight butt. He's not wide in the rear, right? So he had a lot of troubles. They needed offensive line help. That was the one glaring issue with this team. This kid's 6'6", by the way. Holy mackerel. That's a lot of guy. So maybe that him being at left tackle could maybe bump Campbell over to right, where he's not as exposed in a position that he really showed he can't play, especially against a really good Seattle Seahawks pass rusher unit. This is a good pick for them. The small moves are necessary. They need a wide receiver as well. But, again, the offensive line was the reason they lost that Super Bowl. And the reason why that game was so bad is they couldn't throw the ball. They couldn't run the ball. So hopefully this kid can be the difference maker and make this team a lot more formidable when it comes to the offensive front and help out Will Campbell just a little bit so he can excel and not take a step back after what was an embarrassing Super Bowl for the rookie last year.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, how Will Campbell had those glaring downsides to his play at left tackle last year, trying to protect Drake May's blind side. Now you also have Morgan Moses, who is entering his age 35 season on the other side of the line. You think this is where SP maybe Lomu slides right in at left tackle and they just bump Will Campbell right over to right tackle and bench Morgan Moses? Or is this a situation where Campbell potentially, or Lomu, sits for a little bit before he gets to start?
Well, what's interesting is we have two prospects now in Campbell and Lomu that I think could potentially end up being guards long term, and I'm wondering if that that's not just the Seattle game, but that playoff performance from Will Campbell has scared them to the point where they think they might have to kick him inside. So now we're trying it again with Caleb Lomu, albeit for much lower draft capital here. But either way, you're going to be able to plug him in somewhere on this line. You're going to need that help long term. As Dom said, that was a big reason that you weren't able to win that Super Bowl. It was a big glaring weak spot. Wide receiver would have been the other one, but again, it feels like A.J. Brown is supposedly a New England Patriot. I feel like we're waking up to a new breaking article about that every day, despite the fact that it hasn't happened yet. They obviously don't go wide receiver there, but trading up to get him, I like the fit there for New England. It's a weird roster because I feel like there was a decent amount of holes. They could have gone a couple different places. They really, I think, punched above their weight class last year with let's call it what it is, the easier schedule to get to that Super Bowl. But overall, Lomu, you could have done much worse with your pick here for sure.
And now, Cole, we've seen Fano get taken, and now we see Lomu. What do you like about Lomu? And then coming up, we have the Chiefs, whose pick is already in. We've seen them trade up for Mansour Delane, who probably would have been there at 9 for them, but they wanted probably Arvell Reese. He got taken by the Giants right before, so they took their guy in Delane. Then after that, what do you see the Chiefs doing here at 29?
Well, I think what I like about Lomu is I like the size, and I viewed him as for like the Cleveland Browns. I wanted him over his Utah counterpart because of the natural left tackle fit. I think with the Patriots, I'm interested in this. I'm a little confused of who's going to be the odd man out on the line. They need the help, but I'm struggling to see exactly what's going to happen. I think that Lomu, to me, seems like he'll be the left tackle. Then they have Elijah Vera Tucker at left guard. I still think Jared Wilson's going to remain at center. And then so you look at the right side of the line, and Morgan Moses, I think, may still remain at right tackle. I'm wondering if Will Campbell will get put at right guard, and they'll try to put him in, and it's Mike Onwenu, the 350-pound right guard, that actually is the odd man out. I'm not positive, though, on what they're going to do. I'm curious to see who that sixth guy now is going to become with that group. But I feel like Lomu should securely be a starter. I think he has the skill to be that. So if he has a good camp, good off season, I see no reason why he doesn't.
So go ahead.
Sorry,
no, just to throw something at you as you go through that. Do you think they may be considering Elijah Vera Tucker kind of for that role, considering some of the injury histories and his kind of versatility to be a swing tackle and a guard?
I mean, maybe. I think it's potential. I think there's potentially a lot of moving around that's going to happen here this offseason and testing guys in different spots. So I don't necessarily know if they're just going to go straight into camp and know exactly who's going to be set. I think there's going to be some competing. There's going to be some shuffling and guys trying new positions to see what clicks and what works.
Now for Kansas City, as Goodell makes his way to the podium for their second first-round pick in this draft today. We got tomorrow night as well, second and third round action.
Make sure you tune in.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be live. That kicks off at 7 o'clock, I believe. Tomorrow is when the second round starts. So be sure you're tuned in for that as well tomorrow night. Probably going live around 6:45, 6:50, same as tonight, about 15 minutes early. Hopefully the pick selections in between aren't as unpredictable like tonight. It seems like every time we've had a lineman, the next pick goes 2 minutes later, and every other pick takes about 8 minutes in between. So we'll see as that goes, as the Kansas City Chiefs are set to make their second selection on the night. Earlier taking the LSU cornerback Mansour Delane. And here at the selection, Peter Woods, the defensive tackle out of Clemson. So not T.J. Parker, but Peter Woods off the board. The defensive tackle out of Clemson. Cole,
why is everyone wearing white?
That is a great question. That is a lot of.
There's people wearing wedding dresses here.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, what is going on?
I mean, good for you,
Vince. What is happening?
Interesting.
Peter Woods, the massive 6'2", 298, nearly 300-pound defensive tackle, wreaked havoc throughout the SEC or
ACC.
ACC, my fault. I caught myself. For the past couple years, this was a guy coming into this season where a lot of people saw if he makes a lot of impact, excuse me, he could be a really highly projected pick. He still makes it in the first round tonight. Cole, what is Peter Woods going to give the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, I think you're getting a good defensive tackle. Obviously, he's the number 3 defensive tackle for me. Still number 1 and number 2 for me are on the board, Caden McDonald and Lee Hunter. But he's my 29th overall guy, so fits right in that range as he's picked at number 29. The Chiefs are clearly putting a focus and an emphasis on defense this year. It's what they probably need to do to make sure that they strengthen that unit. I'll say this: the Jets, they've traded up to pick 30, which is very interesting about what they're going to do here. I'd be curious to see if they do take a Carson Beck and go quarterback, or if they are just still gung-ho Omar Cooper Jr.
Yeah, I would be extremely surprised if we see Carson Beck. I know we were all talking about it a little bit, and I saw it earlier too. Some mock drafts suddenly had Carson Beck being potentially a late first-round draft pick tonight. I would be very shocked to see that happen. I do like Omar Cooper here for the Jets. We've seen him. I thought he was going to be more of that high teens, low 20s range where he was going to go maybe 16 and not here at 30. But there's still a lot of options for the Jets. As we've mentioned, there's a lot of needs that they still have.
Yeah. And again, overall, I'd like this for the Jets. If that's the selection that they're going with. Boy, if they take a Carson Beck, that would just
I'd be so excited.
But Omar Cooper Jr.
I like Carson Beck.
Again, they were tied to him, like you said, much earlier, and the fact that he's continued to slide this much, I feel like that's more than enough reason for them to jump back into round 1. Interesting that San Francisco completely out of the first round now, which, by the way, it only took pick 179 to complete that swap for the Jets. So for a team that has a ton of capital, I mean, if that's all it takes to get that extra year on a contract and make sure to go get the guy that you want, more power to you. I struggle to see anyone outside of a receiver. Maybe it's not Cooper Jr., maybe it's Boston, maybe it's somebody else, but I've got a feeling that's where New York's going here.
As the Jets make their selection, and it is Omar Cooper Jr. It's not going to be Carson Beck. Vince with a sigh of relief as Omar Cooper Jr., the Indiana product, comes off the board. And I'll let you guys break this one down as I'll let Vince hop back on for the last couple selections of the night before we roll out of here.
Well, I'll start off here and say that Omar Cooper Jr., I didn't look at him as a first-round prospect. I think he's a good player, but the only reason I expected him all night to go in the first round is because of the New York Jets. He was so highly linked to the New York Jets that it just felt like that was the connection. He can play out of the slot, and I think that they feel like Garrett Wilson, he obviously needs the help, but they felt like Omar Cooper Jr. would be a good complementary piece. Good hands, good route runner. Funny enough, though, he's only my 11th ranked wide receiver. I have him lower than a lot of other receivers here in this class. My 63rd overall prospect. I look at him more of a second or third round type of guy. Even Elijah Surratt, his teammate at Indiana, I value higher. I have Surratt as my 6th overall wide receiver prospect. Bigger body, good hands, but ultimately we're seeing some teams. Denzel Boston's still on the board. Elijah Surratt's still on the board. We're seeing a couple of those bigger wide receivers staying out there, and some of the smaller, shiftier guys they're going for. Cooper, good fit for the Jets. Not surprised that they came up in the first to get him. They didn't have to make a move very far to get out of the second round for it, but there he goes, and it's a good pick for them. But like I said, I would temper the excitement just a little bit. It's not like Omar Cooper Jr. is as good as a couple of the other wide receivers that I value.
Let's stay on the theme of wide receiver quickly here. Over the years, I've loved working with you guys, but Brandon and Cole don't always agree when it comes to player selections, and that's what makes this so good. However, we're going to play a super quick game here with receivers because I got a strange feeling like you guys are going to agree on every single one of these. I'm going to give you the 2 names. You're going to tell me who is a better fit for the Cleveland Browns. I realize they've all been drafted tonight with the exception of one, so don't pay any attention to that. Let's just say this was a different year, a different draft, number 1 pick, and the Browns.
Aren't we
had to
comparing
take a
this to
receiver.
Concepcion, you're saying?
Yeah, here we go.
Okay.
Tate or Boston?
Oh, okay. Tate.
Cole.
Tate.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure you're going to agree on all of these. Tyson, Boston.
We
Right.
got another trade.
Brandon.
The Bills traded back again to Tennessee. Is this their third time trading this round?
Yes, it is.
Good Lord.
Tyson.
Give me a second on that, guys. They took Tate already. What? No, Tyson's gone. What? No.
That's the game.
Oh,
So
sorry.
basically, I'll skip to the punchline.
Sorry.
here.
I'm
It's
frazzled
okay.
over here
It's
trying to.
totally okay. I'll skip to the punchline.
God, I hate that logo.
Tyson, it's horrible. I bought a vintage Houston Oilers T-shirt. Remember to show it to you later. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I have
It's
an old
actually
hat.
it's pretty
Yeah.
sweet. I love that
Yeah,
logo. I got
it's so
Expos
good.
too. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Awesome. I hope the
Oh,
Expos
so
say that
good.
because no one can accuse me of being a homer.
Vlad Guerrero Sr.
Anyways, Cole, would you just agree then, for the most part, with the exception of Tyson and Tate, which were, correct me if I'm wrong, the two first receivers off the board,
Yep.
that the Browns bungled this when you look at who Boston's still on the board and you look at everybody else who's been picked. I mean, it just I can't wrap my head around it. We badly needed a receiver with sure hands, speed, and size, and I knew those three things. To get all those is almost impossible, but I feel like it's such a reach. And you look at Omar Cooper Jr., right? I don't know.
The only way I think the Browns can kind of salvage it a little bit, and I can like the Concepcion pick now, is if, I mean, we're at pick 31. Boston's still there. The Browns have what, pick 39 in the second round?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, they could package something, trade up just a little bit here, come get Boston early tomorrow. If they might not have to do it in these next two picks. So
Well, you know the Titans
maybe
ain't taking them.
you can still take Boston, have that big outside receiver. Judy can be the number 2. Concepcion's your slot. Tillman now becomes wide receiver number 4. I'm
All right.
okay with that.
And we're gonna get to something else here in a quick second regarding that. But here's Tennessee on the board, making another one of their picks here. We'll get to that any moment now. But realistically, guys, this is a situation as we're 2 picks away from wrapping up this first round, and the second round clearly will be here before we know it. We're going to talk about that second round in a heartbeat. Just kind of waiting for the pick to come in. So, yeah, it's definitely another edge rusher. They're going with Keldrick Falk out of Auburn. Cole, what do you know about Falk?
Falk's a guy I'm not as high on. I think he's widely regarded as one of the higher edge rusher prospects in this class. He's number 8 for me. A lot of times I felt like I saw that he was number, 3 or 4, and he was way up there for people. But definitely down the list for me, number 8. I look at him. I always thought when I watched the film for him from Auburn, I felt like he naturally fits well as like a defensive end with his hand in the dirt in a 3-4. Not really a true edge rusher type. I think he lacks some explosiveness. He's actually more of somebody who likes to slide inside, and I think is more impactful against the run game rather than being as explosive as a pass rusher. I don't see a lot of pass rush value where he's going to be getting after the quarterback and wreaking havoc that way. He's going to try to plug some gaps, and so I question the explosiveness there. That's at least my perspective from watching the film on him. Curious to see what Brandon thinks about Keldrick Falk.
Yeah. Pardon me, still dealing with a couple things over here. Keldrick Falk, I didn't have him super high as I'm pulling this up, but he was kind of in that second tier of pass rushers, so this doesn't particularly surprise me. Interesting that they traded up for him the way this is falling, especially with guys like TJ Parker still sitting there, Cassius House still going to be sitting there. The physical traits are there for Falk. The pass rush plan isn't always there. Like, I question a little bit of the IQ stuff, like how is he going to be able to adjust to some of those counter punches that you're going to see as an edge rusher at the NFL level? But overall, solid pick. Thought he was going to be a first-round guy. Not super kind of crazy either way. And Tennessee, again, I imagine was picking pretty early tomorrow as well. It feels like at this point teams
They
are just
would've
making
been.
trades to make
Yeah.
trades.
Not anymore.
Interestingly enough, though, the one team that I think really wanted to trade back would be Seattle. They're still currently sitting there at 31. Or 32, rather.
And you got the Niners picking first in the second round.
Yeah, so interesting. Again, I like the Keldrick Falk pick. They needed to shore up that defensive line. A lot of people thought they were going to go edge with that first pick. So to get one at the back end of the first round that still has some first-round value in my book, I can't really fault the Titans for that. It's a good pick.
So, guys, I'm going to give you my 2 cents, and then I'm going to actually go to Dom. I want Dom to introduce our 30-second pick when we get there before we play one last game to end the night. Sound good? I realize it's already 11 o'clock. We're getting kind of late, but we'll wrap this up pretty quick. I want to make this point about the Browns, okay? You have in the receiving core, who are you going to throw the ball to? All right? I really have 4, maybe 5 players who are probably going to move the chains for you if things go well, okay? Your best hands, Harold Fannin Jr. He had some drops early in the season. Seemed like he got over those, but really your most secure person you're going to throw the ball to, maybe your most trusted guy, more than likely Harold Fannin Jr. The guy you're going to go to for a big splash play. You need something huge to spark the crowd, whatever, 50 yards, Conception, if you can catch it. Size. Yeah, I'm sorry, Concepcion. Size, Tillman. Cedric Tillman. Speed, Sampson or Judkins. Obviously, Concepcion, but when I'm talking about speed, I'm talking about a 3-yard dump off that a guy might be able to take for 20 yards. Dylan
Well,
Sampson.
Speed's Isaiah Bond.
Is he going to be here? I mean, I realize he's
Yeah.
he's a second season guy. I get that. Like the
Yeah.
thought of him being cut would be insane, but it is the Cleveland Browns we're talking about here. Like we're pretty confident he's going to be here, right?
He'll be here.
Okay.
And
So
if you want none of these things, you take Jerry Judy.
well, that's the thing. I mean, he could go. Like they could skate him out of town tomorrow. I ain't going to care. But you look at that then, right? Which is going to bring me to my second question here in a little bit. So you have those weapons, and everybody in
What
Cleveland.
weapons? I only heard Harold Fannin.
I just named them, right? They have the pieces and the parts. Okay.
None of them are weapons except for Harold Fannin.
You're gonna say Judkins isn't a weapon out of the
We're
backfield.
talking about
What-
wide
what-
receivers.
You're talking about wide receivers.
Wide receivers. The backfield I like. Judkins is a great running back.
So, but right now, so you're telling me
Sampson
we're gonna
has
throw
potential,
it. Okay, I agree with you.
but it's just fit.
So we're-
Cedric Tillman's just a big body. He has no skill.
So we're gonna throw the
Isaiah
ball to 2
Bond
running
has
backs.
speed. No skill.
So they're gonna throw the ball to 2 running backs, and a tight end. Is
Yep.
basically the only.
Yeah, that's what they
attacker.
did last year.
And you got to hope like hell.
Yep.
Concepcion could get open and actually catch the ball.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
your plan.
much.
See, to me, then, if they go ahead and pick Boston in the second round, I don't think he's going to be available. I think he's coming off the board here early tomorrow night.
Ooh,
But
see, yeah.
if he is on the board, you have to pick him. How do you
I agree-
not?
Yeah, I agree with you.
I mean, you had a chance at safety. You passed it up.
Again, I would like to still shore up the cornerback position, especially since a lot of these guys seem to be sliding a little bit.
They
Although
had a
I think
chance at a
one might
shutdown
go off
corner. Right here.
one might go off the board here to Seattle, unless they go Jadarian Price, which don't completely rule out.
I'm going to let Dom take us home with this 30-second picks. He started the night. We're going to let him finish tonight. And then we are going to talk about the young man from Medina here to close the night, which would only seem appropriate because I'm pretty darn sure by the time I wake up Saturday morning, he will be an NFLer. Dom.
My name's Dom.
Sorry.
The reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champions of the world are making their only pick of the night. And the only pick that is needed for the Seattle Seahawks, who had an impressive draft the past few seasons and made an impressive free agency move with Sam Darnold. They look to close out the night, Vincenzo.
Amazing Sam Darnold paid off to a Super Bowl. Who in a million years?
So by the way, I found out why during the Steelers pick it took so long for them to get to it. They were playing Renegade.
Because they
Oh, that's
couldn't
cool.
read. Oh,
You know, they started
Sorry.
booing them like late in the year when everybody thought they were going to miss the playoffs. And all
I know I was booing from my
they,
TV
They were
screen.
booing Renegade. Like, I didn't think that.
Well, no, the problem is
That's
that
like the
they
Boston Red Sox booing Sweet Caroline.
that's different. They don't play Sweet Caroline when they're down by 4 touchdowns.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, here we go. This kid's screaming into the mic.
I think he's standing on the phone book. That's okay. I'm short. I get it.
Yes, you are. The Seattle Seahawks are closing out the night with. This is a Make-A-Wish kid. I just made fun of him.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, no.
He's getting into it. I love it.
You know, one of these years we got to figure out how to pipe sound in.
We might get hit for copyright there, Vince.
Oh.
All right, the Seattle Seahawks select. With 32nd pick of the draft, they select.
Stop rushing the poor kid.
Jadarian Price.
Called
with
it.
Notre Dame.
How did they not make the playoffs with 2 stud running backs? That's what I want to know last year.
Because they're not in a conference.
So what?
What do you mean, so what?
Subject for a different night. Cole,
Let's play NIU all year.
They beat the crap out of who was it? Was it Pittsburgh? Anyways, Cole, tell
We
us.
had game day.
Cole, tell us about Price.
I mean, Notre Dame, they had two good running backs, like you said. I mean,
Hell of
you
a
had
tailgate
Jeremiah
party.
Love, who was fantastic, and then Jadarian Price, who he was my fifth running back. A good player, and I think there's a lot of speed, there's a lot of ability out of the backfield. He's my 50th overall prospect. I'm not surprised that that Seattle went with a running back here. I was thinking that they might keep Jonah Coleman, the running back from Washington, here in the same state. I thought that was definitely a possibility. I think Coleman would have been a better fit though than Jadarian Price. Price is a very good running back, but I'm not sure how I feel about do Price and Charbonnet actually complement each other. I think there might be some redundancy between those two. Price is probably more explosive. Charbonnet's probably a little bit more powerful. But I think in many ways, I don't look at this as a complementary backfield. I think look at this now as kind of a redundant backfield. And I'm not a big Charbonnet guy. Kenneth Walker should have never been needing to split touches with Charbonnet. They're not
Just
even
paid
close to
him.
being on the same level.
Pay the
And
man.
and now they bring in Price, and I'm not sure who's actually going to get the start. I actually think it may be Charbonnet who gets the starting reps, and Price ends up spelling him like he was spelling Love at Notre Dame. So the fit makes sense because they need a running back, but I would have preferred Price with another organization, and I would prefer the Seahawks getting a different type of running
So
back.
I do actually kind of disagree with you here. I mean, Jadarian Price was my number 2 back, and I don't necessarily think it has to be a complimentary backfield because I feel like Seattle is banking on Price being a workhorse back, being their number 1 guy, because I feel like the draft kind of drops off a cliff after that. This is not a very strong running back draft this year by any means. Again, I've got Jadarian Price at 44. My next is Mike Washington at 73, Jonah Coleman at 106. So I definitely see a cliff there where Price is like one of his biggest kind of knocks right now is he just really hasn't had the opportunity to take on that lead back role with obviously Jeremiah Love in front of him. I don't love his inside, running ability. I think he's going to struggle a little bit kind of getting between the tackles at the NFL level, but he is explosive enough to where if they work him on the outside, I think they could get him some solid production, use him in the passing game as well. So really, I think they're banking on him being that number 1 guy. I don't think Seattle is sitting here thinking, oh, Charbonnet and him are going to be a 1A, 1B. I think they see the writing on the wall. They realize that losing Kenneth Walker was a big deal, obviously, or they wouldn't have spent first-round capital on a guy like Price. I think this might end up being his backfield before the year's done.
Tom, I'm going to go to you in a second here, but it just amazes me. 2 running backs picked in the first round tonight, both from the same college. I got to believe that's a first in NFL draft history. If that's ever happened where there's only been 2
It might be. And
running
again, in my
backs
opinion, they're
in
the
the
2
first
best in the
round.
draft, and it's not even close.
It's unbelievable to me.
insane.
Right, and Dom, you talked about it earlier, kind of joked around about it, but legitimately, out of all of us in this room and Cole at home, you were truly the only person to see these people play in person. These 2 running backs from Notre Dame. I mean, what can you tell
Over
us?
the past few years, I've seen him play live. Yeah,
That's unbelievable. I mean, you did a hell of a job breaking down Love. Tell us what we need to know about this young man.
Yeah, I think Price isn't being brought in to be the back. I think he's brought in to be one of the 2 backs, which is the system that we've seen so many teams run in the modern NFL, and it's been semi-successful for most teams running it. Right, having a primary back doesn't really work anymore. Guys are ran into the ground after a handful of years, careers are done, then you're trying to figure out who's going to run the ball for you. So I think Price is a good guy to split carries with. He's explosive. He'll find a way to get room, especially on that outside, like Brandon mentioned. But I think that if he's taught to be patient, especially in inside zone, to read the rear of the guard and pick which side to go, he'll be a very successful zone runner in the NFL. I just think it's a matter of staying healthy, staying on the field, and kind of picking and choosing when to be aggressive in those moments, because the last thing you want is for someone of his size to get hurt.
So, Brandon and Cole, I've often wondered how you guys come up with these big boards. I can do it to save my life. Just an amazing job. Want to take my hat off to both of you. The ability to rank one position over the other. I personally don't think I could do it because I look at things what is the team's need? And to me, that's where I put my value, as opposed to I'm going to look at all these players at once. We're going to start a new franchise, and we need everybody, right? You guys do a phenomenal job of that. Want to tip my hat to both of you. With that being said, though, here's a few things that jumped out to me tonight, and I realized I had to leave a couple times to write the articles, and Brandon Marvel did a phenomenal job. But here's what jumped out to me about the early part of the night, right? I do kind of feel like Love was a reach at number 3. And I'm not saying that he doesn't have all the skills that Dom just talked about.
It's tough
right?
because I don't think he's a reach at
but
3.
he's
He's a
no-
reach for that team.
But Arizona badly needed a running back,
Yes.
so I could justify it.
Oof.
Which goes
No,
back to
No, they did not.
Not that bad. I mean, the thing is,
look what
they
happened
have a
last year when
running
everybody
back
got
by
banged
committee.
up. I mean, but that went to crap last year.
No, you're
Yeah.
right. It just wasn't their biggest need, and they did bring in Tyler Algier as well, who, while
Yes.
not his biggest fan by any means,
You could
they brought in a
Be
bunch
happy
of
he's
bodies.
gone. 'Cause what he
Yes.
opens up in Atlanta is what you needed.
I'm hoping.
Why the hell he was getting fourth quarter touches is beyond me the last 2 years.
Yeah,
But
we won't get into it.
okay, so I'm just gonna say Love's a bit of a reach, and you guys can disagree with me. It's fine. I don't care. I think the steal of the first few picks, though, Cardinal Tate, the Titans moving up to get him, I think that's genius. I mean, actually, they didn't move up.
No, they
It
didn't
just
move up.
fell.
They took him at
Flipping
4.
fell right to him at 4, which is incredible. Arvel Reese, the Giants at 5. I mean, there's a few picks in this top 10 where I'm like, man, these guys got some studs. I think Jordan Tyson's going to be a hell of a player with the Saints. I mean, there's systems and whatever the case may be. I think these guys fall into it perfectly, actually. And I'm sorry, Browns fans, but I think you did take a reach at 9. I feel like the Browns took a reach at 9. I feel like the Giants took a reach at 10. I love what the Cowboys did early on tonight. Unbelievable. And Cole knows, again, I'm going to give him one more free plug tonight, the NFL prediction show with Climate Tech. Cole knows my love-hate affair with the Cowboys, but my goodness, I like Malachi Lawrence. I love Caleb Downs. This defense should be pretty nasty next year, you would think, right? So
They got a lot of work to do.
they got some work to do, but boy, oh boy, the talent is there with the Cowboys. So, guys, that's my 2 cents, but I will not be there tomorrow night, and you have my full permission to text me when Drew Alar gets off the board. And unless Maggie's on stage, I can guarantee you I will be checking my phone to see who's texting me of where Drew went. But with that being said, fellas, we didn't think he was going to go to the Rams. We knew he wasn't going to the Raiders. Okay, so both teams, well, I forgot that Raiders are out of LA. What am I thinking? But still, we knew he wasn't going to the Raiders. We knew he wasn't going to the Rams. Fine, great, whatever. But look at tomorrow night, all right? You said the draft starts at 7?
Yep.
I think he's off the board by 8. Look at these teams that pick that, in my opinion, right, wrong, or different, my opinion, need a quarterback. Arizona Cardinals. Scroll down a little bit later in the night. Miami Dolphins. New York Jets. Indianapolis Colts. So in the first, that's 15 picks right there. I'll start off with you, Brandon. We'll go to Dom. We'll finish with Cole. Brandon Soder, you could go first. Is
Again,
Drew Alar going in the first round? I'm sorry. Is he going in the second round? And if that's the case, is he going in the first 15 picks tomorrow night?
I think he's more of a third round,
Okay.
maybe fourth.
Wow.
The problem is, again, so many of these teams are going to be looking into next year. And when you're taking a developmental guy like Aller, you know he's going to need more than a season. So if you're, again, kind of looking ahead and thinking you're going to be in the conversation for some of those quarterback prospects next year, you know it's very unlikely you're going to take a project like Drew and have him to a point where you can assess him and be like, all right, yeah, we're going to stick with him rather than going for one of these guys. So it's going to have to be a team, I think, that isn't necessarily going to have a lot of draft capital or isn't necessarily going to be picking high, which is why I think the Jets are out. The Cardinals are interesting. Miami, you brought up, was kind of interesting to me. They did just pay Malik Willis, but then
Oof.
stripped the rest of the team.
He's not doing nothing.
So that whole situation
Feels
is
so
bizarre. They
bad
still have
for
Quinn
him.
Ewers
Wow.
there as well. So I don't know about that one, but it at least made me kind of think about it. We're running out of places where he could be more of a long-term starter. Detroit's a little bit interesting to me because I don't think Jared Goff's necessarily going to be playing for forever.
Pittsburgh.
Goff's not the answer
Pittsburgh could make sense
Goff-
for sure.
Goff's been exposed again.
I
Brent
I don't
Marvel
know
just
about
gave me a
that.
look. I don't know if that was I agree with
He's
you.
giving
or Vince,
me a
you're
look
nuts.
at Drew going to the Steelers.
Let me throw one in there. If he slips all the way to the 4th round, what about Houston?
My God, if he's at the 4th round, go for anybody. Go for it.
Houston's a little bit intriguing to me because C.J. Stroud, like they did pick up that 5th-year option. They showed him enough of that, but this is kind of a put-up-or-shut-up year for Stroud.
What's the guy's name? Davis Mills? He did pretty damn well.
Yeah,
He's not the answer. I understand he's not the answer. But
He's a solid
he's
backup.
shown you what someone can do in the system.
And
That's what I'm saying.
when he can spot start.
I'm not
But-
saying him, but yeah.
But if you want somebody kind of waiting in the wings for, because again, C.J. Stroud's going to at least be good enough to keep them competitive and in the playoffs. But if they don't see enough to want to extend him, it might be helpful to have somebody in the back to at least be like, all right, let's see what happens in the meantime. Oh, okay, Stroud wasn't quite good enough. Well,
That'd be
now we're
crazy.
going to go invest. Or again, if Aller happens to pan out, then maybe you look at starting him later in the season, early in the next season, while you kind of figure out what the next moves are.
I agree with everything you said except Houston. That's the one thing I think I've disagreed with you on all night.
Same.
I can't see that in a million
Yep.
years.
Yeah, we'll
Stroud's
see.
a stud. He's a stud.
Surely
Agreed.
didn't look
Did
like
you watch
it.
the playoffs?
He had one bad playoff game.
He
but
had
One
more than
bad-
one bad playoff game.
he was
I
bad all
love-
year.
I love C.J.
he was
Stroud.
not bad all year.
I
He
love
was
C.J.
nuts
Stroud. But yeah, we are putting on rose-colored glasses right now.
because of
He
how
is
I
down
understand
at
he
it.
was an Ohio State guy. He was not good last season.
No.
I think we can. It's okay to admit it.
So
He was
Brandon,
not a good quarterback last
He,
season.
he didn't have a good year. His offensive line was terrible. His
Which is
wide
fair.
receiver room is
Yes.
hurt.
Yes.
So Brandon, you're telling me that I have
So-
nothing to worry about tomorrow night while I'm at that play. I just turn my phone completely off.
I'm not saying he can't go in rounds 2 or 3. I think it's more likely that we're looking at 3 or 4 as the range is all I'm saying. Because, again, the top 2 quarterbacks are gone. There's going to be teams that have Aller higher on their board and, want to take the risk on somebody with traits like that. He is my highest rated quarterback left, as he is for Cole. It's just where do you take a guy like that when there is still a good amount of, startable talent in round 2 at the non-quarterback position? It's difficult. And again, a lot of it is complicated by next year's class. I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah, I hate to say it,
People are
but
looking forward.
yeah, I agree with you. You've made a lot of good points there, and as much as me watching the kid, play and all the different things, it would suck to see him slip to the 4th round, but at the same time, that might be what's best for him too.
He needs to develop regardless of where
I
he's
mean,
going.
Ty Simpson's sitting pretty right now. What a great situation he fell into.
And I was really hoping Drew could somehow end up in L.A.
Oh.
with another big-armed quarterback behind
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford, time to develop. I think that would have done wonders for him.
Yeah, I don't
But
want to see him on the Colts for that point. I don't trust the system. I don't trust the coach. I don't trust the owner. That is just a flighty system out there in Indy. I mean, they went all in on Danny Dimes anyways, but still, that's a goofy situation.
But the one thing they haven't done is taken a quarterback and actually tried developing them.
Nope, they have not. No.
So if they
There's Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, they keep plugging and playing these veteran guys, and then when they did take Anthony Richardson, they started him too quick. They kept pulling him out, putting him back in.
Yeah,
That whole situation was a mess.
that's what happens when you draft a guy 5th or 6th or wherever the heck he came out.
Right, which you're not going to have
Something
that
insane.
pressure if you're Aller. So I
Right.
don't necessarily hate that fit if Indy takes him. That's just an odd quarterback room right now because they got to figure out what they're doing with AR. Still, obviously, Daniel Jones is going to be coming back at some point. You've got Riley Leonard in there as well, who didn't love what I saw from him last year, but still on the roster.
Right.
I love Riley Leonard.
So it's a lot going on, a lot to juggle.
Thank you. You did a phenomenal job tonight. You always do. Couldn't do this without you. Thank you very much.
I got you.
Dom, Pittsburgh. I think I don't know, but Pittsburgh moves the needle. There's 2 teams ESPN loves to talk about: the Jets and Pittsburgh. And I'd throw the Cowboys.
And
in
I was
going to
say the Cowboys.
The
Excuse me?
Cowboys ain't picking them. The Cowboys ain't picking them.
Well,
Pittsburgh and the Jets.
Well, why? Well, first of all, the
Drew
Jets
Lar's
is
going
because
to
New
one of them.
York. They talk about Pittsburgh because
the
they're
history.
they're
That's-
since 1970 they're the most successful franchise in the NFL.
they're one of the most successful franchises in sports.
Since 1970, yes.
Yeah, no doubt. I would never disagree
Yeah.
with someone on that.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
that's what they talk about.
I
them.
don't hate them like people. I hate the Ravens because it used to be us. I don't hate Pittsburgh. I never will.
No,
have nothing-
I don't
like
care
the
if you-
Yankees. I
I
have
don't
nothing
care if
but
you do, but
respect for
there's
the
a reason why they
Yankees.
talk about them. a
Yeah.
lot.
Okay. So
Also, they're all always relevant.
let's move past it. So what I'm saying is that the Steelers and the Jets are constantly being talked about, constantly on Sunday Night Football, all those things. I got a weird feeling it might not be tomorrow night, like Brandon was saying, but I got a weird feeling he's going to one of those 2 teams. Do you see it, or is there a 3rd team that I'm not even thinking of that he's headed to?
I do not think that he actually ends up in Pittsburgh. Cole, who is the kid from Arkansas that was at Boise the year prior?
Taylon Green, who I think will be a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Taylon Green. Cole mentioned him, and I was watching a thing about Gruden. Gruden did a quarterback camp with him, and I actually liked him because the Steelers at the end of the day, they always dream of what could have been with Cordell Stewart.
Yeah.
And they want a freak athlete at quarterback. I think that if they want that and if they think that will work in today's NFL, which it can, I don't know if it will be him or not. I think they're interested to see if he could be the guy. Now, I think that the coaching staff believes that Will Howard could be the answer going forward.
Who is it?
Buckeye quarterback Will Howard.
Will Howard?
Will Howard? Howard?
Yeah.
Remember that coach we had, Gower Power? Yes, he used to say, Bill Gower Power. Then we go downtown, watch the hands. Anywho, Green, I think, is a freak athlete. The only thing that I think would be a downside with him, not even talk about like the obvious holes in his game where he has a hard time kind of reading the defense, making plays downfield, tries doing too much with his feet at times, dances around the pocket, which is like kind of the thing that he does that makes him good, but also can be his downside at times, is you're going to get the slash treatment from him where people are constantly going to be telling him that he should be playing a different position, and that can get in his head like it did with Slash. So maybe that could be an issue. Hopefully it wouldn't be, but I think the Steelers go with him. I don't know if he'll be a NFL caliber quarterback at the starting level, but I don't think it will be our boy Drew from Medina.
I'll tell you what, I remember being a kid and watching Slash, as you just called him, and thinking like, man, he'd be good on the Cowboys with Deion Sanders. Like I could see him doing some zany This is coming from the brain of an 8th grader.
Yeah, of course.
Thinking he's going to do some zany, crazy plays. So I remember being amazed by him. Well, Cole, Cleveland Browns, we know Drew's not going there. I'd be stunned if that happened. I think everybody would. But where do you think he is going?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm of the opinion that Taylon Green's probably going to go there. I think that that's the quarterback that the Steelers had their eyes set on the most. However, I could see Drew potentially going to Pittsburgh. Like if for some reason Green wasn't available and Drew was sliding, I could see him going there. The interesting thing about that, though, is Drew would then be your most talented quarterback, raw talent in the room. But Will Howard is more of a winner when it comes to the clutch gene, right? That's the one thing where I've always questioned Drew is when you need the big moment, right? And it's the big game. Is he going to give you the plays that you need to win that game? And I feel like high school, college, he's fallen short. He's been so dominant, puts up these big numbers in high school, right? And then unfortunately at Penn State didn't give him many good receiving weapons. Tyler Warren was at tight end was the best one he had his whole career there. So Penn State they did not have receiving talent overall in his time there. So he wasn't really able to showcase his arm to the same extent and really air it out, which was disappointing, but he's so loyal to Penn State, he wasn't going anywhere. I think other programs would have been much better fit than for him to showcase his talent. I think the thing would be, it'd be interesting because you'd have a little bit of a competition. They'd probably go with Will Howard, but Aller could maybe be in the mix, and I'd fear that he might start at some point too early there because I don't trust Will Howard to be a true full-time starter. I don't think he quite has the talent level for that. Again, he needs more time to develop. I don't really see him going to Arizona because, again, same problem. I think he would have to then get forced in too quickly because I think there's a good chance he could beat out Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew sooner rather than later. But is he ready to be that starter? No. So even though I think the Steelers are potentially one of the top 3 most likely, I don't think he's going there. The 2 I hone in on. My favorite fit for him is the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff has a little bit of time left. I think there's potential there for him to learn from Jared Goff. Teddy Bridgewater's the backup on the roster right now, who is coaching high school football. And because of depth chart issues, they brought him out of high school football coaching back to the NFL. They need a backup bad. They have a really thin quarterback room. I like the fit. I like the size comparison between the two, Jared Goff and Drew Aller. I think that he would have time to learn, time to develop, but he's in a position where he'd only have to maybe wait a few years to be able to start because Jared Goff doesn't have 6 more years in Detroit. They're not going to give him that kind of time. I think he only has a handful. He can learn from him, and then Drew gets an opportunity with a competitive team, now a competitive organization to play. That's my favorite fit for him. Stays kind of close to home, Midwestern type of boy, right? You keep him in the Midwest, but again, he's still out of Northeast Ohio. Now, where do I think he might go? I think the most smoke is the New York Jets, and he's had
Ugh.
private workouts with the Jets. The Jets have, according to media, have raved about his workouts that he's had with them. As much as Brandon's right that there's a really good chance that Drew's a third or fourth round type of guy, Vince, if anybody's going to take him in the top 15 picks of the second round, it's going to be the New York Jets. So if you need to keep your phone close to you, wondering if Drew's going to go, it's going to be about the New York Jets and backing up Geno Smith, because that's the team that's had the most smoke to Drew Aller recently.
If he ends up on the Jets and Maggie's out there giving a 5-star award-winning performance, and I've heard early reviews that she's been crushing it during rehearsals, part of my girl. Oh my God, I can't imagine her being up on stage and me getting that news that he's on the Jets. I'd be sick.
You're gonna ruin your daughter's day.
I'd have to pretend to be happy. So these these are the teams I do not want to see him go to that I think could 4 of the 5 could pick him. Cleveland's not going to touch him. But 5 teams that I do not want to see Drew Eller go to. Indy, Pittsburgh, the Jets. I hate the Jets. Houston, and I'm not saying that to be a jerk because of what we talked about, but Houston, I just don't see him get killed, in behind that
They're
line.
showing up their line, though.
Yeah, I mean, they made a good pick tonight, but that line has always worried me since Derek Carr was drafted from them all those years ago, or David Carr, actually. It was a Derek, man, how
was
crazy
David.
is that?
You
Who was
had
the
a-
first one? Was it David, right?
Yeah.
David. Yep.
Getting old, Dom. Getting
Both
old.
from Fresno.
Getting old. And then obviously Cleveland. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell the Browns take him. But Houston, Jets, Pittsburgh, Indy that would suck. Where I would like to see him go, and where I think is possible, I think 2 of them you're gonna probably shake your head and be like, yeah, I can see that, and 1 of them you're gonna think I'm nuts, which is fine. Let's have some fun. Arizona, Detroit, for all the reasons Cole and you guys gave, and this one I don't think anybody in the room is gonna agree with me, and that's fine. Dallas. I would love to see him as a Cowboy. Sit and learn behind Dak for a couple of years. Eventually, the Cowboys are going to want out of that massive contract. Dak Prescott has signed his last Dallas Cowboys contract. There's no way in hell they're going to continue to pay him the ridiculous amount of money they're paying him now.
They're probably going to be too good to be in on next year's class. I mean,
Right.
I don't hate that.
Right, and
Yeah.
when that contract's done, they're done with Dak. And if they can find a way to trade him even with 2 years left, they're going to do it. He's taking him as far as he's going to get him. It's that simple.
I don't mind Dallas, but they did bring in Sam
that's
Howell
what I
and Joe
wanna see.
Milton, so I don't think they'd take him.
That means nothing to me. So, Drew could outplay both those guys in his sleep.
He can, but they brought in Joe Milton last time because then he is the big arm, big body quarterback. They just brought in, like I said, Sam Howell to back up. I could see Drew fitting there. I like the fit. I just don't think Dallas is taking a quarterback with how they position their room.
Yep. Speaking of quarterbacks, one guy that I can't stop thinking about tonight because it was 2 years ago tonight where I said, I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to pan out, and I was so high on Drake May. And 2 years into this, kind of a left turn from Drew Aller, but I know we got to wrap up the night here. It's getting late. I understand that, so we'll wrap this up with this. But, we'll know 2 or 3 years from now who's a bust, who's not. Like, we get all that, right? But when it kind of bounces back, this was something I was going to ask you guys tomorrow night. Again, I won't be here, but we look at it now, and I'm not looking at last year with Dart and Cam Ward and all that. I'm still looking at 2 years ago, and what we saw this year in the playoffs. That might go down as one of the most epic quarterback classes if Caleb Williams continues to excel. If Jaden Williams comes back, and Jaden Daniels comes back healthy and dominates again like he did his rookie year. What we saw Drake May going all the way to the Super Bowl. My guy in Denver, Bo Nix. It's unbelievable what that class is doing right now. Tonight I don't get that same feeling with any of it, right? And I don't think any of us do. But looking again, did any of us think 2 years ago on this very same night we would see those 4 guys just go banana like they did this past year? Bo Nix, Drake May, Caleb Williams, and obviously Jaden Daniels last year. And I know I'm missing somebody that's probably so obvious that I can't even think of his name.
No. You didn't miss anybody.
So I'm looking at the
Nope.
helmets over there. Oh yeah, Atlanta. But yeah, Michael Penix Jr. But what do you think? I mean,
Forgot about him.
Brandon,
They have Tua Tagovailoa. They're fine.
We'll go Brandon, Dom, and then Cole, and we'll go home. We'll close the night. I mean, what do you think about that class 2 years in? Again, this is something I would have asked you guys tomorrow. Right?
I mean, absolutely incredible class, and we thought the potential was there. I mean, that's why 6 quarterbacks went in the first. Was it 12 picks in that draft, if I remember correctly? I mean, I don't think anybody could have predicted the success that a lot of these guys are having early. I mean, Jaden Daniels getting to an NFC Championship his first year, or Will Howard, Drake May getting to a Super Bowl in his second year. Caleb Williams taking a massive step this season.
You did. You really did.
I will say, like, Michael Penix, jury's still a little bit out on him. It's not looking great. I don't have rose-colored glasses. Bo Nix, again, would have been in an AFC Championship game had he not gotten hurt. J.J. McCarthy is a quarterback. It's overall, yeah.
He's a winner. I hate the kid, but I shouldn't say that.
No, he is.
But he is a winner. I don't hate him. I apologize.
He's really not.
Kenny Pickett's better than him.
His team's
I'll die on that
But
hill.
continue. I didn't mean to cut you off.
He
Go
rode the
ahead.
coattails.
Go ahead. I'm
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah, so like overall, we knew they were going to be good. I don't think we thought they were going to be that good at the end of the day.
Right.
I mean, we get generational quarterback classes all the time, it feels like. But to see that high of a hit rate, especially when like a lot of people were kind of giving up on Caleb Williams after year 1 because he did not quite live up to the expectations.
Nope.
Especially since a lot of people thought he was stepping into a good situation in Chicago, which with Matt
Wow.
Eberflus was not the case.
Yeah.
But it's really cool to see, and yeah, I do ultimately feel like it's going to go down as one of the best classes. I mean, comparable to even like 2004 when we saw like Rivers and Roethlisberger and Manning all go.
Now
And Fry.
you're gonna think I'm crazy because obviously if
We
you
know
were to-
that.
if you after tonight, if you were to look past the camera, you would see a ton of Denver Broncos stuff, like literally right past where we're sitting. I love Bo Nix. I love the Broncos, all that good stuff. I could say this, my heart of hearts. I could say this. I feel like with Bo Nix, we've hit our ceiling, right? I kind of even 2 years in, I kind of feel like okay, I know this is as far as we're gonna get. And I say we,
But
like
that
I play for
ceiling
the
could very
Broncos.
well be the Super Bowl if he does not
Hell
get
yeah, it could. Absolutely, it could.
it could have been last year.
Jacksonville last year was so wide open. The Jacksonville Jaguars could have made the Super Bowl. That's serious.
Yeah.
They easily could. They were
It's
red
true.
hot. Got my
Not
favorite
wrong.
coach. You know what I mean? So like they easily could have made it. But my whole point being here is I believe, and I'm going to go to you, Dom. Once you take us home, we'll go to Dom, all the good stuff. But I believe Jaden Daniels has the highest ceiling. Where I feel like Bo Nix has hit his ceiling. We know we're going to get. I think Jaden Daniels, we got one season all the way up here. We got one season down here. Let's see what we truly have next year. Final thoughts.
No, I don't. Ultimately, I don't disagree. Caleb might have the highest ceiling, but we're parsing hairs at that point. Jaden Daniels, it was a little bit alarming. Obviously, injuries were a big thing last year. That team in general really just kind of took a couple steps back. They punched above their weight class a lot because of Jaden Daniels' his rookie year. But that roster's aging. They've definitely got some issues there. So I don't want to say the jury's out on him still because like I've seen enough to where I'm investing in him and letting him go. But again, we got to see what the true potential is. I think Caleb is on a quicker trajectory right now. But again, we are parsing hairs. And again, Drake May was just in the freaking Super Bowl.
Right.
So
Final thoughts on tonight's show.
again, wild draft.
Yeah.
A lot of fun as always. Like we didn't know what to expect coming into this. We didn't expect a lot of chalk, and boy, we didn't get any.
No.
I mean, starting with Carnell Tate, kind of right off the rip. Jeremiah Love, even. I know he was talked a little bit about going to the Cardinals, and Colt even mocked him there. But things kind of got off to a little bit of a crazy start, and it never ended. It felt like I was updating trades every 30 seconds there towards the end.
I heard the Ty Simpson explosion while I was upstairs.
Yeah, again,
Yeah.
Ty Simpson going to the Rams. So in a year where we don't have a lot of exciting quarterbacks to talk about, it was still a very exciting first round. Again, the Browns let us down a little bit, I feel like, but still plenty of drama, and I think it's setting up really nicely for day two, especially that second round. There's a lot of good players still left. I mean, we kind of get this all the time, but Browns are still going to be able to get an impact guy early tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to getting right back into this in roughly 19 and a half hours.
All right, cool. And don't tell the director, but I will be checking my phone profusely. Dom, yeah, man. So who is going to be the best quarterback from that vaunted 2024 class? And then your final thoughts on something.
Who's going to be the best?
Yeah, between the ones listed, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Penix Jr., J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels.
I think Jaden Daniels ended up being the best one. I like his skill set a lot. I think last year was just him being hurt, team being hurt. But I'm confident he'll get back. Mendoza lost this game against Pitt, by the way, that they're showing on the screen, just so everyone knows. That's why he didn't want to go to the draft today. But I think Daniels will be the best out of that class, despite Drake May really having a good year this year, other than the Super Bowl. But yeah, it was a fun day overall. Not a lot of chalk, some shocks all throughout. All of our teams kind of did some surprising stuff. Falcons did nothing. Sorry, you kind of had to sit and not wait.
Sometimes
for anything.
that's a good
Not a
thing.
bad
Broncos
thing,
didn't do anything. I get it.
Yeah, but you guys were also in the AFC Championship game. Anywho, it was fun. We'll do it again tomorrow. Look forward to that, as we'll be on the couch of Brandon Soderbetter.
Guys, a phenomenal night. Cole McDaniel, we'll go to you quickly here. Kind of give us your final thoughts on the night and also who you believe will be the best quarterback to come out of that class 2 years in.
Well, I think the ones who are going to win the most games in their career, it's going to be between Drake May and Bo Nix. And I would say that Bo Nix isn't as good of a quarterback, so at some point could he lose his job sometime down the road? Potentially. I think Drake May is probably going to be the starter for quite a long time. So he's going to win the most. However, who's going to be the best, maybe put up some of the best stats and really impress people? I think Jaden Daniels has flashy moments, but I think it's going to be Caleb Williams. I feel that he's going to stay healthier. I think he's going to perform in Chicago. He'll be the starter there for a long time. So that's kind of how I feel on that. Now, Michael Penix Jr., who I was super high on, I'm not necessarily fully out on him yet. Now he gets to sit behind Tua, and Tua has had his injury issues. So I think hopefully for Tua's sake and the Falcons that he helps them get a little bit over the hump and they can have improved performances, and really Bijan can help carry them. But Penix may be joined in the room by another lefty at some point. Who knows? We'll see Cole Payton maybe get drafted, and then there'll be an all-lefty quarterback room.
But then where are they going to put Dylan Gabriel?
I don't know. We'll see if the Browns end up trading him down to Atlanta, because Kevin Stefanski likes him. So
who did Kirk Cousins end up with?
Vegas.
Raiders.
Thank you.
Mendoza, yeah.
Got you a total blank. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, but in all seriousness, though, the Browns, I think, as we can wrap this up, again, they disappointed me tonight. However, they have potential tomorrow to make a good move. They're sitting within striking distance still of getting a Denzel Boston or a big receiver like that. I'd be open to an Elijah Surratt if Boston goes as well. I think you need a big receiver who has good, reliable hands that you don't have right now. So that's where I'd want to see them go with. Hopefully they can they're within striking distance enough to make some sort of good move, but they're only a few picks away realistically once the night opens up tomorrow night. So it would be great if they maybe get 2 wide receivers, make up for it, and find a complementary piece to Concepcion, which would help him out. So that would be my goal for the Browns as we wrap this up. Been a good night. I've enjoyed it. As disappointed as I am in the Cleveland Browns to this point, it's been a fun draft. As always, enjoy it. Vince, hate that we're not going to have you tomorrow, but Marvel and SP and Dom, we're going to have a really good time. So looking forward tonight too.
Thank you, and I'll miss you guys as well. Going to close the night the exact same way I opened it, by mentioning our first ever night doing a draft show together, 2020, and I'm doing it to prove a point. So first of all, you never know how any of these kids are going to turn out. We have no idea, right? That's why we sit back and watch. That's what makes being a fan so great. But that first time we ever had a draft show together, 2020, listen to some of these names from that first night. Joe Burrow, Chase Young, Tua, Justin Herbert, Derek Brown, Tristan Wirfs, Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Patrick McQueen. That's just the first round. Second round, T. Higgins, DeAndre Swift, Xavier McKinney, Robin Hunt, Jonathan Taylor. And then there's this next name I'm going to mention, and I'm going to mention it for a reason. So tonight, the Browns took an offensive lineman. The very next pick was an offensive lineman. Okay? We wanted it, and I think Cole already knows where I'm going with this. We look at, man, did we make the right pick when the very next pick is somebody of that same position? This was a hill on that night that Cole and I would have died on. And Brandon, please forgive me, but I forget which way you and Mike Rogers went. I can't remember if you agreed with us or disagreed with us, but I remember this being a hot button topic that evening. With the 44th pick, the Browns select Grant Delpit. I was pissed. Cole was pissed. With the 45th pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select safety Antoine Winfield Jr. Can you imagine him on the Browns right now? I mean, that's why we look at stuff.
And the thing is, and Delpit's not even that bad of a pick. He's still here, but yes. And I thought Delpit was one-dimensional.
You were with us, weren't you?
Yes,
yeah,
100%.
Thought so.
I thought it was one-dimensional. I didn't think it was the worst pick in the world, but I 100% would have been with you guys.
Well, I remember we did it night one, and then night one, you guys were both like, "Hey, we're gonna do night two, right?" I was completely unprepared. I didn't even know. I wasn't thinking about anything. But again, it was COVID. I'm like, well, what the hell else are we gonna do? Yeah, let's do night two. And we all did it remote. And yeah, but I remember that argument, and which really wasn't an argument because obviously we all agreed. But I mean, Cole, you remember that moment?
Of course, I've always thought back to that one. Like Antoine Winfield Jr. was, I think my number one prospect available at that time. At that pick, it's like, man, this is a slam dunk. We need a safety. We went Grant Delpit, and I'm like, okay, good player, but this is a terrible pick, and it's a absolute gut punch when the very next pick, they take him. Right,
I mean,
it's the same type of situation as like when the Browns trade back, and in that same pick that they trade back from, Deshaun Watson gets picked, right? And obviously we have him now, and if things didn't happen like they happened, but if we had rookie Deshaun Watson, right, and Deshaun Watson early before everything went down, and like when his head actually seemed to be in football and he was performing well, again, that's a difference maker. So just things like that, if it's the same pick that you trade out of, and you wanted somebody and they could have really helped your franchise, or it's the pick after, it really is a gut punch. So Delpit's still a good player. But imagine if we had Antoine Winfield Jr. on the current defense right now. He flies around the field. He's a hard hitter. Delpit's a good player, but I think he's more injury prone. He's a little bit leaner of a build. I think Antoine Winfield Jr. is just this sturdy rock on the back half of the defense.
I mean, I look at who went in front of the Browns, and I'm not mad because they were already off the board. So, Herbert and Chase Young and Joe Burrow and Tua, that is what it is. But when we turn around and take Jedrick Wills, who ended up being a major bust after a couple of seasons, and you look, the very next pick was Becton to the Jets. Okay, that's not a big loss. But 2 picks later, Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Tristan Wirfs. So the Browns did it to him twice in that same draft. And now what's wild is that CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson would have loved either one of those guys. Didn't take them. But I'm going to leave you guys on this note, and this probably one of my all-time favorite draft moments. We talked about a lot of draft moments to start the show, and I'm going to close you on still to this day. And I'm going to have to text them in the morning. My all-time favorite draft moment is this. In the first round with the 26th overall pick. You're already smiling.
Yep.
The Green Bay Packers select Jordan Love as our dear friend Mike Rogers went absolutely banana. What a night. Guys,
Aaron Rodgers wanted a skill position player. They went and got him one.
Rodgers went berserk. It was a good night. Guys,
why would Rodgers care? He's a Steelers
Packers
quarterback.
he's a massive Packers fan. How you're
No.
Jordan Love?
No.
Mike Rogers.
Okay.
I get the joke. Haha.
Okay.
Guys.
I forgot his name was also Rodgers.
Now,
You guys got the jokes. All right, guys, it was a fun night. I can't keep doing the voice. My throat's starting to hurt. They will see you tomorrow. I will catch you at the school play. Keon Sports.